sure? Yes, it is. We know that. Okay, so I've got my sepia in the gun, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this area in here. I'd really like to, before I get into any more of this stencil work and start darkening this down, I want to put my money where my mouth is and do the brush work before I start darkening that down. So any brush work that needs to exist in here needs to go at the beginning, okay, like while I've got a little bit of paint on it. In fact, I'll even use the overspray, like in here, to help me. So the overspray right here can kind of help me get started if I want. Now, there's some stuff going on in here, okay, you probably have noticed it, and I want to put that in here, okay. Now, most people would tend to cover that up and spray that, okay. I'm going to lighten it up just a little bit, guys, because it looks a little bit, I'm going to overexpose, there you go. All right, most people try to cover this part up, okay, and paint that in. But if you look closely, this was bounded on one color. This is all one color in here, and he just went and put a black mark in here. We've kind of got a black mark, a dark mark, and it's not black enough. But when we spray this, we don't want to isolate this. We don't need to isolate this part right here and that separate. A lot of artists have that mentality, especially with stencils and stuff. They cover up one part, work on next to it, cover that part, work next to it, and that's dangerous to do, especially if you're doing anything like portraiture. I see a lot of people do that with the chin and the neck, okay? When they're working on a portrait, they cover up the face and they paint in the neck, then they cover up the neck and they paint in the face, and then they wonder why the head looks cut out looking, okay? So you want some homogeneous quality to it, and that means that you're going to spray in there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to spray a little bit in there and just begin this process. So there's the snake right now. If you want to know where the snake is, you probably happen to have it nearby, a mask that will accommodate. And I've actually taken it out. Let me go ahead and establish it here. If you're not sure where the snake is, you've got this piece right here, and this it kind of fell out, I think, really. It fell off, or I cut it off, I can't remember which. So I'm going to slide that right up against that. You can kind of see where it goes. I got some good registration from previous efforts. And I'm just going to kind of define that body of that snake right there. I don't want to go heavy with it, but just kind of start putting some color in it a little bit. Notice I stay light intentionally, okay? And then I'm going to put a little background. Now, remember, a lot of the temptation was to take this and cover this up. And philosophically, you don't want to do that. You don't want to try to spray this section next to the snake by covering that part up first and then spraying the section next to this. So you want to spray this whole area. And it's not a dark color, it's light. So let's always keep your reference close, okay? And just lightly spray some in here like this. And spray it in there like that, okay? You know, check your work, check it twice, make sure your reference is oriented right. And I'm just going to place a little bit in here like this, just kind of come across it like this, okay? And I'm just going to gently add some. Now, if you look at the reference, these rocks and stuff kind of climb up in here. And here's what I'm going to do. Look at this without these highlights in it. What would it be doing? It would be fading up and kind of feathering off right here with a lot of brush strokes, okay? So I want to try to approach that way. So I'm going to push up now. Don't go as dark as the reference. I keep saying that. I know I sound like a broken record, okay? The reason you don't want to go as dark as the reference is because I want to put some brush strokes in here, but I don't want them to be so contrasty, okay? Remember, the more paint you put down now, the more contrast is going to result. And if you don't want a lot of contrast, don't put a lot of paint down. I'm going to go ahead and get the snake going. Let's push him a little darker while I'm at it. All right, like that. Really dark. I got so much, I think I've got black in my airbrush here. And this is over here, needs to be attended to. So I'm really just trying to get rid of some paint. There's some areas over here that kind of looks like it just ends, you know. Let me see if I can help that, soften that edge. If you ever want to soften an edge like this, just spray right on top of the shape, and the overspray will soften the edge. You can see how it's edges get a little bit blurrier, and that's what I'm looking for. Okay, and let's push this out in here. Yeah. Okay, and I think I need a little more saturation in here. Why is that? Well, because I see some in the rabbit. This is a strong color. That means you don't really want any black in there. If you have black in there, it's going to sabotage you. So I had a little bit of black in there left over, so I'm going to spray the black out, and I'm going to rinse my gun out. Why is that? First time I'm rinsing it, right? Usually I like the black to contaminate because it's not a pure sepia. It's a kind of a modified sepia. But in this case, I want it to be stronger. Now, I'm hoping sepia is going to be strong enough to carry the day in there. Okay, I hope. We'll see in a moment. Right, so I've got sepia in my airbrush. I've just rinsed my gun with water. And let me talk a little bit about that too. The manufacturer recommends distilled water if you're going to mix it with your airbrush. But when you're washing your airbrush out, it probably matters less. I don't really use much distilled water for that, but the manufacturer says there's chemicals in the water sometimes that will cause the paint to clog. So if you have some clogging parts, if you reduce it with water, if you have episodes of clogging, then you may want to consider switching to distilled water just to see what happens. Okay, so let's verify this color, see what we got. All right, so it's a lot stronger than the other by itself than with the black mixed in. So I'm going to use this just to populate this with a little bit of color here at the bottom. I don't go too dark, but I do want to just push it forward a little bit. Kind of let it feather up. Now, I'm not as dark. I don't want to go as dark as Rebs, but I'm getting pretty close right there. See it? So I need to stop going there. But let's look at what it does up here. Let's take the other piece out. And where does it go? Up here at the top, I'm kind of getting off frame there. It looks like it just feathers it on the way up. It just kind of feathers on up. So I'm just going to let it drift up a little more than what I have. Okay, just drift it up a little more. And there's some brush strokes in here, guys, and I'm gonna let it fade out right there. The brush strokes fade out too. If you look, by the time it gets to the quiver of arrows up here, let's get them come down here. The brush strokes, you see them in here, they're gone by the time they get to the quiver. Okay, so I'm gonna push up. The quiver's way up there, though, isn't it? Look how far up it is. Okay, so that means I've got some license to push up a little bit further, like that. And it's very subtle in here. That's why I'm not putting much paint on. Okay, so let's go ahead and give the brush a workout, huh? All right, so where's that brush? There it is. And you know what? Sometimes I'll use, if I really want some rough looking types of results, I will actually use a beat up brush. You know, one of those brushes that maybe from the back of an eraser. You know, we got these erasers with brushes on them. They're kind of like broom. You know, they're like this. They're really rough, and that allows you, if you want something super rough, you can go in there. Sometimes you can take this and you can almost damage it, like not quite, but you can sometimes damage it or scuff it up with the back of one of these. It's a little bit too resilient for that, but sometimes you can actually dip one of these tips of this brush in water. Let's do that. Just to show you what happens. This is just a eraser brush, and I can get in there, and you can see I can do some damage like that too if I want to stress that out. Notice how when you do this, that the paint gathers around the mark. It becomes black around the mark. Okay, it gathers up. So be mindful of that. Okay, let's say you didn't want it to get blacker. What you want to do with that is you want to take a paper towel, something close by, and pick up the paint as you stress it. Okay, lift it up. Okay, then lift the paint off with a Q-tip, or my finger doesn't work. Finger's just going to smear it and smudge it. But a Q-tip or a paper towel will lift it as it's wet, and that will keep it from getting darker. So right now, what's going on is the paint is building up and gathering darkness in here. It sounds like a movie, right? So let's go ahead and push forward. I've got my brush in here. Let me dry that thing off. Okay. And let me just kind of nudge this a little bit. Let's start at the bottom. Let's bring this over here like that. I hope you guys can see that. I've got it slightly overexposed just for your benefit. So you can see the shadows there. Okay, so in here I just see a lot of, it's pretty subtle in here. That's why I'm not really too concerned about going darker, okay? Now it's a little bit, my brush is a little bit on the dry side for this, but that's okay. I'm just going to push up in here like this, kind of add this to it. Now, all I want now is just create some brush strokes. I don't care about the structure, okay? Although it's starting to form a structure, that's an unintentional kind of thing where it automatically gives you a structure if you don't want to. Now, as I said, you got this black here. Wet your brush a little more, okay? Remember, it dissolves it somewhat. And let's see if we can get this to Dave. Now, if I don't want black going in here, I'll push downward like this, okay? But now I've got a little more water in my brush. You'll see that it doesn't let the black concentrate as much. You see how it's concentrated down here? It kind of reduces. That's a little bit too much water on it, but you can see, I just did that for illustration purposes so you can see. But see, I've got a lot of, about the right amount of water, and I'm pushing up into here like this. I'm just kind of pushing up into there. I don't want to go all the way. Let's say I don't want to go all the way to the quivers of the arrow. So let's just kind of wipe that off. So I'm pushing it back now. Let's just kind of push back. Okay, so now I've got this faded out. They're kind of faded out. I don't know if it's strong enough. You know, might be a couple of other light lines. I kind of see one in here. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to go in and I want to start carving out some things. So this is a little bit too black. I want to even it out. Let's go ahead and get a little bit more. There's some lines in here like that. But I see some horizontal stuff, and I'm going vertical. I need to make it horizontal. And so the first thing I see is probably right about here. I see a line that goes up like this. And I'm just going to carve it out. Just dip it back down. I'm using this flat brush, and I love the flat brush. Why is that? Because it allows you to make fine lines too. You know, it's a really probably one of the most versatile brushes. I mean, I feel like I'm a little bit off proportion wise there. Okay, that gets me started. Is carving that out, and I need to soften that, but I will. Let's get that going, and then a couple of other like marks in here, like that. And you see my contrast is pretty high now, but I'm going to lower that contrast when I start working. I'm not going to try to do the pebbles and stuff yet. Okay, so now I'm going to try to take some water, and I'm going to try to use the water to smooth some things out. Okay, I'm just going to cap this with a little bit of water and get rid of some of these other shapes in here. The water's going to even it. See what it does? It gets rid of that texture. I got a little too much texture in there because there's not a lot of texture in this bottom part. Okay, so this kind of think of the water or anything you put on there is more like what's the word I want to use? Like it melts it. It melts the paint together because it dissolves it. So if you got some hardness down here, where you got too much texture, this will actually help. Okay, so I feel like I've got a little too much texture in some of these other places. So I'm going to use this to kind of melt it down a little bit. I kind of see a rock going over here. So here's what I'm going to use that edge here to kind of create a rock. So basically, I'm going to push the paint up, shove the paint up here like this, and kind of come around like that. Okay, and kind of create this. And that's a little bit too dark, isn't it? So let's try to pick some up. Let's pick a little bit of it up with the paper towel there. Okay, and this dry. I'm going to dry it off, the brush off. And now I'm just going to kind of gently push that. I'm not worried about like hollowing this rock out. Okay, I'm just really wanting to push up to an edge. Just trying to create a little edge up there, and I'm trying to keep it round. So this is kind of a shape like that. Okay, and then of course the top looks hideous. So let's see if I can pull that down too. Let's kind of get a little bit going there. Now another technique would be to wipe your brush after every stroke. That's another thing. If you don't want this paint to build up, you don't want this line right here, you just wipe your brush after every stroke, and that will keep it clean. And you won't be, it'll get lighter instead of pushing darkness or paint into a corner. Okay, so let's get in like that. So I'm just kind of gathering the paint like that. Okay, and of course you could just render this out with the airbrush. It probably might be easier than that. But I'm just showing you, it feels like it's getting out of control, and you got a lot of stuff going on. Say perhaps with the with too many brush strokes. This is a kind of a remedy for it. Now, I never worry about going too light or anything like that when I'm erasing this out or scratching this out or using a brush on it. Why is that? Well, mainly because the airbrush can darken it back down. So whatever I have on here, no matter if I go too light or not, the airbrush is going to darken it. So what I'm trying to do is deal with contrast in here. I'm trying to get the contrast within these shapes to be similar reference. And I don't see a lot of contrast here in that rock. Okay, basically, let's get on the screen there. Basically, really, that rock is pretty plain. Okay. But there's texture left of it, so that's where you see me going in and manipulating that a little bit more. Okay, and I'm light. By staying light, it affords me the opportunity to keep everything more subtle, without getting the shapes too dark. Okay, so that's trying to run in that way. Okay, I'm going to throw a couple of strokes over here. See, very lightly. I'm not just barely touching it. I'm just dragging kind of paint across it, and I'm looking to see what's going on here. Now I've got a break right here in the photograph, so sometimes it's tricky to see that. So I'm looking, I'm just kind of observing. I've got a shape right here, kind of a triangle shape. Let's see if I can pull a paint out and turn that into a triangle. Twist that around like that. Here we go. So you see, I'm just trying to, and that corresponds to that little shape right there. Mine's a little big, and I might want to widen some of this up here. So the other thing that Frazetta did is he varied his line shape. Okay, right. This is kind of a little consistent with what I've done. But in reality, he did things like, if you push this down, we'll widen this white mark up a little bit, because the line should not be consistent. In other words, when you draw a line, it shouldn't be the same thickness. It's got to vary. You want to have it be thicker in some places and thinner in others. Okay, so you got to consciously push those lines around and shove them around. Let's move that out of the way, and now we're going to transition to this part. Okay, and I kind of avoided this area yesterday because it was a little bit intimidating to some people. It's really not that hard, but it kind of looks like it might be difficult, but it's really not too hard. It's a little bit scary because it doesn't really, it's not real clear, and it's got all these different colors in it. So holding that up, you can kind of line it up with the reference and see, where you want to go with it. Okay, I see some, I definitely want to put some noise in here. Okay, and you see I've just got a damp brush, and I'm just basically going here and putting a little bit of noise in there because it's very still. This is about a blue, kind of a slate blue color in there. So what I have right now on my brush and then my airbrush is definitely not going to fit this. So I don't want to even think about using that. But I am going to add some brush strokes to it, and that's where I'm going now with it, just adding some brush strokes to the whole situation. I see a line. Let's just kind of draw some lines up there. I know I'm getting off camera there, out of frame. I'll draw another one right here because I see it. And there's very subtle. My brush is wet with a little bit of contamination on it. That's how I'm drawing something that people have trouble with this. Why is that? Well, because they see a line, they see this line right here, they see that line, and they want to put it in there. But the problem is, and this is universal, not just with airbrush artists, they put it in there too dark. They exaggerate, or the technical term would be they amplify it. They see a molehill and they turn it to a mountain. So if it's subtle in your reference photo, you want to make it subtle in your painting. You see, that's very subtle right now. Maybe too subtle. I'd rather it be too subtle than too pronounced, okay? So let it be subtle here. There's nothing wrong with that if you let it be too subtle. I'm going to see if I can also maybe, there's an edge right there I'm missing. When I hold that up, the edge is wrong, okay? Also, that should be an L-shaped corner, and it's not. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, let's come on down with it. So maybe now's a good time to push this edge back a little bit. So I'm gonna see if I can scrub it back. So I'm gonna wet my brush, and I'm put a good bit of water on it. Let me see if I can get that to move back. Now that's not critical that it has to move back, okay? But let's say that it was critical and I needed to get rid of it. I can try to get rid of it like that, but that doesn't work. I have to resort to something more aggressive, which would probably be something like some ammonia. Like in here, I want a corner there, and I've got a round shape, and that's the fault of the stencil. Okay, I can see if I can use this tool to maybe push this back. Yeah, that's a little bit harsh, isn't it? You see that? A little bit harsh, but maybe I can use something else like some ammonia. Okay, ammonia will cut through it because it just dissolves it. So ammonia on a Q-tip is really a great solution. So the problem is it's going to remove all the paint in there. It's going to be pretty white. Sometimes you got to give it a moment for it to react. Leave it on there for a second because the paint's pretty thick. I want a corner right there. I don't want to round it off. Now Frazetta, he would have, when he did a shape, he would have straight and both straight and round. So when he did something like a figure, you'll see he's got some roundness to it, and he mixed that with straight edges, straight corners and edges. So he's got straight lines and curved lines. But in rocks, it's not too many curved lines. It's mostly straight lines in it, so you don't see too much of that. So that's why I'm trying to turn this to something more angular. Use a lot of angularity, brush strokes, and different changing angles. Straight line. It's really a compilation of almost straight lines here. Right, so I'm going to use the back of this to make that into a corner there. Let's just kind of I'm going to distort that a little bit. Okay. So that kind of helped me. Now the corner is kind of sterile, but thankfully I don't have a lot of dark paint around it, so it's not. I don't think it's going to be an issue. Okay. The other thing I want to do is try to get rid of this here. There we go, like that. And let's kind of. I want to break that to a more of a corner. See this angle straight down, then straight over, and then straight this way. So he definitely angled things. It looks more rock-like when he did all his rocks. Okay. So once that's done, we can go back over here. Now we can take our sepia and we can start pushing things back into the background a little bit more. So let's go back into here and kind of look at it and see kind of where we're at with it. See the reference right below it. Okay. And let's go ahead and take a look. Let me move that camera so you can see things better. Okay. All right. So I'm going to just take this. I'm just going to push this in the background here like that. Now all my contrast is going to drop when I do that. See the contrast is going down. You see it's much warmer here than when I had before. And I'm just going to let some of this go up here. I see some of this actually traveling up into this part. So I'll put my finger across it and move that up into there like that. Now, if you're worried about keeping it, your edges pristine and all that, you can just kind of get in there and put a piece of paper right there to keep that contained, like this. Okay. Probably should have done that. That's all the same color. This is all separation up in here. Okay. Now, if this edge gets too soft, you see I've got a kind of a overspray in there. It needs to be clean. Look at the reference. It needs to be pretty clean here. You can see it right in here. Everything out here is pretty clean. If that happens, let's see, inadvertently get that. Don't be afraid to pick up your brush, make it damp, and just go back in here and pull some of that off again. So you can pull some of that off like this. And just push it away from it out into there. Or you can pull it up against it. That's another way. You can pull it up against it like that. That'll actually help us darken this boundary here. So I'm pulling the paint off of this background and pulling onto the I don't know what this is, cape or whatever this apparatus, the clothing of some kind. Okay, it's still stubborn down there, so I'm gonna scrub that out. I want that to be a hole. Here we go. I want separation between this. Okay, now he came back and emphasized the saturation with a black line. Okay, you'll see that. See the reference photo. Right, so I'm gonna push a little bit further, guys, just a little bit further. I'm nudging this forward. I don't shove my paint forward. I nudge it forward. Okay, which is different. When a lot of people don't realize that I make small steps as I move forward. Okay, I don't try to make these giant leaps. Let's push this darker in here. That's going to be really a lot darker in there. Okay, and this is dark in here too. So I'm enjoying a little bit more darkness in here. Let's push in there like that. This darkness kind of creeps over here, and this is really going to be black up in here. I didn't go dark enough. That's fine, but this is really, really dark up in here. Let's take a look at it and see. Line it back up and see how it goes. Yeah, it's really dark, but it's blue also, so that's why I'm being careful. I don't want to go in there. I think there's an edge right here. Okay, there's an edge right here that kind of comes down like this. So I'm kind of sketch it out. See that little edge I made, and then that'll get all filled in, probably with black. But I'll go ahead and I've got this in the airbrush, so I might as well use it. And I'll take the black and I'll subsidize that, and then get ready to stop and let you guys do this in just a moment. Okay, I'll show you one more trick before we go though. Okay, so let's get rid of this. And there we go, get the black in there. This is really, really dark. Okay, so let's get in there and darken that up. And I don't know what's going on here, but there's a little bit, I'm going to say a little black on this. It is going to be bluish, but it's not this pure blue. If I So I'm going to overspray this with a little bit of black, just kind of get a little bit of coloration on it, just to keep it from being, well, white. No, I don't want it to be white. So I'm using this black kind of as it's going to be a kind of, it'll relatively cool it off. Just keep it, it'll make it seem cooler. Okay, even though it's not, it's more of a neutral gray, but around, when surrounded by all this warmth, it's definitely gonna look cooler. Okay, so now I'm looking at some things. It is so easy to get lost in here. You know, there's so much going on. So you have to really be on top of your game and look at that referencing. And like I said, sometimes I'll put my finger on the reference while I'm painting just to keep up with where I'm at. Okay, because it's easy to get lost. So what about all these snake and stuff? We kind of lost that snake. It kind of got buried in all the background. You know, how are we going to deal with that? Well, I'm going to show you. Okay. Now, don't go too dark in here. This is actually, you see there's stuff going on in here. If I keep on pushing this color, I'll lose that. I'll lose that opportunity to go green in some of these places. So there's some spots and stuff up here that you definitely want to leave them light for now. Okay. And I'm really on the verge right there of going too dark. I'll stop right there and go dark there. But let's take a look at the snake and see what we can do about improving this guy. Okay, so this is very dark, as I said, and I'm gonna go in here and let's make him really dark by using the stencil because it's a pretty strong edge right there. I do feel my stencil's got a bump in it. I don't know if you can see it's a little bit wobbly there. I don't like that because I think the snake is more round when I look at it. So that's just a bad cut on my part, but I can still probably use it. I might just have to smooth out that circle in a moment. Let's get in there and black him out because it's just pretty black there. It's a high contrast area, really dark on that snake. And we want to make sure we reflect that in our painting. Okay, let's push in here like this, like this, like this. Okay, all right, and just darken, darken, darken. Now, of course, we lose all our any kind of pattern on them, right? We don't have any pattern now. It's all gone. So what can we do about that? All right, well, there's a lot of things we can do about that. We can reimpose a pattern. I'll show you how to do that. And also, before I talk about that, I want to see that this really brings this to light as far as the contrast. Notice that where I thought I was getting dark enough earlier in here, I'm still too light. See, I'm still too light, and that's fine though. I'd rather be too light than too dark, okay? So I don't have sepia in the airbrush now. I'm not going to go back to it, but I will plan on visiting that, or maybe burnt umber. See, I don't know if this is the right color or not. So I stayed light because if I adjust this color with some other color, what is it going to do? It's going to go darker. So I need to leave room to adjust it. That's why I don't go all the way as far as the value. I don't go all the way to the finish line. Okay. And what about the pattern of the snake I talked about? Okay. If I want this pattern back, let's make sure everything's dry. I can go in here and I can kind of mark things again. So there's the snake. Just put him back where he lives there, right there. And a couple things I can do. I can go ahead and remove this paint in here, or I can cover it up. In other words, I can spray over this to bring this pattern back, or I can take something like an eraser and I can erase in here like this. I can just go in here and erase, and I can mark that. Of course, that looks kind of bad. It looks kind of, well, let me show you how bad it looks. Okay, it looks kind of like rough. So I may be better served spraying that in. Why? Well, look at the reference. It's not a super hard cutout edge like the eraser made. It's a little bit soft, okay, which leads me to believe that I might be better off taking spraying this on here, letting the stencil lift up a little bit to soften that edge, rather than going in here and taking a hard edge with the eraser, or even more hard edge if I use the ammonia. So I could take the ammonia on a Q-tip and I could carve this. I could actually just take a Q-tip and go in here and just run over all these and lift that paint off. But the problem with that, it leaves a black border around there, and this would be outlined with black, which would make them look even harder edge, and I don't want that. The other thing that I've done, and I've done this in the past, that will give you a little bit softer edge, is just simply spray ammonia in here like that, and then try to lift it off. It's a little bit unpredictable because sometimes the ammonia wants to wick up under there, but that is a solution that is a little bit risky. It is better than the eraser technique, but it's not as good as the spraying, just spraying some light color over it. And spraying light color over that really is probably our best bet toward a solution here. Just when I spray light, I mean a light color. I don't mean just pure white, but I mean a light color that gives you this kind of results we're looking for. Because this is not white, okay? Despite what people think, this is not white. This might be a little bit like white, but I don't know if it's white. How do we know if it's white or not, guys? Simple, put something white next to it. See if this is white. And is it as white as the paper? No, the paper is light on that. So it's got a little bit of a tint to it. Actually, it's a green tint to it. I thought it would be like a blue tint, but it's kind of a greenish, like a mint colored tint to it. So this is something that you might be able to erase out and scratch because it's pretty brutal here, pretty hard edged here. After you put this in here, you might be able to scratch that highlight back out. But I'm just kind of illustrating to you kind of the procedure of the steps I might consider when I'm going in there. See, this looks really bad. Now, what do I do about that? Oh, well, I'll tell you what I do about that. I get rid of it. I just spray it over. See, when I spray over it, it's going to darken, but it kind of leaves a dark spot. But if your area's got to be really, really dark anyway, it's not a problem, okay? So I can get away with that. Now, what else did I see in here? Oh, I saw a couple of things. While you got it in the gun, take advantage of it. Let's get rid of some things that are too light, things like that. Okay. All right. So I've talked a lot, and I apologize for that. So this next step we're going into, guys, is to this section in here. So I'm going to back the camera up just slightly and let you guys work this. Now, the camera's a little bit underexposed, and the reason is I want to capture everything. I can either choose the darks or the lights. I'm going to try to balance it out, but of course, everybody's monitor is different. So you can kind of see, maybe that will help you. Your best bet is to look at the reference and to stay lighter than the reference, all right? As long as you stay lighter than the reference, you're never going to be sad. You'll always be sad if you're too dark. You'll never be sad if you're too light, okay? All right, so you guys ready to try this? Let me pause the recording. And okay, so I've got the stencil. Let's pull this up here and kind of set that in there. This is really, really dark in there, okay? It's not quite black. It's kind of a dark, dark brown. You can look at the reference. Black could do it, but it's a warm black, okay? So I'm just laying this here. I'm going to go ahead and commit some paint to it. Now, it's going to try to move around. If you got the buckyballs like Marcus suggested, that would be a magnets would be good. But I don't have those. I don't have metal behind it. So I'm just going to get some tape on it, line it back up. And when you line things up, be careful. Just kind of take your time. You've got this on here, and when it's in alignment because the white will disappear. The white boundary will disappear. I'm just going to lay some tape maybe right in here. Okay. Now, what happens when your paint is lifted off by the tape? That's called picking. In some situations, it'd be really bad, but in this situation, it would be okay because it would just add texture to it. So I'm not really worried if it picks the paint. But if I am concerned about, what I usually do is I put the tape down in areas that are not vulnerable. For instance, this is not considered a vulnerable area right here. Why not? Well, mainly because if I get paint picking off of this part right here that's very dark, I can put black on it and cover it up. But something like the face, or the cheek of the face, something like that, if it picked off the face, it might not look so good. But in here, if you look carefully, there's all kind of specks and rocks and dirt anyway, so I could use that. Okay, and yeah, so let me address that comment. That's a great question that Joanna's talking about. That balance between water that you have in the brush, it is very delicate. So too much water, it just floods and melds together. Too little water, and your contrast gets really high, and you drag paint, create dark edges. So you don't really find that sweet spot, and that comes with experience, okay? And I still mess up. You see me not have enough water on mine or too much. That's normal. I would start out, just practicing. Get on the back of the paper, practice. Try different levels of water, and you get to a system where you dip your brush, you maybe wipe it twice on a paper towel, and that's the right amount, okay? You get to sit, or maybe wipe it 3 times, and so forth. So eventually you come up with a system that gives you consistent results every time. Okay, that's what we're hoping for. Okay, so let's go ahead and commit some paint to this area. We got the reference off to the side there. That helps us see things. Hold that down, pin that down, and I'm just going to lay this in here. And that's black in there, okay? That's fine. It can be really dark. I don't want to go 100% because it's kind of I said it was brown, but I kind of see a red violet or something in there. So I don't want to go 100% coverage with this. I want to go probably about, I don't know, until I run out, which I just did. So now I'm going to switch over to, guess what? You guessed it, sepia, okay? But I do see some red violet in there. I may be inclined to put a little red violet in there. So let's pick up the sepia. And again, we're not washing my airbrush out between passes here. Now, there's some dark up in here. Let's bring that in there too. I've got a little bit of black left in the gun. That's pretty dark, so I'm going to go ahead and commit some. I see some brown in there, so I don't want to go 100%. So if ever it's not 100% black, don't spray 100%, okay? I mean, that sounds kind of easy, but when you're spraying, it's easy to forget that, okay? So I'm going to get some darkness in there. There's a crack in there. Let's get that crack in there and just go back over here. Now, some of the things are built into the stencil, and a lot of things aren't. As you can see, some areas were just not covered by the stencil. That's okay. We can make them. But the stencil is just trying to make your life easier as far as placement and understanding where things live, that kind of thing. All right, so I'm just going to go right up here. I'm trying to stay in the frame of the camera here, if I can do that. Okay, and just kind of push up into here. Now, I don't have the reference anymore, right? Because we obviously are getting out of frame there. So I'm going to stay down low for the moment here, just stay in the frame. Now, there are some shapes in here that you may want to consider. You may want to try to find these shapes. There's a highlight right here, and there's almost like a little shape right in here. See if I can render the negative space around it. So I'm just going to round that rock It looks like there's a line that connects up in here. So all up in here, this is all solid, okay? My airbrush is stopping. What's going on here? Got some tip dry, okay? And I'm trying not to make too many mistakes, but they're gonna happen. I'm gonna make them, that's okay. But I don't wanna invite them to the party. I don't wanna, have them come in here. Now, this is super dark in here. I am gonna have to come back with some black on top of this, obviously, right? But I think it's sometimes better to use color than black. So in other words, I might put red violet on this instead of using black because it makes it more interesting. There are a lot of instructors who say never use black. You probably heard it yourself. Never use black. Black's a sin. It's evil, and you're going to hell if you use it. I've heard all kind of comments, but I think the question I have to ask is why. And some of them can answer that question, but sometimes black serves. Frazetta certainly used black, but for his shadow in here, these are not absolutely black in here. For these, so you may want to consider taking some other colors like blue violet's a wonderful color for darkening and deepening colors. That works very well for me. Also, you might want to consider taking some other colors such as red violet. Red violet's a nice color. I've run out right now, so I'm going to switch over back to black. I know I shouldn't be using black, according to some people, but it solves problems. Why not use it if it makes things better? All right, so I'm just going to push this value down a little bit more. Just get it on down there, value. There we go. Come on down. Black should be coming out any moment now. Come on. There we go. There's the black. I just know the black sprays different too. Come on up the coast. I'm not going 100% black here, but it is pretty darn dark. Okay, it is really, really dark. So I am going to go ahead and be generous with my coverage of it. Let's get back down here and do what I was doing in here. Now, this is a little bit soft and blurry. The airbrush is perfect for that. So I'm going to take advantage of that and let the airbrush do it. I'm also noticed that at the bottom of this, there's not a hard edge, okay? And here's a mistake. I promised I'd make some mistakes. I've got a hard edge at the bottom. Look at the reference. There's not a hard edge there. It's gone, okay? See it? There's no hard edge there. I've got one. That's a mistake. All right, so how can I rectify that? I like to try to get in there and try to bury that mistake under, like get rid of that edge, okay? Try to get in there and try to make it all better. Okay, let's see. I can start seeing the edge about right there, so I'm gonna back off a little bit. I see some blue in there too, which is beautiful. Those little accents of color he puts in there is amazing. And he just knew exactly where to put it too. My favorite one, if you look in the shoulder, there's an awesome, awesome accent of red reflection on the shoulder. And it is incredible. I would never have thought to put that in there. But if you look closely, you'll see it. It's just a little accent of red right in the shoulder. My reference. And you can probably see that in your own reference. I don't have that part up here. So what next? I don't know what's going up at the top there because I don't have my reference here. So let me take a look at the reference and see. It looks like it just goes black all the way to the top. Okay, that's not a big deal. Let's get mine as my reference. Finally, got it back. Okay, so I'm just going to push this on up into here like this. I'm out of black, so let's switch over to sepia. Back and forth. And I tried to experiment with mixing them together, but I just don't think that works as well as alternating it. Alternate allows you to achieve kind of a balance between the two, as long as you don't go 100% every time you spray it. And this is a little bit sticky. You can see my fingers stuck to it. Sometimes with things like that, it will stick for a few minutes. So, I've got a fingerprint in there now. 100 years from now, they'll say, oh, there's the artist's fingerprint. Okay, so there we go. And just kind of warming this up a little bit. Just warm it up, warm it up. Warm it up, warm it up, warm it up. Okay, now I'm back down into here, this area, and I'm trying to build structure down here. Okay, trying to get some structure in this area right here, meaning I want to see these rock shapes. Okay, so I see kind of a rock shape that goes under this foot right here. And if I get my bearings right, it's right about that's dark in there. There's shadow here, and God, it's a weird kind of shape right here. I'm trying to kind of get my head around it. Okay, and I'm having trouble, understanding what part of this is. So let me put the reference right on top of it and kind of see exactly what's going on. Okay, there's the knee, there's the highlight. Okay, this is a shadow under there. Okay, I understand that now. There's shadow under there, light area there, and it's super dark next to it. Okay, so this is all super dark right here. Okay, and this is a dark shadow right here. Dark shadow. Let's go. Just going to put that in there. It's brown. Oops, yeah, flooded. There's a mistake. Looking for mistakes. There's one. Flooded it. Okay, but this is a little bit soft edge, so the airbrush is a good tool for this. I'm just going to put that in there like that. Just kind of bring that's the top, the bottom of that shield on his foot there, like a shin shield. And this is all black around. This is super black. So let's bring the black. I don't have black in my airbrush. How am I doing this? Well, just use the sepia as if it were black. Okay, I try to treat it as if it was one. Okay, and this is trying to make that work. Wow, I'm hoping I'm in the right place. And what about this cell in here? This is just more treatment in here. I'm looking at the reference, and it gets kind of confusing. So one of the things I'm going to advocate is that if you want to be successful at this and not get confused and get lost, I would think of the adage divide and conquer. Divide it into small sections that are consumable and conquer it. Okay, because if you try to do the whole painting, it's just too overwhelming. So I'm flipping it right now, just trying to find my bearings here. Flip it back and forth. Try not to dip my reference into the paint there. Let's darken it, darken it, darken it. I don't know what I was thinking here, but what about art? Look at that mess right there. That's just a big chunk of darkness. So I'm treating the sepia as if it were black. In other words, trying to use it to darken some of these areas as if it were black. And you know, you could probably paint this whole thing without using any black, but I think black is more of a shortcut for me to move faster in some places. It certainly works pretty well. All right. There we go. All right, so again, I don't want to get near that edge. I want to create edge, but this is starting to come together now. Now I can start, this rock is not such a strong brown. It's more of a gray brown, so I'll probably use black to tint the rock there to make that look a little better. Let's lift that up. Use that air to help me lift it up. And I'm going to put some in here because it was starting to get a little bit too gray. Let's just push paint into there like that. And I'm also noticing that this is all this is too light, right? So let's just take this sepia and push more paint into it like that. There we go. And now I'll put another drop of sepia in there because I ran out just then. I'm really consuming a lot of sepia here. Okay, I'm glad I got more bottles. The problem is that the bottle I pick up, sometimes it can be the wrong bottle, but sometimes I think that helps too. If you ever heard of this, a lot of artists will rotate their hues. In other words, instead of using one hue to avoid monochromatic look, they'll use multiple hues, just rotate through them to have a subtle variation, and that actually helps make it look more real. Because in real life, there's variations in color. If you look at somebody's hair, it's not all the same. There's reflections on it, things like that. And so you don't want the hues to be the same. Hue refers to where it is a color with a position. Is it red, green, purple? So instead of doing a straight, say, green, they'll put a green with a little more yellow in it, put a green with a little more blue in it, just to kind of get it to vary a little bit, okay? So I'll just kind of spray this. Let's pause and evaluate, okay? Pause and evaluate are always a good idea, okay? So I see I need to kind of run up the coast a little more. And I need a little more color up in here. I feel like I'm getting dark enough. Now this looks too dark, but I really need to add this little black line in there. And to do that, it just so happens I have this other part to it, the part with the snake, and that fits right up against that. So that's a good idea to save your parts in pieces. So I'm just going to try to maneuver this up there so it fits. And I'm going to double check that line to see how thick it is. It's not very thick at the top, but at the bottom is pretty darn substantial. Okay, so he's got a thick line down there. So what I'm going to do is make that thick line. I'm just going to hold that up against that, like this, drop it down a little bit. See there, maybe like that. And I'm going to be generous, liberal with my paint there. Because this is black. I've got and it stops about right here. I see a good bit of it stopping right there. So let's just throw it in there. I'm throwing paint at it. And it goes up here like this. Looks like it fades out a little bit right there and picks up again right up there at the corner. Okay, so let's see what else it's doing. I'm kind of looking at it to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I don't know what it does out there, so I'm going to back off on that. Let's just go ahead and give it another coat. I want this to be super dark. Why? Because that's the way it is in the reference, right? So if it's dark in the reference, I feel safe committing to a lot of color in there. So let's lift that up. And let's lift this up and see what we get. See, I'm lifting straight up. Because the paint is pretty dangerous here. But if I smear this, it's really not the end of the world. I mean, it doesn't want to lift up. You know, that's the problem. So let's take the blade. Now, give me a little help. Let's go in the white area so I don't scratch the paint. Lift it straight up. Oh, have some tape on there. That would do it. Okay. It's stuck down there. Let's just kind of lift this up. It really feels like it's sticky. There we go. Yes, it did. It stuck to some paint. That's what was happening. And there's tape actually taking that. So let me address that. Here's a big mistake for everybody to see. Okay. That right there. That is where the paper or the Triscuit, the mask in this case, stuck to it. And it's got some stuff going on there too. That, fortunately, we dodged the bullet because that's in an area that's not too exposed. That's in a kind of an area that's, well, hidden by darkness. So errors and mistakes in shadows are pretty much safe. Okay, to fix that, it's going to be almost really black. Anyway, I'll just go with the sepia like that and just kind of cover that up. It just didn't dry. I told you sometimes the paint is a little bit sticky, and that's not your fault. That's just the fault of the paint. But you see how now we got that dark line there? It makes everything else look lighter. We thought this was too dark before, but really It wasn't. Okay, let's kind of hold things up to it. And you can compare kind of head to head. If you hold it right there, you kind of see the difference of what I have versus what I want. I want to go a little bit darker in there, so I'm going to push that a little bit darker. Let's protect that. Yeah, a little bit dark. I'm not going all the way with it, but I'm darkening for sure. Okay. Okay, look at it, look at it. See, I scrubbed it a little bit right there. Now, do I chase that down and fix that? No, why not? Well, because there's debris in the reference, okay? Look at this. You see there's scuff marks and scratch marks already in there. So that is not really going to matter to me. Okay, in fact, I might be inclined to go in there and add some anyway. Just kind of take the blade, drag that blade over there, and add a little bit of noise to it, kind of put a couple of these. Or while the paint is fresh, take the dowel and they're just, if you look at it, they're just scratches. It's almost like he scratched it in there. It's really very thin. It's like something went in there with a thin kind of thing. He probably could have used the back of his brush, back of a paintbrush. And the pre-Raphaelites did that. They would take the back of the brush and scratch through the wet paint in order to make hair and other things like that. So it's not a modern technology by any means. Okay, so going in here like this, I'm just kind of adding a few. I see a couple of places that I can just enhance it just slightly by putting some things. And you can call these artifacts if you want to, because they're just things that are just kind of odd. He just added that for accent. It's really just a reflection, and he did a great job of it. It's just like he's reflecting the background with it. Don't overdo that though, okay? All right, so looking at this, I'm trying to check to see if I went too far on that. That looks okay. That's okay in there. So I'm happy with that part. And now what I'm trying to do is figure out if I'm dark enough here. Okay, if I'm dark. And one thing you can do to figure that out is you can take your blade and cut that. Okay, I just cut that right there. And if you really want to measure, it, you can lay it on here like this and compare head to head. And you can see that I'm a little bit too orange in there. You can also this one. See, I'm just not quite. The orangeness is too strong. And also I could go darker. So I want to put, instead of putting more sepia on this, the color I would probably go with would probably be black. Okay, it looks like I pushed the sepia up a little higher though. Okay, it looks like there is more sepia as I climb up here. So I can go up in here and just let a little bit of it drift up in there like that. Okay, and that's what I'm doing. Just kind of let the sepia rise, brothers. All right, get into there and kind of add some interest to that. Okay, and there's a couple of like rocks in there. I'm going to add a little bit of shadow to that rock. A couple of little stones that are kind of flying through the air, like that. That's not the high, that's the shadow of the rock. So a lot of things I do are while it's in my hand. It's like while the airbrush is in my hand, I'm gonna do this. While the airbrush is in my hand, I'm gonna do that. Okay. Like this is too light right here. Go over a little bit, but again, I mentioned earlier that it needs to be black. So I'll switch to black and then I'm gonna stop what you gotta do. So I'm switching over to black. Rather than throw the black away though, is there any other place this could live? So that's what I'm looking for now. I'm looking to see where else this could exist. Okay, so let's look at the bottom of the image here. Okay, down here, I'm looking at that spot right there and seeing that's more of a black, but I think I can still use that. The wood is brown. There's brown wood in there. So let's see if I can get that in there. It's dark, right next to that skeleton arm, like that. So I'm just trying to render some like that. Just darken it. All right. And I'm just going to go over it like that. That probably warrants a brush stroke, doesn't it? Okay, just one brush stroke in there just to make it happy. I'm just going to drag it through there like this. And then I'm light. So you see when you're light like that, it's more forgiving. Okay, when you've got light paint on there. You see how light I'm that light. That's how light I am. And the brush works great through it. If I put too much on there, or if I put more paint on there, brush strokes would be more pronounced. Now I don't want more pronounced brush strokes, so therefore I'm not inclined to put more paint on it. That's how light you need to be to get a brush stroke, just for reference in the future, okay? Then I'll darken it overall, because it needs to be darker. It's certainly too light. Okay, just darken it. And I need some black in there too, but I'm just really trying to get rid or burn through this brown in here because it's just too much. There's more red in here. If you notice when you compare it to head to head, it's like a red in there. There's probably a red violet I'll put over that eventually. Right now I'm just trying to use the same color for everything I can in here. Let's go ahead and switch over to black and then I'll stop. Okay. I was just trying to get rid of the paint without throwing it away. I don't want to throw the paint away. Okay. All right, let's test the color, make sure it's what I want. It's getting black. Okay. And so what I said I was going to do, well, I did want to put some black in here, under there, like that. But mainly I did this because I want to put some black up in there, okay? So let's get in there and put the black in there. Just kind of go over it like that. Tint it, darken it. Okay, check it. Now you can check it like this. You don't have to cut your reference, okay? But it's probably not a bad idea to. But you see, my value is trying to get close and it's still way too orange, okay? If I put more black on here, it's just gonna get darker, okay? I really can't afford to do that. I'm already too dark right in here, okay? Black is not gonna solve anymore, so I have to stop with the black. So you get to the point where you see you need to go darker, but maybe you need to get rid of some saturation too. Black will desaturate, but it takes a lot of black to do so. Therefore, you may want to, it will be better to consider using a complementary color. I'm also going to put a little black over these rocks, just darken them down. They're not so orange, okay? And don't worry about it not being red enough or violet enough. We'll move those colors. As long as I stay lighter than the reference slightly, we'll be safe, okay? All right, so I'm going to stop right there. That's a good stopping point. What questions do you guys have for me? Any questions? You guys have any questions whatsoever I can answer? Or did I answer them also thoroughly that you just can't come up with any questions? No questions? All right, so you guys, if you're ready. Okay, so let's see what we can do to advance this project a little more, guys. So I'm going to come over here and let's take a look the other side. There's, of course, we did this side. I feel pretty good about this is starting to develop. We need some other colors in there, yeah, of course. But I'm just trying to get like 70–80% of it done and move on to the next level and then come back and refine that later. The refinements doesn't take long, I really don't want to make refinements until I've got a lot more color down. Like I don't want to try to refine a color when I've got white next to it. So I'm going to reposition this kit that's back on here. Got a little piece of tape to help me. A little piece of tape right there to help me. Let's move that tape over there where it's out of the way. Okay, I've got a little bit of a white line right there. Let's see if I can balance that out. That white line could cause problems. So, I definitely want to pay attention to my alignment of my mask to make sure I'm not causing double lines or things like that. All right, so this side over here is a little bit pretty much the same as the other one. One thing I like about this cut is I can actually measure this. I can go ahead and hold my paper up against to it. I can see that's a really dark shape all the way up there. I can kind of see a ghostly image where he may have decided to change the shape right here. If you look really carefully, there's almost like ghosted, like calf muscle that comes out here, okay, where he just looks like he covered it up and moved it over as he refined it, okay. We won't do that. We'll just go ahead and spray it straight. All right, so what color's in my hairbrush? I don't know. Let's just find out. Look, it's black, it looks like. This is dark, like the other side. So I'm just going to go now. This right here is what we call a bridge, okay? A bridge. And that's basically to keep the integrity of everything in place. I really don't want that in the painting, okay? So that doesn't belong in the painting. That's just something that, well, I'll just use it. I'll remove it later. But I'm not going to spray near it. I'm going to try to avoid hitting that if I can. So I'll spray up to it, but I don't want to spray. I don't want to reinforce that hard edge right there, okay? So I'll go above it like that, okay, all day. We can just go right up above it and then come down, come down. There's another bridge probably up here. That's considered another bridge. That's in the painting. All right, sorry, that is in the painting. There's kind of like a band across his thigh right here. I'll draw the bottom of what I think it is, and everything below this is dark. Okay, I'm just kind of drawing it in there. This is darken that, darken that, darken that, darken that. I'm being careful here because I don't think there's a hard edge right there. Yeah, I don't think there is. Okay, it could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Okay, so let's just kind of continue down like this. What goes on here? Is it a lot of darkness? Yes, a good bit of darkness. Take a look at it. Okay, here's our reference. Now, I don't see a hard edge up in here. I don't see brush strokes either. Okay, I don't see much of brush stroke in there, so I don't really have to worry. I'm going to go ahead and go dark. I don't have to worry about it. I do see brush strokes over here though. Okay, so when I get over in that area, I'm going to add some brush strokes. I want to consider putting a mask back on when I get close to that. Now, all this is just pretty dark. If you're not sure where everything is, you can hold this up to it and look. The shape of this is kind of like this. I'm going to sketch it out, kind of like that. And everything in there is just pretty much a solid color, and that's where I'm going to go with it. Okay, so let's get in here. Now, I really don't want a hard edge there, so let me do something here. I'm going to flip this up out of the way. In other words, I want to get it off from there. Now, I don't want to just cut it off. I just want to move it back. So I'm just going to flip it back a little bit. Let's see if I can bend that a little bit. I don't know if I can get away with that. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So kind of lift it up, keep it up in the air. Why? Because I need to soften these edges. This edge right here, especially below this is the top of his boot. That's what I'm seeing there. And this is going to be soft. There's not really a strong edge. It is a hard edge, but it's not a lot of contrast. And so I'm just going to use that. Now, I do want to, if it starts getting too dark, like it's starting to get a little bit dark, I will put that back down, like that, and just continue. So I'm just kind of checking around to make sure that it's okay to spray near it. Okay, like that. I'm really hosing it down now because this is super dark. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I can see what I've got there. And this area in here has got a kind of a dark shade too. Now this is a strong edge right here. And here's where I sometimes get miserable because that means I've got to go find that edge of that stencil, which is not always so easy to find because it's now, it's so big and cumbersome. So I'm looking for it now. I'm seeing if I can run it down. I think it's right in here somewhere. Yeah. Wow, it's quite a mess, huh? Look at that. Okay, so there's where I'm talking about right there. Okay, so let's see if I can kind of bring it back. And there's a piece right here that doesn't belong. That's kind of looks kind of weird because it doesn't belong there. So, and you see how it gets tangled up, and you got to like deal with it. That's the part that's no fun about a stencil this complicated. Imagine if it was made out of paper. That was the option we considered at the beginning, but paper is way too, even far worse than Mylar. Mylar's at least resilient. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to place that on there. I just really want to get the position right in there. Lock it down. I'm going to try to keep it maintained. There we go. So then I'm just going to get in there and go heavy with it. Now the question is, how much do I put on here? Is there paint that comes out into here? Is it dark over there? That's the question. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Let's look at the reference and see. Okay. Now here's the problem. The reference is cut. Can't always see it, right? That's all I got in the reference, so I can't always see that. So at this point, I'm still not sure. But let me look for it. There it is. Okay. Now I can kind of get a sense of it. There it is. No, there's not much paint in there. So that means I don't want to be putting anything in there. Of course, you see I move things around again. So that means you need the tape, okay? Keep the tape going or hold it down, pin it down. You see it moves so easily. You just breathe on it, sometimes it moves. So let's get that right back to position. The best way to put the tape is where you don't want paint to go. And I don't want paint to go in here. I should have used a bigger piece of tape, but I'll shield that with a piece of paper. Okay? So here comes the paper. Shield it right there just as extra insurance. And hose that down. If you flood it, it's bad because the paint will wick up under the mask and cause a problem. So you want to go just before it gets too wet. If it gets wetter to flood it, then that's the one you want to avoid. Okay, so getting in there like that. Okay, and then I feel pretty comfortable getting there and freehanding that in there. Yeah. Now remember though, there was a light spot in here with some brushwork. Okay, so before I get crazy with it, I need to find that because otherwise it could be a problem. So there's my brushwork I need. Let's see if I'm in the zone. Yeah, I've already covered that spot up. Easy to fix it. There's a lot of contrast in here. You can see it's almost like almost black in it. That means I can just go in there with a brush and feel pretty safe being aggressive with it. Okay, now I don't want to be too wet. Okay, so don't forget to dry it. Dry it, dry it, dry it. Don't leave your brush wet. Okay, so I'm drying it with a paper towel. Got water on it. It's moist now. Is it too moist? I don't know. Not moist enough? I don't know. That's the question. Well, let's find out. So lay this on here. If I want to know where things live, I just kind of place it on there and look at it and say, okay, where does this thing go? Where's that boundary? It's right here. I can kind of see right there. Okay, I'm a little too wet. You can see it's kind of taking it all off. Yeah, that's okay. And then just kind of bring it in here like that. Okay. Obviously, I can surround this with more paint, obviously, but I can still kind of work it in there, kind of get it established, almost like sketching it in to see where things live. Okay, let's see. How's that looking? It's okay. Probably needs to come up a little higher. Let's come up into there like that. And flat brush is great. And I'm just those lines that kind of go down here like that, so I can feel comfortable adding these brush strokes. And they're strong, so don't worry about being too contrasting. These are strong brush strokes in the reference. Okay. All right. So the other thing you can do is overdo it. In other words, you can go in here and intentionally force this to be bigger than it is, like that, because the rest of it is going to be dark. So I can go ahead and darken. So I place this over this and kind of say, well, what is this shape going to be? I made it too big, so now I've got to refine it a little bit. Probably I didn't make it big enough. I thought I made it too big, but apparently not. Let's take it and raise it up a little more. I've lost water. Let's add some more water to it. And when you're doing this, it's absorbing the water, so you're losing water. See, I went a little bit too far with that one, and I'm too wet. Just dry it, dry it, dry it. Let's come back down. Okay, so it doesn't matter what I do. I can draw a smiley face here, right? It's not going to matter because I'm just going to darken that down. So that's not going to make, there's no consequence to making mistakes here. Okay, now my brush is about the right dryness. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. But my shape is way too big. Look how big that is, okay? What can I do about that? Well, I can shrink it down because I got this black around. Let's dry it with, you see how wet that is? Let's dry it. While that's drying, let's go down here and play a little bit down in the lower part. So I can cover that up pretty easily. Just put the dark back on it. It's going to be all dark anyway. So you can then just darken everything back down. Really, really. Using brown, okay. So if I make a mistake, it's fairly forgivable. You see, to cover that up, I got to add a lot of darkness on there. Okay, that's okay. I can afford to do that. Let's look at the bottom of that boot and see what's going on. Okay, there's the boot. Let's check it out. Okay, next to the boot, super dark. So throw it at it. Throw it, throw it, throw it, throw it. There we go. And there's that branch she's stepping on right there, or log. Just push color into this. And does this go right up to the skull? Well, let's see, look at the picture here. A part of it goes up to the skull, okay? But the problem is, we've got this part of the skull and we've got no really mask on that. There's no mask on that to cover that up. So how am I going to cover that skull up? Well, it just so happens you might have some things laying around that might do that. For instance, you might have a color cup right here. Okay, the color cup might help me. So it's got around, I can use that. Or you can find a found object, or you can cut a piece of paper and a curve in it. Now, how do you cut a piece of paper? Well, you've got that stencil that gave you this. There's the shape already. So what you do is you take the stencil, and I don't know where it is. It's somewhere around here. With that part of it in there. Where is it? It's hiding from me. There, I think that's it right there. Negative, that's not it. I got everything but what I need here. Okay. Anyway, you find that part of the stencil, which is, I've got so many parts here, I think they're kind of disappearing on me. Oh, there it is. Gravity got it and went to the floor. Okay, let's pick that up again. Okay, I think that's it. No, that's not it. Whoa, that's not it. So I have no idea what happened to it. It has decided to run away on me. Okay. At any rate, the stencil that we made this with, you put it on a piece of paper and you take a pencil and you draw around, and then you take your blade and just cut the shape out. Okay. That's the easy way to get that shape in there. Okay, just in case you're not. Or a lid of a cup works pretty well too. So I'm just hit that cup lid, and sometimes it's like a bottom of a bottle works. Well, that's not a hard enough edge. But this cup seems to fit fairly well. And let's look at the reference again to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I'll have to go to look for my stencil in a moment. That's the problem with taking it apart. Once those connections go away, it's really hard to find your way back. And so let's see, coming right off this skull right there, I think somewhere in there, we got some shapes going on. We got another shape going on here like that. And let's see what goes on here. A little bit, this cut gets covered up here. Harder edge than where I've got, so I'm kind of go around it like this and kind of harden that edge a little bit. In some places, let's carve that out. Yeah, and just kind of filling in now. And this is got some color around it. Darker here, darker, darker, darker. And here is not white, that's for sure. Okay, and you see what I'm doing? I'm just kind of going in here and taking care of business. What about here? Yeah, a little more in here too. There might be some brush work in there. You see, I've kind of got that shape there, that silhouette. A little bit too round. I'll have to kind of take care of that. Let's put a little warmth in there. A little bit of brown. I see some brown coming into the skull there. Maybe something like that. I see brown going in there. Coming out like that. It's probably a little too round. And I think if it's like too round, let's see what happened there. Okay. What did I do there? Well, okay, it wasn't too bad. The mistake I made, and I made a couple of them, are easily fixed. How can I fix that? Well, I've got my friend the eraser, but I've also got the dowel. I can use either one. Let's pick up the eraser first. Right in here, this should turn and go this way. It's got a little bit of a bump right there. Although the eraser's probably going to serve me better. So let's just erase that out like that. That eraser's a little stubborn too. Let's try this wetness thing and just use that wetness to take it off, okay? So I'm just coming here like that, okay? Highlight right there and bring it down. I see some brush strokes going that way, okay? And then over here, this looked like it was more blending into this, so I'm just going to take it and push this. See what I'm doing? Just eating out the paint, kind of widening it up a little bit, and sweeping that way with it. So it looks like, and there's a little bit of noise in there, so I'm going to take the brush, kind of brush a little bit along in here. Just pick some up, like that, pick up with my finger. I just need to add some grunge to it because that's what I'm seeing in here. Some grunge, some noise, some things that are not too sterile, okay? Let's look at it again. Hold that over it, look at it, and see what's going on. I need to square this off down here. So this comes down here with a wet brush. You can see it dissolves the paint pretty easily. Kind of bring that out a little bit. So a circle doesn't quite work, does it? Okay, it's not quite there. Wipe it with my finger. Oops, I came out a little bit too far, didn't I? Can I live with that? Yeah, probably somehow. So I'm trying to bring that in there like that. Okay, now, let's say you got too wide with it, that's not a problem. What if you got too wide with it? Just go back and push that edge back with the airbrush, like that. You can round it off if you have to. I mean, you've got options, you know, just because you made your white too big or you came out too far with the white, doesn't mean it's the end of the world, okay? This shape right here is pretty darn dark. It's a dark shape coming through here like that, around the mask there. Darkening this real, it's near black, so that's why I'm going so heavy with the sepia. Right there. See how dark that is? It's super dark. And when you get that dark, you can say, oh, well, that's right. Now I need to garden darken some others. Let's get this mask moved. It's not behaving. There we go. So there's obviously, see some deficiencies here. This is too light. And there's also a dark edge that kind of runs across in here like that. It kind of goes up like that. So it's pretty soft and smooth. And everything from here down is dark. You may want to take notes on kind of what I'm doing to help you remember it. Okay? So I'm putting more in here. And then I'm just also accenting some of these, just bringing these shapes and freehanding them in there because they're soft. There's no brush strokes in the shadows here. And just let's kind of refining that shape in here. Looks like it goes up here like that. And this is super dark in here. Just super dark, you know, like that. Of course, I know this shape is too light. That's not a problem. We'll take care of that. Now let's kind of go back and refine. Now this shape is not so critical. I'll just try to be accurate, but really doesn't matter. See, well, my shape is way too big. So I'm going to cut the top of it off like that. Okay, and then just fill that in there like that. Yeah. And I'm just going to push stuff into here like this. And gosh, I feel like I'm running out. That's because I am. A little more paint. This is sepia, by the way. Sepia's not working. Let's try. I think my bottle's out. There we go. Sepia. All right, so pushing again with sepia, just kind of running up the coast there. Let's look at the value. That's so light. Let's get darkness in there. I still see red in there. Okay, so but I'm going to darken it with this and maybe chase it with some other color. I'm going to render a couple of brush strokes in there because I see more than I've got. So I'm just going to render them in there like that and just kind of start blending. Let's push this back again. Okay. So yeah, now things are starting to get. Now this is super black, so don't be afraid to get back in there and do it. You know, go over it again because it's really, really dark in there. This edge right over here is committed. It fades out as it gets down to the bottom. Okay. Some of this stuff is a little bit too contrasty. Okay, a little bit. Let's put a little bit of color right there. Ooh, this paint's pretty sticky, and I'm kind of leaving it light in there, a little bit light. Okay, now above this mark right here, there is some. It looks like it continues on the other side of that, the top of that boot. So a little bit of color that continues, and then it kind of goes up like that. A little more red than what I've got. That's okay. Okay, and what else? Okay, that's dark. It's gonna be darker in there. Just get that dark, 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 dark. And this edge is. I'm keeping this soft up here because it looks pretty soft in the reference. Okay, let me point to it. We're up here around this part. Okay, right in here next to the knee. It's really dark right here. I'm trying to keep from getting lost here. Just put it right next to it. There you go. Okay, there's the knee. It looks like right in here. I kind of just keep that out of the way. It's dark, so it's really easy to get lost. I tell you. The best thing if you ever get lost in it is just put your reference right on the top of it like this. Say, well, what's going on here? Well, that's not the boot. The reference actually, there's the knee up there. So I was thinking the knee was here, but that's where I was lost. Okay, so that's better. Let's go right up into the crotch area. Let's get it right up in there like that. So while I've got the color of the gun, let's just push on into it. Everything above this mark is pretty light, very dark next to this, and very dark, very dark, very dark. Got some extra stuff going on in there. There's Frazetta's joke where he puts stuff in there that you're probably not supposed to see. I bet the publisher, had he noticed that, they probably would have nixed that, this part up here that you're seeing. Probably would have said, no, no, no. You're not allowed to show that part of his body. Okay. All right, so let's put a little bit too. Okay, so let's let me take this off and kind of see where we are with it. Let me make sure I'm dark enough first. Am I dark everywhere? Maybe not enough darkness right here. Okay, maybe not enough in here. This is super black, super black. Get it dark, dark, dark. Okay, really, really dark over here. Okay, notice I kind of didn't really do too much around this area right here because it's soft, you know. If you look at the references, it's not a real dark area around there. Okay, and here it is right here. You can see, I mean, not a hard edged area. It's kind of soft a little bit in there. So I didn't want to spray too much in there because that would create harder edges. So you notice I left it a little bit soft and didn't go right up against it. As you see, it's pretty soft right there. Okay, so let's remove it. Let's just see what we've got here. You know, just kind of see where it's pushing forward pretty well. All right, let's see. This is really on there, so let's just remove it. I'm curious to see. You really don't know what you have until you remove the mask, right? That's kind of the reveal, the big reveal. Let's just take this off. Move things away from it, and let's kind of see what we've got going on here. There we go. All right, so yeah, now we're starting to get somewhere. I feel like this is a big movement. Kind of got a glow right there, you know, because all the light still around it from the paper. And I use the paper as my white source because it's going to be brighter than the paint will be, especially with airbrushing. You try to use white paint to lighten something up. You never get as light as the paper behind you. So I use that as my tool. All right, so I do see that this edge right here kind of disappears. And where's that? There it is right here. Okay, just getting close by it. So there's the boot, and this kind of part right here needs to go away. So let's just fade it out like that. That's just a connecting line. I don't really need that. Just fade it out. Okay, so I'm looking here, you know, seeing how it goes. Up in here, it's still dark. That's looking okay, and this is looking okay. So I need to think about what's going on above it. Okay, let's get up in here. Maybe the leg part of it. Okay, so we can see. Let's bring that closer. Let's see what we're doing. Let's kind of get back. Let me get it more centered for you guys. It's kind of glowing right now. I want to remove that glow. So let's get in there and try to see if we can fix that. Now I've got some paint on my fingers, meaning that I've got paint on my cup. Let me show you what I'm talking about. My spills come from when I put paint in the cup and I miss the cup and a piece, some drips down. If you saw my video that I posted on Facebook, I was putting water in my cup. I missed the cup. Water got here, and eventually it dripped down onto my painting in the middle of it. I posted that about maybe 2 posts ago. You can see. So if ever I find paint on my fingers, it's coming from my airbrush where I missed it when I was putting paint in the cup. So hopefully that's not going to be a problem. I certainly don't want it dripping at this time onto my paint. So what I'm trying to do now is trying to look at this shape over here, and I'm trying to kind of recreate what I see. So I'm going to try to soften that up a little bit, bring it on up into here. I should have made this use that mask more, but I'm going to freehand that, let that edge soften. Just get in there and freehand that. Okay, and a couple of lines across here. And I'm going to soften these edges. They need to go darker and softer. So I'm just getting there and darkening them up a little bit, softening them up a little bit. Let's darken them. They're not white, okay? They're not white, so don't let them be white. All right. Darker here, dark. This is super. This is almost black right down here by the boot, okay? So don't be afraid to go ahead and throw paint at it. Let's get that dark too. All right, so that's looking better. It's hard to see when I've got this paper cut up so much, but it makes it easier to manage that way. Okay. What about in here? This little part right here, let's just darken that part like that. And above it needs to go darker. Let's get darker there. And there's a kind of a dark ring along there. I'm ignoring the highlights. I'm going to put those on later. I'm ignoring those. I'm just going to try to darken, darken what I see there. Right. And am I dark enough yet? I'm not dark enough yet, am I? Let's darken that more. Now I'm leaving room in case I need to push the color a little. I might need to push a little bit more purple or whatever. That's why I'm not going quite as dark as the reference. Right, this is black here. Unless I'm sure it's black like that, it's really dark there. And this is certainly dark up under that edge of that boot. And let's push darkness there too. Darkness on there. So things in shadow here. Obviously this needs to go darker. So, oh, I found a drip, guys. I dripped on my painting. I did find the drip. It made my hand wet. I'm going to show it to you in just a moment. I found it. Ouch. Got dripped right on my painting. All right, so let me show it to you. So I told you I'd be making mistakes, and here's a good one. And this is something that, makes people cry, but not us, because we know how to deal with it. Let me get it on the screen there. There she is. But luckily, I am in a place where I kind of dodged the bullet. You can see this spot right there. Now, here's the problem. When I lift that up, it's going to lift paint up too. I'm going to lift that up. You can see it creates texture. But is that a problem? Well, it could be a problem when things need to stay soft, but the bottom part's easy to patch up. I can patch this easy by just going in and like laying that in here, kind of continuing that line. That's not a problem. But this, however, that light spot is a problem. So I'm going to try to darken a little bit, but I still got that edge around it. So in this case, there's no solution that's going to keep this nice and smooth and clean. Okay, in other words, there's nothing I can put on here that's going to give me a clean, smooth, continuous edge, because that's the nature of it. Okay. However, you look at the reference. There's like a smudge right here. You see that? And that's pretty close to where I was. So I'm gonna use option number 3 to live with it. I'm gonna just kind of push this darkness onto it like that, make it a smudge like that, and live with that. I'm gonna not try to fix that. Not now anyway. If it bothers me later, I will. So I'm using option number 3 to live with the mistake instead of trying to get rid of it. Okay. The other thing I have left would be just right by the skull. You want to take a look at that, and I'm just too light right there. Put my finger over it. Let's just darken some of this down in here. It's a little bit too, it's kind of a yellowish. I think I picked up that yellowish sepia. You can see how everything's kind of yellow there. That's kind of upsetting. Okay. Here's the paint that was picked up on the back of that. Okay. Be careful there, guys. And let's look in here. Let's warm that up. That's got to be warmer. It looks really nasty when it's solid gray like that. Okay. Warm that up. And put the finger over this. Darken that. Darken. Okay. All this up here. I'm just way too light. Let's darken all that. There's darkness that comes right through here like that, right up to the skull. And I'm freehanding because I want it to be soft. He's got a nice soft blur, which is, if you're an oil painter, that requires a little bit of technique. Okay. The airbrush by itself defaults to a blurry edge. In other words, the airbrush wants to be blurry, and to have a hard edge with the airbrush, you have to apply a technique like a mask. Whereas the brush wants to be a hard edge by default. When you make a stroke with a brush, you get a hard edge, and if you want it to be blurry, you have to apply technique to it. So they kind of, airbrush and traditional brush different in those ways. They kind of come at something from the opposite direction. Okay, so you see we're starting to get that in there. Let's just darken some more in here. I'm starting to punch this up a little more. There's a lot of orange and kind of a brown in there. Yeah, and then this kind of bleeds over this. There's shadow, very dark shadows. Frazetta, being a comic artist, he was very dynamic in his contrast, and he went for the darkest darks, just push things deep into shadows, and to create this more striking type of result. And he certainly achieved that. Okay. I'm just kind of filling this in with this brown here. Okay, that's a pretty good stopping point, I think. That was a lot. I know it was a lot, and I apologize for being so long-winded. Okay, we'll after this we'll do the boot, and then we'll move up to the face after this, because I know you're getting tired of working in this area. All right, so let's get back to where we were. Let me get some of that glare off of there. Okay, and I think that's it should be pretty easy for you guys. Mainly we're going to work this section in here, coming on down into here like this. Just kind of get around in this area in here. So this big triangle is what we're aiming for, guys. So remember, this isn't pushing the shadow, so it's pretty subtle. Okay, I'm probably need to darken it some more, and I'm willing to do that. But you can see the comparison. I need more of that kind of cooler, kind of a purple in there, and I'm willing to do that. I'm staying lighter, slightly lighter than the reference, just slightly lighter everywhere than the reference, except for the deepest shadows. Okay. All right. So good luck with that, and I will check you guys back in. It's probably about 15 or 20 minutes for this. This is a pretty ambitious amount of paint here, so we'll check back in about 15, 20 minutes. Let's see how everybody's doing, and then we'll take it from there. Okay. Finding my sticks. Okay, I've got sepia in the gun. I hope I've got sepia in the gun. Let's check it out and see what I've got. And what I want to do is I want to render this boot. And there's a lot of scrubbing stuff in here, but not so much. I don't see brush strokes in here. I mean, he used a brush, obviously, to do that, but he didn't let his brush strokes show, which means he came in and refined this. Now, basically, I'm going to go in here and just kind of recreate what I see. Now, a lot of people try to avoid that mark right there. Let me see if I can get in closer for you guys, too. That probably helps, since we're working on a very specific area there. Let's see if that will help you. There we go. Okay. All right. So a lot of people try to avoid that highlight. I don't. I'm just going to go right over it like it was not even there. Why? Because I'm going to carve that highlight out with an eraser or a blade or something like that. What I am looking at is the shape that goes this way and goes this way. Okay, it kind of goes up in this direction there. And I'm going to backfill it, meaning I'm going to put color behind it like this. Put color on this side like that. Okay. I do see a couple of brush strokes in there. So, maybe you want to dance a brush stroke. Let me go ahead and put some background in here. I'm going to dance a brush stroke across it. Because it's subtle, but it's there. If I don't do that, something's going to be wrong. So let's get the sepia back in here. I'm going to put a little bit of color on it. I'm going to just drag a slightly damp brush across it. Just mainly because it needs it. So let's dip that in water. Let's dry it off a little bit with a paper towel. Okay, paper towel there. And let's just drag it across it. Let's first put a little color on it because it's definitely going to need it, right? I don't want it to be too sterile, so let's just add a little color. Look how little I'm putting on here. This is about maybe, I don't know what percentage this is. It's pretty small. Let's lower the exposure so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. And there we go. God, that was really overexposed before, wasn't it? Okay, so I'm just putting a little color in here, just barely putting it on there. Okay, and then I'm going to just take this brush, which is damp, and I just want to go over it and just kind of put a few strokes in there like this. Okay, I got two brushes. This one's a beat up brush, it's damaged, right? But it actually can serve us because it makes a little bit more bold kind of stroke. All right, so you see the brush is drying out. It's starting to add a little bit here. Now, what I want to do is not put strokes everywhere. Okay, I want to try to avoid doing everything. So I need to be willing to remove some paint in here where it needs it. And a couple places where I could use it. I'm going to dip this into water, just a damp Q-tip, and I'm going to void out a couple places. Like I don't see many brush strokes, so I'm going to take a Q-tip, go in there and just kind of make some circles in here like that. Maybe smudge it, smear it like that. Oh, that's a little too much. Let's see if I can pick that up. Remember I told you you can pick it up if it gets too dark. Okay, and where else do I see that? Well, maybe a little bit in here, just kind of tapping that up. What's going on right here? There's that thing right there. There's kind of a shape. Let's lay this on here. I'm kind of lost. It's easy to get lost. Let's lay that on there and see what the heck's going on here. Okay, that's right. That's right. All right, there's a highlight here, and I really belongs in here. So let's bring that highlight. I made it wrong. So that you remember I talked about you'd see my mistakes. There's a mistake, but look how easy it is to fix. Take the Q-tip with just water on it, or if it's stubborn, use the Windex. And let's see if I can get in here and do a little more with it. I'm just basically looking to see where my issues are. Okay. So I line it up and I flip it. I'm trying to line it up on that and flip it back and forth, and you kind of see the difference between what I have and what I want. Okay, so flipping it back and forth, I kind of see that line right, it goes right there, goes down here like that. So I really messed that up, didn't I? I really was off. Didn't realize how off I was until I start working on it. So, but the Q-tip kind of lets me have things back, and it kind of leaves a brush stroke like pattern in it, which is what I need. It's like that comes a little bit further down like that. So now I can modify it. I can go in here and scratch that back out and remove that. Okay, and while I'm at it, let me, oops, that's really not helping me. Let's see if I've got a dowel that can help me, okay? The dowel is kind of my friend here, so let's take the dowel. I'm gonna take the dowel and I'm gonna dip the tip of it in Windex, or I can spit on it. I'm gonna go in here and just kind of mark things, like there's a highlight right there, there's gonna be a little highlight right there, okay? A little dot right there, and there's kind of a circle that goes over the top. And I'm just marking, I'm really not rendering, but I'm just kind of marking off where these things live, mainly because I need it, okay? I see cracks here, but that's cracks in the paint and not in, I don't think that's intentional. I remember seeing his original, and there's a lot of cracks in this image, just the paint dried over time. So I'm trying to recreate some of these shapes I see through here, wrinkles and things like that. Okay, now I need to rough it up a little bit, and to do that, you can take the eraser now, and you can go in there and kind of make some circles. And when you do that, you're adding texture. It's not as, it's a little bit softer, a little bit less um, aggressive than say the dowel or one of the other tools, but it does leave a nice texture behind. So I can kind of go in here and kind of help that along. Okay, so once I get that in there, the next step is to go in and render a little more, okay? So I'm render by going in and darken, say this side right here. Let's darken that side right there like that. Okay, flip it back and forth to make sure I know what I'm doing. Okay, the good thing is the paint dries pretty quickly, so I feel like I'm not going to be flipping into wet paint. Let me get right in there. There's a really dark mark right there, so like a hole in this dude. Okay, it looks like a bullet hole, doesn't it? Okay, and just kind of soften up around it like that. Looks just like I'd do a bullet hole, just exactly like that. So all this is darkened here. Let's darken that. Okay, and let's see. It looks like there's some kind of thing right here. I really missed that, didn't I, with that shape? I kind of made a scratch where it doesn't belong. So let's rework that. I'm trying to be precise here. Like that. Okay, and let's darken that a little more. So I'm pushing it darker. Once I do a little bit darkness, I work so once I come back and say, oh, it needs to go darker. Same here. I need to go darker here. So I did it dark the first time, but you know, you see it wasn't dark enough, but that's okay. Just fade it this way, fade it that way. Now I want to start using the contrast as a guide. See the difference between the background and the boot right here? You see the difference? It's barely there, but it's there. Mine is way exaggerated. See, I've got too much contrast. So I'm just going to spray over this and reduce the contrast until it starts matching a little bit closely to the reference photo, okay? And that's starting to get there. It's getting closer. I don't want to get too dark. But see, I've got it. Now it's not much different. It's more subtle now. Okay, once that's done, once something known is done, it makes it easier to go into the unknown and figure things out. So once I figured out that, okay, that's right now. Now that helps me decide or make judgments about everywhere else, okay? And this is starting to move. I'm trying to keep it on there. Okay, there we go. And there's kind of a circle here. It's getting close. Freehand it if you want. I think some of this is in the stencil though. It's pretty dark. You know, I'm pretty close to it. About 1/8 inch away. Let's do that. I'm gonna go around it like this. Make some shapes. This shape it goes this way. A lot of it just seems random. You know, it just doesn't really make sense to me. But it works. It works. So I can't really knock it. I'm really just painting what I see instead of like trying to figure out what I'm looking at. I'm like, okay, there's a dark shape here. I don't try to say this is a part of the body or part of the boot. I just say there's a shape here. That's all I think about. I don't really try to break it down and analyze it. I just really want to paint what I see instead of what I know. And there's some green or something in here. I'm leaving room for that. Okay, I'm leaving room for all that. I'm just pretty much just rendering it out. And this edge, there's no edge right here. You see the reference is gone. So get rid of it. It's got to go away. Go away. Bye-bye. Okay, see you later. Okay, get rid of the edges. This is a little bit too contrasting here too. All right, so now I'll come back over here and notice, okay, can I go darker? Yes, I can go darker in here. So let's push the darkness down a little bit more. More darkness in here, right? You're kind of checking it out. Push the darkness over in here. There's a little bit more dark. So I'm slowly but steadily darkening the whole thing. So I don't just darken one section and move on. I'm painting the whole thing at once by moving around and discovering deficiencies or problems in it that need remedial attention. Okay, and that's kind of where I'm going. If I want to put a crack in there, I guess I could do it. That's probably a little too heavy over. I could put some cracks in there, a little bit of shading in there. This is starting to look a little more black and white. I probably need a little more black instead of brown in some of these places. But I do see places with the brown, like in the shadows here. So let's go in there and get that brown shadows. That probably could put some black over it, which I'll do. Do that. Okay, a little bit of gold in here. kind of a yellow color on top of this. All right, and brown down here, I'm going down here. Let's get that foot going, get that foot going, go foot, go. And just fade that in from the side to see some yellow or something on there. Okay, just kind of darken that too. So now you see the mistake I made where this was really needs to go dark in here under there, and I need black for that, but I can still use a sepia there just to kind of flesh it in there and just modify that. So even if you have some off like I did, let's say it's a mistake and I simply put some in the wrong place. Not the end of the world, guys. I know some people freak out and they go, "Oh my God, I made a mistake." I've actually put the foot in the wrong place, and still through the wonderfulness of this paint was able to recover from it. So if I can do it, you can do it too. All right, so I've kind of got a good stopping point here. I think just about there, maybe a little more brown here. So I'm just back and forth, push that into the background, just make that more ambiguous. And I'm not putting the other color. I'm still staying with this color. Okay, let's make that more ambiguous, meaning kind of push it into the background. All of this, push that into the background, darken that, darken, darken, darken. I'm treating this as if it were black, okay? And make that wider, make that wider. Okay, make that darker. That's black, 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 dark. Okay, even though I don't have black in the airbrush, I'm still treating it. I pretend like I've got black. So I'm taking a sepia and using it as if I would use a black. Okay, all right. So I think that's pretty good. So that's a pretty fair rendition. Not great. I don't have great colors in it yet. Now, after you do that, before you get all cozy and retired, you want to go in and put a few streaks in. But you also want to do a couple of other things. Meaning, you want to get in there and bring your highlighter back and carve out those shapes again. In other words, dip the dowel in Windex. Okay, you have some ammonia, and go back in and pull this out. Like there's a ping right there, a little ping, a white ping. This tip of this is in ammonia. Okay, there's a strong little ping right here, like a little dot right there. Okay, and there's some yellow here. Now, the reason I'm going to carve this out is because let's use the eraser. Yellow won't show up against dark, guys. If you want yellow to show up, you have to leave it white. That's why I insisted you keep it white around the fig here, because we're going to put a yellow background. If you have any overspray or contamination in that background, the yellow won't show up. It just doesn't do well like that. Okay, so I think that's getting there. Let's try to see if I can put a little edge there. So you see, I'm just kind of put those little marks in there. You just see some stray marks here and there. Get them in there. That'll help. Put that in there like that. Maybe where there's going to be yellow down here, so I'm going to bring that back out a little more. And that's going to be strong there too. So I'm looking around. I'm going to see some marks in here. Just some scuff marks here. Maybe there's a scuff mark right there. Yeah, I may have to rework a couple places once I put the dark colors on. But that gets me there. Now, before I go, I want to add one more thing. I want to darken this part down below here, like that at the bottom. Let's darken all that. And I want to put some black in here, mainly because it'll help with the shape. Now, just so I ran out of paint, so I'm going to switch to black now. And the reason I want to put the black in it because there's more. This is too brown, and there's black in here. So I'm going to take this black. And I kind of see this grayish black in here. So where it's gray, I'm going to put the black right through here like this. You see, it's just darkening it. And I'm going to soften this edge with black. And put a little bit of black in here. And I see black kind of around here like this. Kind of seeing black wherever it's kind of gray. And this kind of starts reading as green eventually because it's a gray, a neutral gray. So it kind of starts taking on a greenish cast to it. And that's actually going to help my cause. Let's get in there and put the black in a couple places in here. And let's go under the boot right there, under the front of his tip of his boot there. Let's get that in there. Okay, and more black in here. Let's push that in the blackness. Let's push that in the darkness here. Okay, I knew that brown wouldn't work everywhere, so the black is actually my friend here. Okay, let's just darken this a little bit with some of this black too. It's a little bit grayer than what I've got, or than what I've had in the airbrush before. So just kind of push this, darken it, darken it, darken it, darken that a little bit more. Okay, so I'm starting to put some more light, trying to give light to the boot here, give it a little more realism, representationalism. And of course, I'm covering up those highlights I scratched out, right? What should you do then? Well, just reimpose it. Just go, after you do that, you can always go back, take your dowel or whatever tool you have, eraser, and just bring those highlights back. You don't have to, just because you hit them and got overspent doesn't mean you have to live there and cry about it. Some people get very upset. Oh, I got something on my highlight there. It's the end of the world. No, it's not the end of the world. Just bring your tool back and say, oh, let's bring this back. This is going to be yellow, so I'm going to lighten that up. This is going to be yellow, so let's bring the eraser back in there. Lighten some of this up in here. Just kind of scuff it a little bit. Just make some scuff marks. See, I'm just gonna kind of keep it noisy. I don't want it to be too clean. Like I forgot one right there. A little circle right there. This needs to be a little bit more robust. Let's get a little more light to that. Again, I hit paint on my yellow that's going to be there. So I'm going to bring that back to lightness. Same here, you know. So if you hit it overspray, what? So what? It's no big deal. Okay, so anywhere it needs to be yellow, I definitely want to go in there and put some marks in there. I'm just going to kind of stress it a little bit, just kind of add some here. So I'm really beating that boot up because he did it. He's got some scuff marks in here, some little marks like that. So I'm just tapping it and dragging it in here just to give it some life. There's some kind of like thing going on here, like a triangle of yellow or something. I'll bring that in there. I see a scratch right there. Okay, I see the mark. I see a little bit of a. So smudges and scratches, you definitely want to put them in there. Okay, get your smudges and scratches, people, going because you want that. Some more smudges, scratches there. I think that gives me a good foundation for the. But the only thing really I need to do is pretty much add yellow, maybe some green on it, but at least you know it's kind of it's in operation now. So you may want to you know put a few accents on the boundary there. I'm looking over here, maybe something like that. Okay, and this bumps out a little bit. So you see, I'm just kind of doing some touch up, just trying to help it along there. That a little more in there, get some width to that. So the boot got a little narrow there. Okay, that's a good stopping point. Okay, I plan on coming with some yellow, but I don't have yellow on my airbrush. It would take a lot of work to clean that airbrush up. If I want to switch to yellow right now, think how long it would take to get all that black and the other color out. It would take a long time. So therefore, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go into that yet. I want to wait until I have yellow in the gun. I'm going to wait till I'm doing that everything in yellow. So there's no reason really to switch to yellow unless I need a dirty yellow. And I don't really need a dirty yellow at this point. I can see some need for a little bit of yellow in some places, but not over here. See, that's already yellow enough. If anything, I'd probably need green in here to make that work. Okay, that kind of goes up in there, a little more greenish color, but not too much yellow. Okay, so what questions do you have for me, guys? Any questions so far? I wasn't that clear, was I? All right, so let's go ahead and start the recording then. And okay, Val, you're just in time. Thanks for joining us, just in time. We're actually going to put the stencil back in the middle here. And what I'm going to do now is I've got some sepia in the airbrush. I want to go after some of these spots in here. There's some super dark spots in here. And I really didn't do it justice the first time we applied it. I just kind of position things. So I'm going to get in here. First of all, let's nail this this part in the center here, where the belt is. Now, it's a little bit stubborn. I'm trying to push it in the position. There we go. I want to make sure the white hides. That's getting off too, but let's go ahead and that's right. So let's get in there. Still got a little black in there, obviously. Okay, so I'm just going to get in here. Let's push the bottom of this super dark right here. Yeah, super dark right here. So I can be really liberal with the painting. I just get in there and just throw it in there. Like that. Okay, I'm gonna work it up, fade it up a little bit. I don't want to go all the way top. Just kind of get that dark established. Okay, this is super dark next to it. Let's get in there and darken that. That's absolutely black. Okay, so I don't feel any hesitation to go black with that. Okay, because it is black. Okay. I wish I had that. I'm missing that middle piece. It didn't come with my thing, so I missed that. But I go ahead and push black into here. So I'm just going around a little, precisely. I'm about an inch away from it. I'm just using some precision. I can go ahead and be as black as I want to be with this. In fact, the darker the better. It is absolutely black in here. Okay. Now there's a soft edge in here, so I'm going to stay away from this part. I'm going to go around the corners, but this is a soft edge at the bottom, so I'm going to try to avoid it. I want it to be soft. So I'm letting the overspray define it, but I'm not really spraying near that edge in the center of that. Just get in there and make that dark. Okay. I'm holding things down with my fingers because I want some tight edges here. I want this to be tight. Let's fade that up. Let's get in there with that. Just make it nice and light. It looks really bad. It looks so sloppy at this point. That's kind of funny. All right, now some of these are going to be highlights like in here. So if these are highlights in here, not going to spray dark into there. This is a highlight in there, not going to spray dark into that either. Okay, this is a highlight here, not going to spray dark into that. Or is it right? Let's see what I'm going to look at. That's his arm there. That's light. That stays light. Okay. So this, I don't spray around this. Okay, it's very tempting to do that, but don't you do it. Okay. All right, so this is a dark color. I'm looking over here. What the heck is this going on over here? There's the belt. I'm trying to find my bearings. The center of this is dark. It's pretty dark in there. So let's make that dark. Push on to that like that. Okay, and what about this thing? That's a shape I already put in there. All right, what about this? This is more of black, so I'm not going to put it in there, but I'm going to go over here, look around here. What's going on here? Those are highlights. This is a dark spot. Okay. Now below this belt, right below this belt here, it is black. So I need to find a way to get under that. Okay, to get under that belt, and hopefully I can do that. Maybe part of it will lift up. No, it's not gonna go easily, is it? Let's see what I can do. I can flip this up, maybe. lift that up a little bit. Oh, it's dangerous, isn't it? Okay, lift that up a little bit, just so the belt is on there. Let's slide it back. There we go. And I'm just going to spray under that belt. It's really dark under there. So I'm going to be very liberal with the paint. Keep an eye on the reference material as you go. You want to flood it, that's a no-no. Okay, and just going in here and getting some of these darks established. There we go. Now, even though this is sepia, it'll read as black when it's next to highlighted areas. Okay, what about this? Okay, that's going to be black in the background. I did notice there's a little brown in this, so I'm going to go in here and put some brown in there. It's fairly dark, not too dark. Okay, not about 50% coverage there. And then let's go down the knee. Why not the knee? We've got the brown in there. Why not start, suggest, don't hit it hard. Just kind of add a little bit of color to it just to kind of help establish the position of stuff. While it's in the airbrush, why not? So then let's switch out of this color. We're just going to get rid of this color. I'm trying to find a place for it. I need to darken. Okay. I'm trying to find a place to darken. I don't really have many places I want to add. So we just rinse it. No, I'm not going to rinse it. I'm just putting black in it. So let's put a little black in there. So maybe 2 drops of black. Am I good? I'm getting rid of the sepia, 2 drops of black. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in there and go after this area in between here. So I've got to make sure my position is good. Okay, that's that. This kilt here, and I'm looking at it. So it's really contrasting in here. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a paint at it. Really contrasting. Super black. I mean, I can just go black as I want to. There's a little bit lighter right here. So I'm going to put light, a little bit gray in there. This other part, especially right in here, under that shadow around the leg, is really dark. Okay, so it's kind of a highlight right there, so I'm going to stay light with that. The other things, I'm going to let it go dark. Okay, it's dark, and pushing it here a little bit. Definitely want to make sure I'm there. Okay, and what's going on over here? Okay, this is dark. Okay, it's easy to get lost. So guys, slow down and look at what you're doing. Don't just hose it down like you're putting out a fire. Just stop and look at it. This is a shadow in here. There's a kind of an amular jewel right there. There's black below it. And a little brown in there, so I'm not going 100%. And let's see, what is this here? There's a little black in there. Definitely want to get black around the leg here because that's definitely too light still. So let's get black, putting black over that brown in that area in here, okay, crotch area. And then let's put a little darkness along here, a little shadow going on there. Okay, now pause and evaluate, guys. That's what I'm doing now. Let's take a look at some things. Let's kind of lift up and see. But before I do that, I want to get this other shape in there, and that's the part I was missing maybe. Okay, remember there's this weird shape in here. That's the part I need right now. I need that shape that was going in there, and that's probably, I can find it. We're looking for that place with the arrow quiver. So a stencil with the arrow quiver on it is needed. That's where I'm hunting now. I'm hunting that down. And it just so happens I might have it here. Let's see if that's it. Negative on that. Okay, so haven't found it yet. Still missing. That's the elusive piece that goes in here. That elusive piece. And I think, is that it right there? Could that be? No, that's the other side. Okay. So missing stencil. That's the downside of this, but I think I found it. Okay. Let's see. Is that it? Yes. Okay. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this arrow quiver kind of thing right here because this is brown. So I want to place this before I remove the other piece. I want to place this up against it because I might have trouble positioning this otherwise. I want to put that up against it. I'm going to tape it down, and then I'm going to lift this out. Let's just kind of lift this out. It's going to be stubborn because I got tape on it. Let's get rid of the tape. Okay. There we go. Let's get rid of that. And this, we're making a big leap here, guys. This next step is going to change it a lot. So this will be somewhat gratifying. Just to lay this in here will give you a pretty good feeling of satisfaction because it's definitely going to improve it. All right. So let's see. I think I'm going to leave that on there because if I look at this, this is all pretty dark. Okay. Now I'm moving that. That's a no-no. Right. So let's get in here. This is the black. I've got, and this shouldn't. Oh, sorry. This is the black, I believe. Okay. No, it is sepia. It's kind of hard to say. Let me put a spray on some white paper. That'll tell me what it is. It's black. Okay, black. Okay, so I'm looking here for black. In the arrows or quiver section, okay, there's a section right here. I'm going to lay that in here like that. And I'm going to spray around this. Okay, there's a darkness to the left of it, darkness to the right. And I'm just going to come right down here with it. My airbrush has got some tip dry. You see what this does? This kind of gives me that outline, that little shape right there, whatever that is, that little piece of metal he's carrying. Only Frazetta knows what that is. I have no idea what that is. So I'm just coming in here and adding some dark around these shapes in here like that. Airbrush definitely not working very well at the moment. He's fighting me, fighting me. Okay. Just kind of bringing it over here. Now I want to keep this yellow part covered. This background is the yellow part. I want to keep it covered. Although my mask is shifted a little bit. Let's get it back in position here. That's the dangerous part. You spray it and then you realize, hey, let me go ahead and mark this. I'll put a little mark on it. That way I know if it's shifted position. Yeah, okay, put a couple of marks in there. Okay. Now there's some dangerous areas in here, mainly because there's a hole right here that needs to be maintained. A hole meaning that there's nothing in here. And I've already actually put some overspray on it. So in reality, you're going to come around here like this, probably with some sepia more than black, but I can go ahead and sketch it with the black. It kind of comes in here like this. And there's a hole right there. That is where the yellow is showing through. Now I've actually put overspray in there, which is bad, but I'll recover from that. So you'll see me make another mistake. And I told you to be making mistakes. And there's another one right there. Okay, let's get up against this a little bit more. Okay, let's get in, push it against that. I'm just kind of going around here like that, just get a little more right. And really what I want to do is get rid of this and put some other color in there. The other color I want to put in there would be sepia, because I see more sepia in here. So what I'm going to do is I want to get in here, let's go ahead and darken some of these arrows. That's kind of a stripe going down this way. And I'm just looking at the references, tell me exactly what I need to do. Okay, let's put some black in here. And I see kind of some black, this is the arm, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there just as I run out. That's fine. Let's get the sepia in there now. Let's warm it up a little bit, because it's a little bit too gray and muddy looking. So here's the button. There's some black up under the arm, a little bit of black in there, just a little bit. So I put that in there like that. And what else is going on here? What's this shape right here? Oh, that is open too. That's the open area. This is dark. Like that. That's dark. That's like his bow. Okay. Remember, some of this stencil represents the negative space, so I need to keep it empty. Yeah. Okay. And then there's a little line that goes across it like that, and it comes down. So I'm just kind of drawing with my airbrush now. I don't see any brush strokes in here, so I'm pretty safe doing this. And let's just darken. That's really dark right next to it there. This is all dark. There's some red in here. I'll show you how to get that. But we'll just, for now, just kind of build that. It's also a good idea to keep your records close to it. It's really hard to kind of see. There's so much chaos in here. Really sometimes hard to see what the heck's going on. So the best thing I can say is, keep your reference as close as possible to avoid confusion. There we go. And that helps. So there's a brown. That's a dark brown right there. That's going to be dark, 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 really strong contrast there. Look at that, that's powerful. Throw that in there like that. I see some red right here, so I'm going to leave that kind of light. Just put that in there like that. Yeah. This is going to be brown. So I'm trying to push the contrast up as much as I can here, because it's in the reference. And that goes away, and then this part right here, I think it's just filled with color. I mean, as far as I can tell, it just doesn't really have anything else but color all the way to the end here. So we're just going to fill that in, block it in there. Obviously it's getting too saturated. You can see that. Again, I can tone the saturation down. But what I really got to do is I got to watch out for those light areas. Remember I said we cannot afford contamination in those areas that are going to be yellow. You can't really afford that. So I have to consider that. Let's go ahead and get this in. This can kind of be a gold color, or resemble a gold color too. Let's put that in there. I'm going to put some next to that. Oh, that's just too strong, isn't it? It's just too strong, so I won't do that. Things are moving around. Okay, so let me stop and let's take a look and see what we've got here. I mean, it looks pretty sloppy from the air, but I'm hoping that it's going to work out. Okay, so let's pull that out of there. And you can see how much contamination got into these holes here. That's really no bueno. All right, that happened. Same here. That's a bad place up there. I don't want any contamination there. Let's remove this. And you can see, yeah, it's starting to come together. Now you're seeing, okay, yeah, we're starting to get something here. It's starting to look a little more like it. Can I go darker in some of these places? Yeah, you betcha. So let's see if I can bring this up to speed here, kind of look at that and see. I need to come across here with the darkness here. Just fill that in there like that. Okay, this is this is a light brown, but this is dark next to it. So I'm going to trace around that outline there, like that. Split it there. I'm not doing a good job of that. And just kind of get that to be softer. Flooded that pretty badly. Now I'll leave it there because it really doesn't bother me. I need a hard edge in some places, so you can see this knapsack here is a hard edge right to the edge here. So let's just put that. It's pretty straight too, so I feel comfortable going in there like that. I need this piece back, don't I? Because I've lost it, and if I don't have it, it could be a problem. So do I have it? Yeah, I've got it. Okay, there you go. So I need to make that dark right there. That's super dark. Look at that. It's really powerful. So go in there and just hose it down. Dry it first. Dry it. Come over the top. See that? There's a little bit of color right there. I feel like I'm moving things. I have. Okay, I moved it. That's no good. Okay, a little light brown here. Dark in here. Dark. Okay. And there's there's kind of a dark brown that goes on the side here. I don't know if you can see it, but right in there, that's a dark brown right there, okay? And a little bit of paint creeps up into there like that, okay? While I've got this in there, I'm an opportunist, so while it's in the airbrush, I'm certainly going to use it. Okay, if I see spots where this works, and I'm holding that in my airbrush in my hand with a color in it that works at that place, definitely want to use it. Definitely, you know, apply it while it's in your hand. That'll save you time of having to go back and switch colors later on. Okay, just going through here like this. Just add some color in there like that. Just darken that down a little bit. Okay. Now I've got some. I've committed a major sin here by allowing that overspray to get in places it doesn't belong. Okay, that's a problem. Okay, and the best solution to that is to remove it completely with not erasing. If you erase it, you're going to still have a little bit of a mark in there. I'm going to say the best way to get rid of this or deal with this right now is ammonia. Just take some ammonia and throw it on the tip of a Q-tip like this, and just purge that. Just get in there and purge. Now the problem is if you touch the edges, it's going to drag color into it. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to touch the edges, or at least push it away from the center. Right? And if you get to where your Q-tip gets dirty, what you want to do is just switch sides. Okay, and that's okay. I think that should survive that. Over here, the same thing. See where I got paint in there? Let's get in there and void that out. So I'm just going to get in there and scrub that out. If I can make that. There's a little piece. That piece is here. Now I'm starting to put darkness down. Let's put some more ammonia on it on the other side where it's cleaner, and see if I can dissolve that. That's the beauty of this paint is it dissolves. Now acrylic doesn't do this, unfortunately. Acrylic would be so much more versatile if you could dissolve it and stress it like this. That's one thing I love about this paint is you can do things to it that you cannot do with acrylic paints. And oil can do stuff like this, but the problem with that is oil is so difficult for me. I mean, it's probably not as difficult as acrylics, but the other thing that I don't like about oil, I love the way it looks. It's nothing as beautiful as oil, is the waiting time. When you're working on it, you got to wait, you know, and you're doing something, you're loving it, you got to wait for it to dry, you know, and it dries slow. The more thicker you put it on, the slower it dries. Okay, so I'm thinking that's kind of where I want to stop. I think that should be okay. All right, so I don't really have any brush strokes in here. I do have some things I need to connect up maybe. I do see some brush strokes. Right in here is kind of fudged a little bit, so I'm going to put a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm just barely going to nudge this, so it's damp. What I want to do is I'm going to smudge this a little bit like this. Smudge it. That's not enough water on it. Let's try it again. Okay, let's try that again. Come on, brush. Work with me. Okay, so I notice there's a little brush stroke right in here. It's definitely not moving, is it? I'm trying to move it and like nothing's happening. I mean, I got some of that paint that you guys had that just doesn't behave itself. Let's throw some Windex on it. Okay, I'll put Windex on the brush and we'll see if that changes the course of history. So there's the Windex on the brush. It has got Windex for sure on it. This will definitely break it up. There we go. There we go. So I'm basically trying to break that up a little bit. It's too much, obviously. The Windex went overboard. Wipes some of it off. So looking around to see if a place where I need to smudge it. Where is it? Intentionally smudge it like that. That's too much. Okay. Just to kind of break up that edge and make it look a little more like he did it. Because those brush strokes are actually going to benefit. So I think I'll put a brush stroke through there, very likely. Just one time. I see some through here. Let's pull it that way. Yeah. Okay. Looking around in here, I kind of see a couple of brush strokes going this way. That. And just what I'm trying to do is grunge up that edge so it's not so clean. Right now it's very clean and I can't really abide by that. It needs to be dirty in some way. It has to have some noise in it somehow because it's not going to work otherwise. So that's okay. I really don't see too much else. You know, I might be a little grunge down here in the chainmail. You know, oops, just pick that up. See, I'm just tapping my finger and kind of messing. It's actually a mistake, an intentional mistake where you're trying to kind of smudge it and add some noise to it. And that's really hard to do for people because some people just don't want to go through it, but it actually helps you. They want pure cleanness, you know, in there. Oh, one more thing I forgot. This belt and stuff in there. Let's go ahead and put this. Needs to fade into darkness here in the edges like this. Okay, and from both sides, it kind of fades into it like that. Come on in, like that. You see how? And this is not a complete circle. There's a little bit of color on this top part of the loop there, belt loop there. Okay, or buckle. I guess that's what it is. Let's connect that. That doesn't live there. That's a bridge. When we get rid of the bridges, there's another bridge. Get rid of that. Kind of bury it. Soften this up a little bit. Bring it up. Soften it up. And go around it. Soften it up. There's a little highlight in the middle. Okay. And these are a little color on. So I'm going to put a little color on these. They're not pure white. A little color on this. And if I go too dark, I'm going to bring my highlights. Scratch out my highlights again. I'll have to live with it. So Accidentally go too dark, not a big deal. Like I can just spray in there, no problem. Let's bring that up a little more. Okay, that's a good stopping point. That was a lot. I hope you guys were documenting what I did. I'm not as dark as I need to go, say, for the belt, for example. You can see the belt's too light, and things are too light in general. That's okay. I feel pretty good about the quiver, though. I've got some substance there, and I've got some form there. But this area in here is pretty weak still. You know, it's not a lot going on there. It's not really working for me too well, as you can see there as well. See how dark I need to go, and there's how dark I am. I'm like, okay. It's not a fail, it just means there's going to be some more work involved. But what I'm going to do after lunch, I want to move into the face, okay? I'm going to go up, so I'm going to kind of skip through here, and we'll tie these together, but I want to work isolated areas like that, the darkest, because why? Well, they're significant to the painting, and I don't want to work in the same area. I also want to do something called the island method. With airbrushing, it's critical to do that. Why is that? What is the island method? Well, let's say that I sneezed on it, and I made a big spot right there. Would that be easy to clean up? Yeah, just wipe it off, right? I got a white background. But what happens if I sneeze there and I put a big spot, say right there, a big red spot or something right in the center of that? I try to wipe it off. I can't just wipe it off, because if I wipe everything off, it all comes off. So I've got to go and do surgery to get rid of that spot or whatever I've got in there. So when I've got an island, if I want to reset, I can just wipe that area off and redo it. So when I do a face, I do the same thing. I do an eye, a nose, and another eye, and I don't bridge any color between them. So if I mess up the nose, I can just wipe off the nose and redo it. So I do this island method to help us. It's kind of like a safety net. And after we're done, we can tie things together, okay? So today we're going to work on it. We're going to get to where we can get the head more complete. And then tomorrow we'll tie it together. We'll finish the figure tomorrow without any, I don't think there's any problem with that. But today we want to get the head done. This and the head, that's what we're aiming for, at least. That way we'll be on track. Okay, any questions, guys and girls? No questions? What questions do you have for me? None? Okay. All right, so I will stop recording. All right, so we've got all these stencils laid in here. I'm going to take the sepia, and I'm just going to establish, kind of ghost in these are the highlights. I don't want to render them out. I just want to ghost them in just so I can know the position of this sword hilt there, just so I can know where it is. Okay, these are highlights too. Do not want to do anything other than just say, okay, there's where it is. That's where it belongs. All right. Second thing I want to do is I want to go under this chest. There's this breast right here. There's nipples right there. I'm going to cover that nipple up. And you go in there and start building some shadows around this. A really heavy shadow around it like that. Okay. Just going to come around it like that. Now, I don't know if I should have gone that direction. See, I went it that way. Probably not a good idea. Okay. So I probably don't need a hard edge there. What I should have done was come down with it. And that was a mistake. Here's another mistake I made today. I'm making a lot of them today. If I look at the reference material, the chest comes down here and hits the scabbard right here, the hilt of the scabbard there, so which would be right here. It actually should come down like this. This is really what it should do, and I didn't do that. I was stupid. Now, if that happens, though, this is the island method, right? I can get rid of that spot right there easily, so I can just erase that all like that. So I don't really have to suffer because of that. I can just kind of fix that and bring that in there like that. And I can leave some grunge in there. I don't think it's going to really matter. Okay, now let me go back to this and see if I can kind of add some more to this. So I'm going to add some darkness to this and cover that up again and just darken this. This is super dark, but it turns, it's really dark up against his chest, but as you get off the chest, it starts fading. So it fades out to a lighter color out in here. Okay, now I don't know how much lighter. Let's kind of look, let's compare. Okay, here we are right down in here. And it's going to come up on the shoulder, and it kind of does this. It kind of goes that way. I got to watch out for that piece of tape. I'm just going to build it up a little bit. I'm about 2 inches away or so, maybe 2 finger lengths away. And let's go ahead and reinforce this shape right here. Let's come right around here like that. Okay, and where's it? It comes right up against that like that. It's kind of wobbly, so it should be smoother, right? So let's smooth it out. And then right below this, there's another like line that goes here. You kind of see the ghosted image. This is all solid, all dark in here. I'm just gonna overlap the hilt, mainly because there's no reason trying to go in between these. I'll just kind of scratch those out later. So I'm not really going to try to get in there and do anything. Same with this. I'm going to darken this area here, but I'm not really going to try to go too much between this. I might just kind of emphasize that. And then we got a little more going on here. Now I do have this template for this, so I'm not worried about losing my lines or anything like that, because I always put the mask back on it and restore everything. So really not a big deal. Okay, we'll go in here like this. Okay, feel that. So I'm just trying to bury a little bit of white right now. Bury that white. Okay, so that's being done. I'm going to dust this in very lightly right here. There's a little bit of red in there, so I don't want it to be too dark. Right, I just want to know where that shoulder shadow is, right on that front deltoid. A little bit of color right there. The edges are rough, so I can't get in there too close. Now these should be representing something like the shadows of these, okay, but they don't. Okay, the shadows at the bottom, yes, I can ghost that in, but really I'm not getting the whole thing. I'm kind of, the shadows right under there. That is a shadow. And this is a shadow too. So these aren't shadows, I don't think. Well, maybe they are. The bottom is. Let's see. Okay. Well, yeah, these are. I can use these as shadows. And even if they're not, I can always scratch off the paint I'm adding. So these are shadows of the little pieces there. That's good. That'll help me a lot place those bones surrounding the necklace. Okay. Kind of switch this to the other side. Now looking at this, it gets pretty dark in between these. So I'm going to go ahead and commit some paint to it. It's really dark. I mean, like black, black, black. So I'm treating this sepia as if it was a black. I'm committing a lot of paint to it now. I'm just throwing it on there, throwing it at it, heavy, heavy. Okay, holding it down with my finger. Now, if you're worried about your fingernail getting dirty, you can always take a coffee stir stick like this and pin it down. Okay, so I can pin this down if let's say it is date night. It's date night for everybody tonight. So for most of us there, for most of you guys. So if I don't want any paint on my fingernails, I can just cover it up like that. Now this is a soft edge right here. It corresponds to that with the green on it. So you can't see it. Okay, it corresponds to that green spot right there. Okay, and so I don't want that to be a hard edge. Okay, so I'm going to stay away from it. And some of these other things are going to be soft too. So that means if you can't avoid that, what you can do is just stay light with it. Don't go heavy. Now, I see a lot of red in the reflection here, just like the other side. So I'm going to stay really light, and I'm going to come back and soften this edge a moment. This stays dark. Okay, it stays dark, stays dark. Around this necklace is just dark. Okay, dark, dark, dark. So I can go ahead and the shadow of the beard and all that, I can get in there and go pretty heavy with it. You can kind of see some of his work in it. If you look really close at the reference, you'll see some lines under here that go along. And if you follow this, it kind of comes in like this. It's the bottom of it. And this, it goes up think about like this. Okay, so if you look carefully, you kind of see this. Then there's kind of these little cuts in between that go like this. Okay, and so you'll see a few lines, and a little rough. I mean, it really doesn't matter where you put these because this is all going to shadow anyway. So I'm not really too worried about being precise there. It's a detail that if you don't put it in there, it's not going to make a difference in the painting. All right, now I feel like I'm getting a little too close in. I got to be careful. There's a shadow of the beard. This is a soft edge. I got to send back and soften it. So I'm staying away from this one. Stay away from the bottom edge. If there's an edge that needs to be softened, this edge right here needs to be soft. I don't airbrush next to it. Okay, because if I do, I'm asking for trouble. Okay, I don't want to airbrush next to that because it's a soft edge. If I airbrush next to that mask, it's going to create a hard edge, and I don't want that. I cannot afford that. Same here. This is a soft edge, so I'm staying really light with it. This is a hard edge in here. However, I'm missing the critical part. Okay, that mask is missing. What can I do about that? Well, I can pick up another piece, just, I don't know, something with a smooth edge somewhere. This is what I've got. I'm just going to grab some random stencil. I just need to block that off. What do I have here? Okay, maybe, I don't think that'll work too well, but hey, it's better than nothing. So let me just throw it in there. Where am I looking? Right in here. So I've got a little bit of a line. I'm just going to put that in there like that. I'm going to try to guess where I think it goes. Yeah, and just kind of start. Now, if I need to move that edge or scratch it off, that's pretty easy to do. All right, so let's get in there and just kind of darken that softly, 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 softly. Okay, and then under here too, right above that line, there's some darkness here, darkness in here. I see black. I see colors changing. That means I'm about to run out of paint. When you see colors changing coming out of your airbrush, black and then brown, whatever, it's because your airbrush is about to run out. It's at the end, so you're picking up the leftover colors that are sitting in your airbrush. I'm gonna go over the top here like this. Actually, I'm gonna overlap it because there's a highlight. There's a kind of a ring around this. So I'm gonna straddle that line right there, just like this. Straddle it like that. Just come right around it like that. Just a dark line all the way around it, and I'm gonna go above it too. Yeah. You just kind of circle that. This is really dark in here. Let's make that dark. While I'm not being kind to the amount of paint I'm putting on, I'm really not meaning to do that. I'm just throwing too much on there. I'm out of paint. I'm running out of paint, and I've kind of got a very liquid type of stuff remaining. Right, very liquid, like a watery stuff. Again, I'm ignoring some of these other things. Yeah. Okay. So let's see what else I need to hit. Now, it's really tempting. You want to pick it up and look at it. But don't do that yet. Let's wait. Okay. I'm looking in here, going around here. There's a very light line through here, just kind of lightly. just to place things, just so I know where they live. And that, stay out of that area, okay? I don't have that mask on there, so you gotta watch that. There's a little bit of a shape right here that comes down like that. It's really dark. Okay, it's come down this way too. Oops, I flooded it. Not a big deal though. Okay, let's get up in here and look at this and what's going on in here. Okay, first thing you do is find your bearings, find out where everything is in your right place. And this is pretty dark in here. Okay, I see some soft edges, so I'm gonna stay away from that. So if this is soft edge, stay the hell away from it. Don't go near it. Okay, like that's a soft edge right there. I'm gonna stay away from that. Okay, I'm gonna go. I want to leave a gap in there, mainly because the overspray will be enough. I see also a bridge in there. Let's get in there. There's a sharp edge under the nose there, the nostril. This is fairly sharp in here, so I feel safe going in here like this, adding that area in here. I don't see any of his mouth. His mouth is all hidden in shadow. Works for us, and that's good. I'm just going to fill that in and try to be even with it. I might add another color here, so that's not going really, really super dark. Okay, and now I'm going to get back into the eye here, and I'm just going to come a little bit further down in the eye socket there. And notice I'm not dark enough at the top here. Let's get up there at the top and really go at it. That's super dark there. Okay, really get in there and blast away at it. Dark shadow across the nose, really dark. Dark shadow over here, really dark. Come on around here like that. And cheekbone, his eyes are in there. I'm not placing his eyes, I'm just kind of putting it a little bit in here to kind of darken it. I will look at his eyes later, but I'm really not concerned. That's not my concern right now. Just kind of dust that very lightly. Okay. Now I've got some contrast I need to restore here. I don't feel like I'm dark enough, so I might need to put some black in here, but I'm putting contrast in here now. Just going to make sure. I don't feel like it was lined up very well. Let's kind of revive that. Okay. Meaning I'm going to push some color into here. Yeah, just get a little color inside there. This is dark shadow, heavy shadow right here. Get it in there. Come on, do it. I'm out of paint. I'm just kind of, operating on fumes now with the paint, with regards to the paint. Not much coming out. I'm just going to put a little more under here like this. This is dark. It's certainly darker than what I've got. Let's just kind of advance this darkness here. I ran out. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put a little more in here, a little more of the sepia. I'm still going with sepia because it's a safe color. I can put black over sepia and gray it down. I can't put sepia over black and warm it up easily. Okay. It's harder to do that. So it's better to paint hot. In other words, paint more saturated than you're going to end up being. Okay. So let's go ahead to the other side of this helmet. This is super dark here. Now there's a problem there. Let's see what's going on. All right, let's get the paint coming out. There we go. All right, and I'm just going to, it looks like it just runs over here. There's a little bit of a soft edge, so I'm just going to stay away from that for the moment. And it's definitely soft over here. So let's pick that up a little bit. Lift that up in the air. And just kind of run down it like this. And just to place that there. And the top of the shoulder is definitely going to be darker. Okay. Let's get dark. See, I've got a piece of tape there, so I'm avoiding that. Okay. And the top of that is dark too. Okay, and that's all dark in here. I got a piece of tape here. Let's get rid of that tape. That's going to cause me problems if I don't get rid of it, right? Okay, so there we go. I'm just going to darken that a little bit. Darken all this. Stay away from the edges. I think the hardest part is staying away from the edges because you see the edge and you want to run right up to it, but don't do it. Don't you do it. Stay away from that edge, okay? And what's going on here? Above the shoulders, get rid of that tape. That tape is going to be a problem if I leave it there. Okay. Just relocate that tape down here, okay? And I'm just get that shoulder. It's a nice, beautiful. It's got some nice cuts in it. You see some nice 2 cuts in there you put in there, which is really clever. And I'm just going to work it like that. So that's where I want to go there. Let's do a little more in here. Let's hold that down. Hold it down. So this is time consuming, but the stencil makes it way, way easier, okay? All right, so I'm looking, I'm kind of examining it. See, I know I'm missing some stuff, but let's remove it just to kind of see what I've got. I'm real curious. I know you are too. I'm just take the center. I'm gonna leave the outside. I'm gonna take the center. Okay. Wow, you see a big difference. Now we're starting to come to life. That's more like it. Also, let's take this off at the bottom. We don't need that in our lives, right? Okay, so you can see some things starting to shape together. Oh, Tomas is coming. Okay, there we go. 7 minutes late. There he is. Okay, Tomas, there he is. Welcome back. Okay, so basically what we're doing, we just covered this up and we sprayed in here. So if you're just coming to here, I had that stencil and I've got surround on this, had this stencil on there, and I just took it off. I got wet paint on there. I just put my finger in it right there, as you can see. I've got to be careful. Okay, it takes time to dry sometimes. So let's dry it. I assume hit it there too. And then just cover it up, kind of blend it over like that, okay? Now, I'd like to, before I get too crazy, I want to soften some of these edges, okay? For instance, this edge right here, it's going to be soft, So I'm just going to go and soften that up a little bit. I'm going to blur it. The end's a little bit blurry. It's kind of dark, so I'm going to go ahead and darken it. Probably too dark right there. Well, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not too dark. Let's soften the top of it too. Just slightly. To soften it, what I'm doing is I'm getting really close and I'm spraying in the black next to it, the dark next to it. And the overspray is softening it. Okay. Now it looks like it might be too dark. Let's compare it and see. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Okay, I think I got too dark with that. What should I do, guys? Because many of you have gone too dark and you've expressed your sadness about it to me, and I can understand that. But let's just take it and void it back out. So I went too dark. So let's just kind of fix it, right? We don't have to live with it. Take the eraser. Now, the eraser creates a hard edge, but we had a fairly hard edge there anyway, so I'm not going to sweat that. I'm going to round that off at the end. Yeah, okay. And look at it, try to evaluate what you've got. Just to make this more round. This is around this trap muscle up here. There we go. And I think that's better. Okay. Round it off. Just keep it rounded. There we go. All right, so kind of reset it right now. Let's get rid of the shavings. Oops, now you see me smearing it there. No bueno, right? Again, let me see if the dial will take that off. Yeah, not too well. Okay, that's a no-go on the dial. So let's go back to the eraser and just kind of pull that off. There we go. Very easy. Okay, so now make sure your shavings are gone. And my goal, after you do this, I just want you to go back in and soften things up. Just go around it like that. That was bad. What was I thinking? I missed that. See, that was me making a mistake. I missed that completely. But early on, you've still got the chance to fix that. So let's try that again. Instant replay, right? Push down a little further. All right, so I don't know what I was thinking when I did that. Who knows? I just totally missed that, didn't I? My aim was bad. So those of you who think you're making mistakes, I'm right in there with you. Okay, all in the same boat there. All right, so let's kind of make that work. Just a little bridge connecting that, and let's kind of connect that. I can get a little bit of paint on the bones there because they kind of fall into shadow. You can see that, and let's kind of put a little bit here too. Let's get a little bit around that green spot. That spot that's going to be green, right? And you notice I noticed that you don't really see shapes between these. There are little bridges connecting these shapes. So I'm going to go in there and try to get rid of the bridges. Just kind of paint over them so that they're really not connected together. The bridges were there just to hold everything together, but really you need to go in and obliterate those. That means just go in your airbrush and kind of get rid of them. There's gaps, put something in there, get some separation between them like that. Definitely separate that. Okay. And I think that'll make a difference. This actually gives a little color on it. See, these are in shadows, so you can put a little more color in these, like that. There's a little bit of color on them. Let's push that into color. So we're kind of getting to we're finishing it, maybe not intentionally, but we're finishing these by just dusting a little bit of paint on them, okay? But really my goal was to go in here and do this, to get the darkness added here. These are soft things. So I'm just going around it from about 2 centimeters away, or about an inch, roughly an inch away. I'm just going through here like this and just adding a little bit of color to it. Let's soften up some of these. Let's go over the top like that. Again, about a thumb, the width of my thumb. That's about how far away I am. Okay, so that's softening up nicely. Okay, now I can push out into here a little bit. Yeah, just push out into here and just kind of get that shadow going. Like that. And keep it soft. This is a pretty hard edge, so I'm going to freehand that in there. There we go, like that. Okay, so yeah, development. Okay, and then what about over here? I definitely messed up here with this when I was working on that, so I need to see if I can redeem myself by adding a little bit more light to it. There's a nipple right there, and I'm going to cover that with my thumb. I don't want to make it too big, but I cover that a little bit with my thumb, try to isolate it there. You can also scratch that off and early on, but you want to do it early on. In other words, you don't want to wait. You want to say, oh, let's get that in there now. Now I want to make sure I know where it is because it's easy to lose that, right? So where is it? Where is that nipple? Well, let's kind of put this back. It's cut into the stencil, but did I move it, or am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? Well, the answer to that is not too great. I missed it. It's right here. I did miss it, so I'm gonna put it right there. I'm gonna scratch that out like that. Okay. I was down here, making them sag, giving them daddy boobs or something like that. I don't know. So let's fix that. All right. Let's just go around it like this. Like that. So you go over it and then you can kind of void it out. So I went real light over it, and let's just kind of make it. But in the end, it's going to be pushed back into the shadows anyway. You're barely going to be able to see it. Okay. So then I'm just going to go ahead and darken everything like that. I push it into the background like that, and this is all dark around it. Like that. Okay. So just making it darker. Now, am I going dark enough? No, I'm not, but intentionally so. I'm just gonna push this up into there. Yeah, soften that up. So I'm starting to render now, a little bit on the shadows of the flesh tone. Sort of render. Okay, rendering meaning to develop this toward the final. Okay, so we're moving it forward here. Let's get that darker. So there are going to be areas where you're not sure about it. If you're not sure about it, leave it and come back to it. Okay. All right. So that's a good stopping point for me. I've run out of paint, so I'll stop right there. And hopefully it'll just going to give you guys the information you need. Do you have any questions about what we've done so far? Okay. If you're coming in late, you might have a question or so. All right. So here's what I'm doing, guys. I'm just leaving that gap in here, right in there like that. And I got to stay close because I want to go into here. This is a lighter spot. So I'll get it right in there and let's kind of look at the gap. I get in there really, that's a pretty thick line right there. It's pretty thick. So I got it wider down there. Just get in there and just kind of run up the coast with it like this. Does it go all the way to the tip? Yeah, it goes all the way to the tip. It just pretty much traces around that tip there. But I need to double it up because it's really dark brown. Okay. Take a look at it. Okay. Might be hard to see if I can peel that back. If it'll let me peel that back a little bit. Should be able to see kind of what I've established there. You can see that. So I've got this dark line. I've kind of scratched it. Yes, I did. Okay. Easy to patch that up. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to try to look at the tips of them too. The tips of them have some brown. Now they're not quite as dark as the rest of it, but they are there. And there's a hard edge in there. I don't know if you can see it. There's a hard edge coming off this tip. So let me put this second one here. I'm just going to let the edge continue by putting a little bit of a edge right next to it. And I'm just going to brown that out a little bit. Like that. All right. So what I did, I'm just kind of adding that to it. And I'm close to being off screen there. And this one is also going to get the same treatment. Let's just kind of put a little bit in there to help that. All right. And what else? Do these have a little bit? Yeah, maybe at the tip. There's a little bit of darkness at the tip of this one. And a little bit of darkness at the tip. This actually got a line that kind of travels. You can probably see it right there. It kind of travels. I'm going to use this mask to help that. Oop, too heavy. Okay, I'll fix that in a moment. But you see what I was trying to do and what I failed to do. Let's put another one right here. That a little bit too heavy there too. And I'm not going to put too much background in there. So since I got too heavy with it, let me fix that. It's an easy fix. Just come in with the eraser and get that tip of that edge right there. Just let it taper off because that's what it does. It kind of tapers off to nothing. Now I do see some brush strokes in there. So I'm thinking about adding some of those. They're pretty light, but let me go ahead and add them anyway, right? Just why not? So let's get the brush going. I'll put a little water on the brush. Okay. Dry it off. And I just feel like I've got a couple of brush strokes. And what he did here is he dragged that yellow down onto this. If you look in the cape, you can actually see where he dragged the yellow on top of the cape to soften that edge. He did the same thing here. I see some yellow just being dragged through this. It looks like he came back and reinforced it afterwards. But I need some marks and stuff. So I'm doing adding some marks through here like that. And that's very light. I'm not really doing too much. Just kind of noise in there like that. Okay. And now's a kind of opportunity. While I got it wet, I can go ahead and maybe kind of add some little highlights through there. It's too wet. So like fix that. So I'm kind of going in here and adding some little light parts in here, just kind of little highlights in there like that. But I see these kind of bands going in there. Same here, a little bit like this. Kind of goes up like that. You're using this water to erase the problem areas, okay? I got another light highlight going through there like that. So I'm using the kind of dirtiness of this brush to help me. Okay, so while that's drying, let's slide over to the other side and do something marvelous over there, I hope. Okay, so I'm picking up the mask. Now this is kind of, the only reason this is hanging on here is just because I would lose this if I didn't leave that hooked up. So I'm leaving it hooked up, just it's like a keychain with a big obelisk on it or something like that to hold it. So I'm gonna do the same thing over here. I've already done that though. Let me see if I can get a little more in there this time. So I don't know if that's gonna fit perfectly, but let me see if I can use that to do it. All right, so there we go, like that. Okay, and it's a little bit elusive because I've definitely got a different shape. So let's slide it up here. And I don't care if it matches or not. I just need to get some darkness in it. Just way, way, way too light. All right, so I need to give it some substance. So let's just darken it like that. Okay. And how thick is this? Let's kind of peel it back and look at it. See, is it dark enough? No, it's not nearly dark enough. But let's look at it. There it is. Okay. I'm going to darken it just by going in here, freehanding next to it. Now, a lot of people wonder, why do you put an edge on the shield, on the helmet? There's no edge there. It kind of blends into everything. So you see here, this kind of blends, that darkness blends right into there. Yeah. Darken, darken, darken. Okay, let's get the tips of these managed. And then darken that a little bit. Come on, get in there. That's pretty black. That's a pretty dark one. So I'm going to be aggressive with the amount of paint I'm laying down. Hold it down with my finger. I want it sharp, so I'm going to hold it down with my finger. Everything up at the top is very sharp. He doesn't have much softening with the exception of the cape. Okay, everything's really, really sharp. That means I need to hold very closely onto this bit. Okay, I'm also noticing there's a little like a dark line around the edge here. I probably started adding it already. Let me get a little more aggressive with it here. See if I can add a little more of it here. Let's see if I can. I don't know if it's going to fit, but make it dark like that. Okay. I don't mind if I get a little overspray and stuff like that. It's not really going to hurt anything. Okay, what's going on here? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to darken this more, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to use the brush, the wet brush, to create a little structure. So this time I'm going to go in like this, put a little background in there like that. Okay, just some background. And I'm going to take a wet brush, just make that super dark. This is really, really dark at the tips. Okay, he was very, very dark, very aggressive with the amount of paint we're putting down. Okay, same here. Let's get in there like that, right on it. Then I'm going to take that wet brush and I'm going to use that to bring the highlights back out. And that'll give me enough grunge, I hope, to give me what I want. So let's get that reference in there so I can see it. Let's put the reference right here. Okay, and let's see. I've got some kind of weird shape going through here like this. Let's see it going in there like that. Two long highlights there. Okay, don't get too crazy with them. And leave the brush strokes, a little hollow there. And I see some more areas in here, but I need more paint on there to make that show up, don't I? So let me go ahead and add a little more paint through here. Oh, hold that down. Okay. Why? Because this is a sharp area. I want to keep it sharp. Okay. And yeah, I think that'll work. And then let's kind of void out a couple places in there and get it prepared to add color on it later. All right. So what's happening? I've got a light area here. Let's kind of make a circle and kind of a hard edge right through there. And I'm just kind of making some circles. Now these circles aren't working too great for me, right? They're actually making dark stripes there. So I might be better served to try to erase this off. I'll try a little more with this and see if this works, but I just have a feeling the eraser might be a better candidate for me. Okay, I think that'll work a little better down here. I mean, I like the brush strokes and everything. You know, let's bring some brush strokes through there. But truthfully, I'm just not seeing the results I want with the open areas. These areas are going to be yellow and stuff like that. So let me put a little more paint on it. Okay, and let's go after this instead with the brush. And I don't recommend not using the brush. The brush should be used, but this should be supplemented with these other tools because that makes a difference. Okay, so look at it. Let's kind of find my bearings here. There's that highlight right there. It comes down. It's going to do this right here. It's going to turn that way. Okay, then right up above it, there's a little, right in the center of that, there's a little highlight. That's going to be the yellow thing. Right next to it's kind of a little short banana kind of shape. Okay, and this is open. Okay, and I think that will, I don't need too much other than that. I mean, there's a couple places I like to open up a little more that got a little dark, maybe under this condition. Say, for instance, the shape in here is a little bit dark. I don't know if I can get that out of there. Yeah, and just pick it up with my finger to get rid of the extra. Just some here like that. Pick up my finger to get rid of the extra. Okay, and then let's open that up a little bit too. Okay, use my finger to open that up. So I'm just trying to pull this out. I'm trying to keep the black out of there though. Yeah, I don't want it to gather up and become black, so I'm using my finger to lift it up without that excess paint once I dislodge it. Again, let's just drag some lines through it like that. Okay, now it might seem a little bit high, too much, like it's got too much light in it, or too light. But remember, we're going to darken down when we add the sections of color on top of it. So we'll darken down. So don't worry about that. Okay, I'm going to pull this. Let's lighten this edge down here too. So that's a whole light area in there. Here's my finger. Okay, kind of smear and smudge it. Okay, I probably should just wipe off my brush. That would solve a lot, wouldn't it? Okay, so I hope that's right. Let's kind of look at it and see where we're at with it. Okay, now this kind of shows the deficiency. I'm really still too light in this tip of it. That's too light. It needs to be more black. So because I lifted up, it allowed me to detect some problems. So right on the top is a dark line. It's right on the top of each feather right there. Darken, so I'm just reinforcing this with a little more darkness on it. There it is. Okay, is that dark? How dark is that? That's really dark too. Doesn't come as far down. And then don't forget to put that little surround on it. There we go. So I feel like that's, making some progress. Now I'm going to get back into the helmet. I'm going to push this helmet a little bit further. Darken that spot right there. Okay. And then there's a kind of a highlight in there. I'm going to go around it like this. that should be black, but that's what this will do. Okay, and let's just connect that. So a lot of bridges to connect. You'll see the bridges created by the stencil that I'm using, that I used to make the stencil together. Now I'm just kind of starting to connect them up together. I'm going to start feathering this over a little bit onto the helmet a little bit. Just bring it over here, like that. Okay. And hold that down. Hold that tight, guys. Tight. Hold that. Do not let any underspray get under that. So I'm going to softly blend this toward the center. Now I don't want to go all the way because I need really room for some yellow on it, but I am starting to kind of bring some color over this to help this look a little more like a helmet. Okay, soften, 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 soften. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to pause and look at it, say, okay, let's do the other side now. Okay, this is darker. This is really dark and it's super dark. So I'm going to commit a lot of paint to this down the side, all the way down the side, and really not to the very end. There's kind of a point right here. Let's see if I can make a point to it like that. Okay, a little bit of color on that. There's a bridge right there. Let's get rid of that bridge. See the bridge right there? Okay, let's just bring that up and soften it up. Let's shorten that a little bit. Okay, and then let's bring this in some more. Now I need more contrast. I'm staying away from the centerpiece because I'm really too light in there. I need more contrast, so I'm going to go in there with the helmet on it, and I'm going to reimpose more color on that because I just don't have enough contrast. But in the meantime, this is really, really dark, super black. There's no boundary in here; it just comes over like that. Okay, so we've got to be willing to do what the reference prescribes. Okay, can we get that in there? Come on over, come on over. And let's kind of see if we can feather that up. I don't know if I can get away with it. Let's just feather that up a little bit like that. There we go. A little bit of color in there. Okay, this is not too far from the color actually. I mean, it was a little more yellow in it, but I'm pretty sure that we can stay with this. There's a bridge right here across the nostril here. Let's see if I can make that happen right in, I think it's right about here. Yeah. And then the bottom certainly gets a little bit of color like that. So we get that nostril going. Okay, I think that's right. Oh, that's probably not right. I think I made his nostril too high. Let's measure. Okay, that's the best way. I think I blew that. Maybe not, but let's find out. Let's put this right on top of it. Line it up as it should be. Okay, check it, check it, check it. Okay. Yeah, I'm just a hair high, just a hair. Gosh, such a minute smidge. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this tip back down a little bit like that. Okay, that's all I need to do to make that kind of work for me. Okay, so excuse me. If that happens, you have the power to make the adjustment. All right, so I said I was going to bring this back. Let's bring this back. Bring the helmet back. I need a lot more contrast. It's just too light. And it's way too light, so I need to fix that. How am I going to fix that? Well, I'm going to put more paint. Now, it needs another color on there, like a green or something, so I'm not really going to go all the way, but I'm going to move it toward the goal, just slightly. So I'm going to bring it toward the goal. Something's wrong here, I'm backwards, okay? Don't forget to check that. How do you know you're backwards? There's paint. If there's no paint on your stencil, that means you're backwards, because there's paint from our first pass, and that should be on there still. All right, so let's get that lined up. Slowly but surely, line it up carefully. Okay, and this is the part under here I need to go darker with. That needs to go darker. Everything is really dark. It's just too light. So let's darken. Oh man, I feel like I moved it. Here we go. I feel like I'm too light in here. Let's just get a little dose more of this. Just darken some things down. Okay, let's get in here and push that darker too. So I'm darkening it down, get a little more contrast in there. Because it needs it. Okay. Now you can see. Okay, we're good. There's a couple places that might need a little touch up. I've got a little thick on some lines, but not a big deal. Guys, I've got some double lines in here. This is the time where you'd use the dowel. The dowel would fix everything. You see some almost like double vision here with the stencil moved, and that was my fault. I'm going to dip the dowel, and I'll dip it in water. Let's just see if water does anything for us. I'm just going to clean it up. I'm going to go in here and maybe make this a little bit bigger like that. Okay, and there's a line here. I'm okay on that line, but this line got obliterated, didn't it? I kind of missed that, didn't I? So let's kind of restore that and bring it back. Try to be smooth with it. See, I'm pulling this and pushing it. I want to be smooth, flowing curves with that. Okay, there's a light up here, a little round. Let's just make that a sphere right now. A sphere right there. And so I'm going back in and clean up. You might find some places that are just missing stuff. So I'm going to end, and I don't really see any texture or anything detail in there. Not at all. This is going to stay white. Now, if you're worried about it getting too dark in here, take your eraser and just kind of go in there like this and kind of lightly erase it. Don't erase it all. And this will kind of wash it out right here. You see what I'm doing? All that detail right in the center is getting kind of flared out of there. Okay, I've got some serious double vision here on the on that. I've got some serious problems. I just messed up pretty badly, but let me see what I can do about that. I wonder I kind of fix this, that line going over that needs to go back to it. Let's get that line back up. This time I'm not going to mess up like I did before. Okay, paying attention. You see, making third big mistake today. That's my third big one. Okay, so you're making mistakes, don't feel bad. We're all in the same boat together. So let's go ahead. I need that dark across the top there. And that, okay. I think that gave me what I wanted. Let's look and see. Okay, sticky paint right there. I kind of picked it, but that's better. That's got a little bit of darkness on it now. And I've got a weird something happening over on the other side. Okay, this is, I'm talking about right here. Okay, that it might not be a problem because I think that I can clean some of that up. But let me see. Let me fix that. This is not going to fall into the dark suicide. I really don't think it's going to matter. But what's going on here? This thing looks like it goes. I'm missing this kind of line that goes across it like this. Push it over here like that. I really need some ammonia here, but that doesn't work. What can I use? Let's use the blade. The blade will cut through anything. So I'm going to take that blade. I'm just going to come through like this. And I'm going to curve it down. It curves way down. How much down does it curve? Okay, let's look. Check it, check it, check it. Oh, I need to curve way more than I do. I need to curve like this. So my first line was wrong. So yeah, mistake number 4. So you're getting we got to count. Am I going to get a half a dozen today? I don't know. Let's keep on trying to see what we can do. All right. So again, the fortunate thing about this is that this is all going in shadow. So that scratch right there that seems so prominent is actually going to get pushed back like this. It's going to push back in shadow like that. So all this is actually going to go, not going away, but it's going to be subdued a good bit. So you're not going to see so much of that. So that's why you didn't see me freak out or worry about it. I'm going to push in a little bit more on each side, a little bit more at the top, just kind of helping that along. Just leaving that a light spot in the center there. Now, it is darker up here, but I think I'm starting to see a little more other colors in there, so I'm going to stay real light with this. I'm seeing more like purple and stuff on top of that. So I'm not really going to commit too much in there. Let's go back into the nose area and let's get work here a little bit. All right, let's keep, and I would recommend keeping your reference close by, okay? Keep your reference close by, like that. And see if I can make that happen. It's coming down like that. And, you know, the stencil doesn't do it all for it. It helps us, but in the end, we have to, you know, kind of find our own way. This is super dark next to this. Let's go next to that, make it dark. Okay, he's got some, I see some wrinkles in there. We can go ahead and put those in there. There's a wrinkle across the nose right there. It's more red than this. I really shouldn't put this in how that's this. If I do, I need to keep it light because it's really an orange wrinkle. What about this? I see a bridge. Let's get rid of that bridge. Come on down a little bit further with it. Okay, and what else? Nose. A little bit of color across the nose like that. Just kind of come right across the nose like that, very lightly. Okay, and maybe a little more than what I've got. That's going to be more of an orange, I think, later on. And put a little color on the beard just to kind of tint it a little bit. And I don't want much on there. Let's get that bridge fixed. Okay, and just tint a little bit. It's more of an orange, but I'm going to get a little bit of tint with this color here. It's one color, just a little bit. I want to kind of mute a little bit because I think on the bottom might be a little bit too strong here. I'm guessing. Kind of a dangerous game to play too because you remember you can always darken, but it's not so easy to lighten. Okay. Now, regarding the nose, I made that mark across the nose, and what I really want to do is help refine it. And that means I want to take this dowel, and there's a highlight right on the tip of the nose right here. So I need to put that in there. I'm just going to, that dowel's dead. Let's try this. It's right in between the nostrils, almost even with this. So I'm going to stick it right there. Okay, there's this reflection. There's this highlight on his nose. Okay, that'll help. It's not going to do everything for us, but while I'm at it, I'm going to put a little highlight. I'm going to make this thinner. So where I see a lighter spot, you know, I might have an opportunity to do something about it. I will. Obviously, this is going to be light up under here, so let's do what I can to bring that up. Okay, scratch that. I'm using the dowel, guys, here. And I see another highlight. And I'm doing this now. Why? Well, because the paint's going to cure and I won't be able to use the dowel later on. So I need to do this now while the dowel functions. It won't function once the paint cures because the paint becomes like rock hard and the dowel is just ineffective against it. So I must find a ways to do it now instead of waiting. I don't want to wait till later. If I wait till later, I'm going to be sad. Okay, so any place there's a highlight that I'm missing, you know, like in here, go back in here and bring those highlights back out. Anything bright yellow also will need to be addressed because the yellow won't show up if it's not on a white background. Okay, this is all going to get white in here, so I kind of scrub that back out a little bit and get that to become white in there because it is white. So I'm just going to make that glow a little more. Yeah, okay, that's good. And then maybe a little bit on that highlight right there. Let's kind of bring this along the top of this. Let's highlight that a little bit more. So there's a highlight definitely across the top of this shield on the front of this helmet, the emblem on the front of the helmet. And the good thing about this dial is it's just like white paint. I mean, you can do so much with it on this paper. Like, what else do I see? I don't see too much else in there going on. I think that's pretty good. All right, now let me go ahead and hit this. I got a bridge in here. You see the bridge right here on this side of the next to the helmet? Let's get that handle. Try not to hit the helmet too much. Although there's some paint on the helmet. Let me go ahead and hit some on the helmet. There we go. There's a bridge there, and let's just soften those edges up by going in and freehanding around that. I'll leave that little bit of illumination in there. Okay, and there's a shadow right in front of this this part of the helmet. I don't know if you can see that or not, but right in front of the helmet, there's an edge there. So let me put that in there. A piece of paper will help me. I'm going to right there. See it right there. I'm just going to like that. See what I did? I'm just adding that edge to it. And it comes right down to the shadow like that. Okay, so maybe mine's too thick. I don't know, maybe mine's too thick. Mine's too thick. It is too thick. So what should I do about that? Well, I got two choices. I can thin it down. I can make this wider, or I can push this, make this thinner on that side. I'm thinking I'm going to make this a little bit wider. I'm going to bring it out a little more like this. Okay, because I think it was probably too thin. There we go. Just kind of bringing that out a little bit to that degree. Okay, and if I need to clean this up, and I certainly think I do, this is probably a little bit too aggressive out there. So I'm going to kind of shave it back a little bit, smooth it out a little bit. Now when I do that, it becomes a little bit too soft. You can see that? Oh, sorry, too hard edge. The edge is too hard. What can I do about that? Well, in this case, I can soften it by just spraying on it again. I can just go back and revisit with this spray. Just kind of put some over the area. A little overspray will come out there and help me. Okay, and I see some wrinkles. You know, just kind of add a few wrinkles, kind of at the boundary of the shadow there. Okay, and I'm on a hunt. I'm looking for stuff, looking for trouble, right? I'm trying to see what I need. I've got a little bit of a edge right there to the beard. A little bit of let's shadow that beard a little bit here. And this is very light, guys. I'm super light. I'm like 10%. It's really light. Like that. See, I'm just coming out there. Let's go back and get that part of that shoulder that I revisited. Of course, I'm out of paint. So what should I do about that? Well, obviously put more paint in there, guys. Just one drop. I'm not putting much at a time, because if I want to switch to black, I don't want to be wasting it. Okay, so let's get the shoulder going. Okay, I was too far gone in that other one. It's just soft. It actually comes out under the shoulder, so it covers this part up and actually drifts out into the shoulder a little bit. You probably can see that. All right. Obviously, the airbrush is not. I don't know if it's the paint or the airbrush, but definitely not cooperating. Let's see if I can make it work. There we go. All right. So is that dark enough? Well, let's look and see. Are we in this? I'm not quite dark enough, and it's still too bright. So let's add a little more. I'm being cautious because what happened last time? I got too dark, remember? And I had to go back and erase that out. I don't want to do that again. I'm going to try to be on the money this time. Okay, trying to be. So let's push out to here and stop and look. This needs to be softer on the bottom of it. I see this just more paint on the bottom, like that. It kind of rolls up like that, and it becomes more subtle. Put a little more paint on it. Stop and look. Stop and evaluate. It's starting to get close. The top of it looks too light. Let's add a little more paint to the edges, soften that top of that. So I'm really just spraying next to the light area, letting the overspray soften it up. Okay, and I can afford to do that because, well, the background's dark. Let's darken that a little bit more. Probably a little bit too much. Let's see if I can add a little more to it. Okay, now it's getting pretty close. Although I think I got it too dark up there. I don't know. I'm gonna leave it for now, just in case. I'm gonna put a little bit in there too, and soften this edge up. And put a little more. Soften some of these edges up, guys. They really need to get softer. Some of these, the bottoms of these in here like that. They need to soften up. Okay. There's a little bit of a softness right in the top of this this deltoid right here. And that it softens up. And a little bit of a shadow on it. So I'm going to run this around it, and it just kind of softens that edge up just a little bit like that. See what I'm doing? And this is called modeling. When you're transitioning the edges to make it softer like this, the top edge and the bottom edge, leaving that hard in the middle, it's called modeling. Artists do that. Painters do that a lot to make their images look hopefully better. Now I can go ahead and be refining the teeth a little bit. Those teeth, and I can go ahead and start darkening them. Don't darken too much, but you can see they definitely need a little more darkness than what I've got. Okay, and I'm just go ahead and pursue that. Push that in there like that. And most of the bottoms of these fade out. Now, I did mention earlier that I'm too light right there, and let me do something about this. Put my finger over that, and take that. I'm just going to go in and darken this pretty substantially. Okay, that's pretty dark. So we get in there and hose it down pretty good. Yeah, obviously, I'm still too light in here. Let's fix that. Right. And in the chest area, let's get that My airbrush has decided to stop. I'm out of paint. Okay, so I'm stopping, I'm pausing, and I'm evaluating. Okay, that's really important to do here, guys. Pause and evaluate. Check out what you're doing because it's so easy to go too far. I'm going to model the nose a little bit. Just come right down the side of the nose, just barely, 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 barely. Meaning I'm just going to, this probably needs to be more orange than what I'm giving it, but I can definitely see it. Also, the cheek right there is a little bit darker than I've got it indicated. So I'm just going to darken that too. So I came back and revisiting areas that I saw before, but that I see now could use a little more help. Okay, and I'm just kind of helping that along by revising some of these areas that are deficient. Okay, I got a couple of lines that kind of go down here like this, and one that goes up here like this. Kind of, let's see what's going on here. There's a little bit of an edge there too. So I'm just kind of working through here, adding the shapes as I want to. I do have some darkness in some of these areas in here, but the color's wrong. There's maybe warm right here. That's purple, so I'm gonna stay away from that. This area, this side right here, this wing is really a lot darker than what I've got it, isn't it? So let's get in there and be very aggressive with it. So I'm gonna get in there and make that super dark, okay? And I'm laying on a paint, gosh darn it. Well, since I ran out of paint, I'll switch to black, okay? Switch to black, okay? And maybe that'll sway better. All right, so let's try this black in here. Let's get that darker, make it more menacing looking, okay? And I'm gonna get this in darken this too. Push this up into here like that, just darken it, darken it, darken it. It's really dark in here. I don't want to go super, super dark, but I mean, so we're talking about 97%, maybe not 98%, but you know, pretty darn dark, okay? And now I'm looking around to see what else I can do. I'm gonna put some of this over the top here, because I see some dark marks right here, and let's put some right in here too. This is gonna be more purple, but I need to go ahead and establish some dark around it. Let's put some along that boundary here, yeah? Okay, and I'm doing a lot, I know I'm doing a lot. Hopefully it'll be easy. I know I got purple here, but you see how it looks kind of blue when I put that in there? It looks so nice, cool. It looks cool because everything around it is so warm. That's all relative, so I can get away with that pretty much. Let's make that darker in here. Fade it onto the side of the helmet there. Let's see what else. I think that should get pretty. I do want to do the arms, but I'm gonna wait because I just threw a lot at you. Okay, that was a lot. I would darken this more, but I need more brown in there, not so much the black. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there and see what we can do about moving this thing forward. We're doing pretty well. We're actually schedule-wise, we're doing great. I'm covering the ground I want to cover, which is the important parts of it, which, as you can see, abound. Right, so let's go ahead and pause the video. Action. Okay, I put the mask in here. I've got that ready to go, and hopefully that's going to do what I need it to do. So I notice in here there's a kind of a line in there. I'd like to create that line. I might have to get a little Windex to get it in there, but it's a little like a sharp line. So I'm thinking about taking the dowel and just wetting the tip of the dowel and looking at this shape, and it kind of comes over and goes like this. So that dowel's terrible. Let me get a better one. Something that doesn't have all that stuff over it. There we go. All right, gotta try to work with a broken dowel. That's no good. So I'm just coming here like this, and it comes up and goes down, and then it does this right here. Okay, now if you're not getting enough cut out of that, you can certainly feel welcome to come with the blade and do some work with the blade, and that's what I'm going to do. All right, I'm going to take that blade. I'm just going to scratch out a highlight. Now it needs to be pretty wide, so I'm going to lay that blade way down on its side. Yeah, and this is going to be a lot darker than what I've got. I'm just going to put something in there like that. Just get it wide, nice and wide like that. One thing about using the blade, it doesn't like to go around curves. You'll find that out pretty quickly. It's really difficult to get it to go around the curves, so you have to kind of work with it a little bit. Yeah. So let me go back to the dial and see if I can get some satisfaction out of that. I'll put a little more Windex on it than what I had. That should give me a little more action. So let's put a good bit of Windex on it. And I'm going to use this kind of go slow and give it a chance to melt. So if I go real slow like this with the dial, it gives it a chance for the paint to melt. Now the reason I like the dial is because it gives me a wider cut than the blade. The blade also, as I mentioned, doesn't like to go around corners. There we go. So you can see I've kind of got that started here, and that's what I wanted to do. Okay, and this goes, it doesn't quite touch the end, but it goes pretty far. It doesn't quite touch the end. So I've got the seep in here again, and I've got a shape that comes in like this. Just ignore the scratch, and then just kind of push it like this, and just get a little bit of color in there like that. Just kind of, let's tint that back a little bit. It's kind of darker than what I've got. And there's a couple of lines in here like that. There's a vein that's through there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's a vein right there, and I'm going to go on the other side of it like that and kind of leave a little bit of a highlight to indicate it like this, okay? It's basically going to go up. You can see there's a little bit of this in the stencil, so you might really get this from the stencil. This is going to be red, kind of a red-brown, so I'm going to stay light with it right now. Tint all this, but plan on coming on top with some red-brown or something, maybe like, I don't know what, burnt umber might be a nice candidate for it. So we're just going to work that like that. Try to keep the splotches out. I've got distance in here, trying to keep the splotches out of it. Okay, and what about a little bit on top here, a little bit on top. And there's kind of a shadow that defines his bicep. It actually comes off of this like this, and it starts curving down. It's kind of dipping it right here, kind of coming around like that. It works its way into there. So if you're not sure about where that lives, here's what you do. You put the mask on top of it, line it up. Align it with the arrows if you want to. Make sure my alignment's better. That alignment's pretty bad. Look at that alignment. I missed it completely, didn't I? That's my, what, fifth area of the day? I think so. So I'm going to address it. Let me first get this in here, and then I'll address that issue. Let's line it up like that. Okay, and then I'm trying to line this up so I can get these marks in here done correctly. Get that a little bit wider. And that comes up there. Now I've got a couple of errors in here. It's pretty big. This is my 6th error of the day. Okay, hopefully there won't be too many more, but I'm not going to count on it because generally speaking, errors are going to happen. So let's get this moved down. What happened? This moved out of place. That's the number one big error. It moved out of place like that. But good news is that I should be able to revive that without any problem. But what I'm thinking here is that when I made this line here, I made this too low. You can kind of see that edge right there. It's wrong. So I'm going to bring it down to here. Just going to line things back a little bit better. Like that. Let's get up there. Let's kind of move that like that. Okay. And kind of bring it over in there like that. Okay, and that kind of helps. Now, there's another line right here. I'm going to indicate that. Now, obviously, when I stretch this out, it's way too strong, isn't it? It's just way too light. Let's get in there like that. And I've got to fix that, or to compensate for this. Move that on so I can see what I'm doing. To compensate for that, I'm just going to come with the black later, or the darker color later, and cover up these lines. So they're not really going to be so prominent later. They'll be a lot more subdued later on. So let's kind of add a few here. Now, the problem here is my edge stencil was in too close, so I'm going to respray it right there. But first, I'm going to establish these lines in here, like that. And this needs to come up a little bit more, like that. I don't see brush strokes in here, but I definitely see some types of anomalies that, not very sterile. It's got a lot of cool stuff going on in it. Okay, and there's a kind of a highlight right there. Okay, now I have a chance to correct this. So I'm going to back in here, and I'm going to line up not on the arm, but I'm lining up on everything else that I put in here. So the arrows especially, the arrowheads, that kind of thing. That's where the line should have been, I think. Let's double check it. Right about there. That's probably more like it. That's where the line should have been. You see how I missed it by a mile, right? So, but I can fix that. It's not a big deal. It's in the shadow, so that's going to hide a multitude of sins. I'm just going to use that to darken. I'll just kind of push that darker here along in there. And this is going to be a red-brown, so it will be okay, I think. Let's push this in here. Let's kind of bring that up and shadow that a little bit, give it a little more bulk to it. And let's start pushing some shadow onto this too. A little shadow right onto where I was. That. This is the sepia, by the way, in case you're not sure. And this is really, really darkened, so just go ahead and commit darkness to that. It's pretty dark underneath it too. All right. Now, if this line persists at the bottom, we have ways of dealing with that. We'll show you that. I'm also going to get in here and just make a line underneath that highlight right there. Like that, okay? Easy, easy. All right, so then what I want to do is I'd like to get in there and do a little bit of surgery here. Let's kind of remove this here out of the way. I've got this brown, this sepia in here. I want to start looking at the cape, okay? And the cape, what it does, it's basically a brown that's in here like this. And I'm just going to go in here like this, make it thicker, like that, and give the edge some roughness, okay? It's going to be black as I get into here. I'll need some black for that. And basically, I'm going to make this soft. There's also a kind of a line. I want you to put that line in here like this. Just got a little bit of a tail right there, okay? So get that in there. Make sure this is dark. Fill that in. Fill it in well, okay? And you may see some areas that just need to go darker, like I see that this needs to go darker in here. Let's just darken it up a little more, okay? And what else? What else? You just keep on looking at it. This is too long, this beard part. Let's shorten that up a little bit. And I've got some weird lines going through there, but I think they're supposed to be, I think they're okay. Just kind of notice some weird things going on. Okay, so coming back to the, this shoulder, I need to soften that front of it right there. It's a little bit too wrong. We'll just say it's wrong. So let's soften that, blur that a little bit. It needs to be black, so I'm not going to go too far. There's an error I have also in the armpit. Let's bring this back up here. Let me correct that. So I'm going to lay that in there really heavy. And you see there's a kind of a jagged thing that goes up under there. I need to make sure I include that. This is kind of a little part of his quiver that comes down in here like that, okay? Because his arm actually jumps upward. So what I mean by that? Well, this part in the pit actually goes up pretty far. It goes up into there like that, okay? Let's smooth that out. So let's make sure we include that. Pay attention to that. as you go, okay? And there's a hollowed out area right in here, like a little triangle. And I don't know if I can get that with this tool, but maybe the eraser might do it, but I'm not having much luck with that. So let's dip it in a little ammonia and we'll see what that does to it. So it's a little D shape. Let's weaken it first, put the ammonia on it. Let's pick it up with my finger, there we go. And what about here? Let's clean that up too. Pick it up with my finger and clean that up like that, okay? So that kind of helps me kind of bring things back in. Let's smooth that edge out if I can. Smooth it out, make that nice and more round. Okay, now while I've got this in here, I would like to go over, while I've got the brown in here, and deal with this other side, which is still the cape. Okay, I want to get to the top of the cape. The cape has a lot of necessary types of spray on it, like it's got a brown on it. If you look at it carefully, you'll see it. Let's bring it up here. And what he did is he came in there, he put this brown in here. That was the brown he put in there. And then afterwards, he drug the yellow down on top. You can actually see the yellow being dragged on the top of it to soften it up. There's a yellow boundary that kind of feathered out. We're not going to do it that way, but we are going to add some texture to it. So I'm just, in the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and put this in here. I'm going to leave a boundary up there for more yellow. And I'm just going to go and trace the border here like this. Trace it like that. Okay, just get that straight. Well, I've got this color in here, and this, bring it on down into the black if you need to. Just darken it, darken it. It's going to be super black on there, but I'm just trying to get the boundary. Okay, and I need to roughen this. I need to roughen this boundary up, and the reason I want to do that is because he did that. It's done with a brush. But if you have like a eraser brush, it'd be easier because you need something brutal. So almost something like this. But if you don't have that, use your other brush. Okay, that'll work just fine too. If you've got your regular brush, and I'm going to dip the tip of my other brush, the tip of it, in the ammonia. Okay, so it's wet. We'll make it damp now, and I'm going to go in here, and I just want to take this along the sides and tap it like this, okay? And I'm tapping it just to break that up a little bit. Just tap it, and I'm going to wipe it this way, okay? You see I'm just breaking it up a little bit. I'm trying to create a little bit of noise in there. Like that. Just kind of tap it and drag it, tap and drag it like that. Now, if you got too much, and I pick it up with the tip of your finger. If it builds up like that, see I'm picking up and that, and I'm just going along in here now. Just kind of work your way. I know I'm going to frame there, so I'll try to get back into the frame. So I'm trying to get this boundary in here to kind of gradually soften. So I'm just kind of touching it here, turn it sideways, rotate it, touch it a little bit to lift that paint off so it doesn't start getting black. If you go too far and make it too dark all the way through it, that's okay because we can always darken it back, so don't worry about that. The trick is to try to make some tiny dots with it. That's what you're trying to do, is make it rough, create some tiny dots in here. And we'll soften it with the airbrush for sure, but I just want a little bit of underlying texture there. Let's shove it back over here and do the same thing over on this side. I want to get some of that going too. So in here, I'm just going to make some of these dots. And you see where he kind of plunged into it. He actually went this way with it. He kind of dragged into it like that over it. So now some of my dots might be too big. Again, let's push into it. Keep your overspray or artifacts out of the yellow if you can. Now it's harder to make this now because the paint's drying up, so I'm having a little more difficulty with it. Okay, you see it's actually just smears like that. If that happens, don't fret. Just make noise in it. I'm just going to go around and make some noise. And I'm going to go ahead and dive into the body of it like this, okay? It's a little bit different treatment than the other side, okay? This is a whole different, I'm trying a different technique. I'm trying to just add a general whole background of noise like this. This is where I told you I'd be experimenting. I'm experimenting here on this side too. So let's push that into there. Okay, so once I get the noise in there, I'm going to try to change the position of it by overspraying it with the paint. So in other words, I'm going to take this and I'm just going to move that position, that boundary over like this. See, I'm softening that edge now and moving everything back to the edge where it was, and maybe tint some of these a little bit darker. Then I'm going to get a little bit of a glow here, just soften it up a little bit. Right. Get a little bigger there. Okay. And I think that'll kind of do it. Let's darken it a lot in there. It's really dark. It's actually a black cape, but in here it appears brown. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to think about maybe add a smudge or two here. I want to go to the other side. I want to put some, I would like to put some brown over and define the shoulder. So I'm going to go over this shoulder over here. You can see where we are. Okay, and right in here, and I want to put some color in there. Now, obviously, it's not, the final is more of a red, but it's not really a red against the shoulder. You notice he's got a dark edge around against the shoulder. He made it intentionally dark there because I guess he wanted it to be dark. So I'm going to locate my shoulder, which is over here. And there she is. Okay. See if that works here. There it is right there. Okay, I'm gonna get in there, and of course there's an extra line here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a line there. I need to seal that up. Okay, I can't really allow overspray to get in there because that's death to my painting. Okay, so I don't need that. I want to get that out of there. How can I get that? Well, I can put a piece of tape across it. That's probably the best antidote right there, is to try to block it off with tape. So I'm just going to get a little piece of tape. Let's get that in there, get that back into position. Take some time to position it the way it needs to be. Rotate it there. And then I'm going to try to block that off like this. Oops. Because I need to do that. Let's put that right there. And I'll tell you, if you don't have the right tools for it, it's a little bit more challenging, but we certainly can do that. One thing you might do is off screen cut a curve in it. Okay, what I mean by that? Well, just cut a curve and see if you can get that curve to fit. And let me show you how. Let me show you what I mean by that. Give me a moment to get my tape. My tape is misbehaving. All right, there we go. So I've got a kind of a curve in here. I'm hoping that curve will help me kind of get to where I need to be. So lay it on here like this. Now, obviously, this is like surgery, right? It's backwards, of course. It's such a thin little stretch there. You have to. It's really frustrating because it's hard to shove that around, right? Let me see if I can shove it around. Then I'll worry about positioning the stencil. There we go. So that's kind of starting to help it. And now I'll cut another piece, another curve in it. So I'm just cutting a little piece of curve in the tape. And I'm using that curve in there to kind of help me fit it up against the edge there. Okay. And this is one of those things that when I built the stencil, I wasn't really considering the consequences of this shallow, thin line here. That's just part of the lesson learned. Okay, so let's get that. All right, so I think that should seal that up pretty good. Now I've got to line it back up. You know, obviously I've got some alignment issues. So let's see if I can get that working. Obviously this one isn't working because it came off. Let's get this back in position. And this is what you might require a little patience. Yes, indeed. Okay, but that's okay. We have infinite patience, right? Well, most of us do. I don't, but I try to use what little I have for the good of man. All right, so here's where you're gonna. This is where the blade is your friend. This time I'm taking that blade. I'm using that blade to position and shift things around. And that blade will help you. There's the blade on there, and I think that's pretty good. Okay, so I still have a gap in there, but that gap is pretty easy to plug up. I can just kind of put something like this here, another stencil, something just to hide that in there. So what I want to do is I want to really throw some paint at this, meaning I want to darken that, because if you look at the reference, it is fairly dark around. It's almost black, okay, next to the shoulder. And he may have used some black in there, but I don't know what he used, but I'm just going to go ahead and add this to it. Okay, I'm going to get dark now. Keep looking at that reference. We're going to put red on top of this, but for now, we're going to populate this with darkness. We're going to make that dark. Now, obviously, it stopped working. I'm going to put black in there. One drop of black in my airbrush. I don't want much, just a drop. And I'm going to go after this pretty aggressively here. All right, so let's get the black coming out. And it kind of fades out like that. Okay. And this over on the top shot, I see more of that color in here. Let's just put, I see black in here, black. So I'm just push black across here like this. Okay, black in the, because there's black in this top of this cake. Right, let's just let it run across. And if I had the sepia, I would have covered that up a little more, but I don't have the sepia in there, so let's make that happen. Okay, so I'm going to slow down. I'm going to take a look at it. I don't know what's going on right there. Oh, there's a piece of tape. How dangerous is that, guys? Very dangerous. That tape could be, that's going to leave a little mark, isn't it? Well, not too bad. All right, but you see when I pull this off, I'm starting to get a nice shape going. You know, I'm starting to, his shoulder's showing more now. Now I'm going to switch, just for the fun of it, let's switch to a drop of scarlet in there. Just, you know, in the black, just for the fun of it. And let's just see what happens, right? What do we got to lose except our dignity? All right, so I'm going to put this back in here like that and reposition it so the shoulders are looking good. There we go. I'll line it back up. And let's put this back in there, because remember, that was a little bit dangerous, exposed area. If I had this part right here, I'd probably attach that back up, that arm. I don't know where it is. It's probably around here somewhere. So you might be better served to come back with the arm, stick that arm back on there, that stencil for the arm. This is definitely trying to fight me. All right, so let's see if I can lay that in there like that. I'm going to give me a double edge, but let's find out. Okay, so I've got the red in there. Red is going to come out, but it should be mixed with black. Make sure it's not hanging over too much. Not a white outline there. Okay. Ooh, it's definitely tricky. Okay, there goes the red should come out any moment. There goes the red. So I'm just trying to start adding some red to this because, well, it needs it. So I'm just starting to add the red. And you see how bright the red is by itself. As the black leaves it, it starts becoming really super red. And I don't really need it to be that red. I'm going to have to darken it for sure. But I can at least lay this down here. It'll be the first introduction of red in there. Okay, let's take a look at it. And you can see I've got a pretty bad leak right there, right? That leaked up under there. That's pretty bad. Now, of course, you don't see me worrying about that. Why not? Because I can always clean that up. That's a pretty easy clean. In fact, it probably would have been easier to do this without dealing with the mask and just clean it up afterwards, okay? Let's just check to make sure everything's in alignment here. I don't want to make a shoulder too big. I want to make sure that's, and I think the problem is that I've got it coming out a little bit too far. In other words, that curve right there is missing, okay? In other words, I should come in like that. That's probably more proper. So I'm going to bring it in like that. I'm going to put my finger over that part of it. And any part that's sticking out is going to get obliterated now. It's going to get kind of covered up. Let's get it like that. Right. Just kind of darken that down a little bit. It's going to seem really bright red in it because it is bright red, but hopefully it won't be so bad. Okay, there we go. It's a little better. Okay, still a little bit of strange artifacts in there, but I'll deal with that later. The other thing I can do is I can put that red in that spot right. Remember I said there's a little bit of red right there. I can start putting that red in there, just a hint of that. I can start saying, well, I've got red in the airbrush. Where else does red live? You know, where does red live in our piece? Well, a little bit lives under the nose, like that, under the nose like that. No, I wouldn't say so much on the beard maybe, but just looking around for it, I don't really see too much red, you know, as far as pure red. I do see some red down here, okay? So let's go ahead and add some red right here, okay? Let's add some red in this part of the arm, just kind of in there a little bit more, okay? And I'm gonna push this all the way to the shoulder. This actually shoulder's gonna go brown in there. Okay, so I'm looking around, I see some hints of red here and there, but not much. Remember, we also said something about red going somewhere else. Where was that? Okay,
Is that the magenta you're using?
at the bottom. Okay, so let me show you. Yeah, I'm going to swing this camera all the way down. I don't know if I can get it in there, but let's see if we can turn this. Turn it. And this is, when I said I'm an opportunist, I'm saying while the red is in the airbrush, why not use it, right? And I said that there's red down here. Remember, I talked about that. If you're not sure about that, well, just look at the reference and you'll see there's a hint of red in there. And there's the reference. You can see the little bit of difference of red. It's a small amount, but it's in there. So I'm just going to gently go over that with a little bit of red right there. Just barely touching it. Stop and evaluate to a little more. I'm letting it go all over because it needs it all over. I'm about an airbrush length away. That's how far away I am. And I don't know if you can see, there's probably some glare there. Okay, but this red's starting to happen there. Let's switch places with this so you can see kind of how it is head to head there. Okay. All right, so I've got the red in there. Let's kind of slide everything over like that. Okay. And do I need more? Yeah, I probably need a little more. So let's add a little more. I think there's more red in this one, but not much in there. So let's just add a little red. Kind of pause and evaluate. Say, oh, I think my red's getting a little bit red. Over in here, I need a little more red in the shadows. So let's put a little red in the shadows. Okay, kind of pull this out. Look, there's red all through here. So while I've got the red in the gun, why don't I just get rid of it? A lot of it by just overspraying the red in here. Let's put some on the snake too. I see some red in there. So I'm just kind of putting the red in places where I know it's going to eventually go. Okay, eventually. I mean, it might not be there yet, but we know it's going to live there at some point. So that's why you see me headed that direction. Okay. All right. So let me go back. I should have done this before, but let me go back to the figure. Okay. I'll swing back to the figure, and I see a little bit of red in the face. Now I'm not trying to make the skin tones or anything like that, but I'm trying to say I've got this color in my airbrush. Why not use it where it lives? Okay. And it does live in some places. For instance, it lives right in the cheek right now. I see just a hint of it. Okay. You may not be able to notice that. But when I stand back, I see a little bit of red right here. I did see it on the nose, but I see it right here, just a little bit of a hint, just a touch of it. So I'm going to put just a touch. When I say a touch, I mean just like a dot from a distance, barely putting it on there. I don't want it much on there, just a little tint like that. Just see what I'm just barely touching it in here. A little bit of red in this area too. And if I put too much, it's going to be a problem. So I'm not going to put too much. I'm just putting a little bit in there just to kind of suggest it, little hints of it there. Okay, just to kind of get things going. Okay, obviously it's not right yet. But we're just kind of moving toward it. Okay, that's all I'm doing is trying to move toward the target. I see a little bit of red in the helmet there. And don't get crazy with it. Don't get all crazy. Remember, I saw some red in the shoulder right there. Okay, I see that in the shoulder. So I'm just going to put that red right in there in the shoulder like that. You see, I put it in there pretty heavily because it's in there. And under that muscle, there's a little bit of red right under the muscle there. And maybe a little orange there, but just a little bit of red there. I saw a little bit of red in one of these bows too, and these arrows too. Just keep it level here. Keep it on the screen. All right, there we go. All right, I saw it. I know you saw it too. Right in this one right here. I believe it's this one. No, it's this one. Okay, now I put the red on. If it doesn't show up, what's the problem? The problem is I don't have a light enough background. If that's the case, what you want to do is you want to take your eraser, and I don't know where my eraser went. I'm just going to use this eraser and erase the spot out. Okay, so I'm taking that eraser and say I need a highlight right there. So I'm just going to erase them off of it like that. And a spot. Okay, a little bit hard edge right now. I don't like that hard edge. What can I do about that? Well, I should be able to soften it up with a little bit of water. Okay, so I'm gonna get in there with this and just kind of soften it with a little bit of water like that. Okay, it's not working yet, but I might need some, there we go. See, now it's breaking up a little bit, it's softening. I see another arrow with some red in it right next to it, right here. Let's put some water on it, see if we can lighten up. See what I'm doing? I'm pulling that off. I need to lighten up because if I don't lighten it up, the red won't show up. So I'm pushing that color off of that. So let's just kind of push the color off that. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm gonna throw the red in there. It's kind of wet, so I gotta watch that. Let's touch it to get the water off. And I'm just gonna add some red in here. It's a dark red. Okay. There we go, like that. This red's obviously not dark enough, but it is red. Okay. And I'll put some in here too. This will get too light, but I'm gonna darken it later. Just put the red in there, and later on we'll darken it. Okay. All right. So that's kind of where we're headed with that. I know that was a lot, but don't worry. We are going to go back, and after the next step of this, we'll finish up the cape. I want to finish the cape up with the next step, but for now, let's just get everything established and get things going. Okay. I'll pause it right there and stop recording. Here's my recording. There it is. Okay, so I've started some red in here, some yellow and orange in here, just to kind of, after I've got this masked out, just as a test. And I'm going to hold this over that to see if it lines up, if I'm putting things in the right place. And that orange really needs to come through here like that at a pretty large, a pretty heavy, very saturated result. So let's go ahead and throw it on there. And I want it to go really heavy. Now let's push all the way over to the edge there. Okay, and that should get me in there. There's a couple little tendrils or like little bits that come in here. Now what I'll probably do with that, I'll just scratch that out of the black and respray it. Okay, that's easier than trying to go around it. Okay, let's get a little more in there too, and let's kind of get up in there. Now what's around it is probably more of a red violet in there. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, so I'm gonna switch over now to let's switch to red. Let's put the scarlet to it. A little bit of scarlet in there, a couple drops, all you need. And I'm just gonna go ahead, and you can see already this is pretty, it's not too far from it in the highlight. So again, make sure that's dry it really well. Because if you lay your reference down on top of it when it's wet, it's going to be no bueno, right? So if you look at it, just flip it up and down a couple of times. It is still wet. Look at me picking that up. I said don't do it, and what did I do? I did exactly what I said not to do. Was that mistake number 6 today? I believe so. At least number 6, probably more than that. So I'm just taking the red and start darkening the edges here. I'm going to leave the center of it kind of intact, and I'm going to go in here and push the red harder in that place where I picked it up. Now let's go around the boundary of it with the red. It kind of transitions into this red around it. And I dare say there's a little bit more red than orange over in here. So I'm going to exercise that. Go in there like that. Let's hold that down. Okay, so not all of it's red. A lot of people just cover the whole thing red. It's not the way it works, okay? It's not a red. It's mostly red in the center, but it's kind of orange red. And it's a black. It's actually a violet. So I'm just going to, you see what the difference between red and orange is. This area right here I'm spraying now has actually become violet. I'm just kind of laying it down as a sketch. And you can kind of sketch things out. Let me dry that this time, dry it right this time. I'm going to try to kind of sketch the shape out now because it's pretty safe to sketch like this. If I mess up now, it really won't be noticeable. So holding up here like this, flip it back and say, okay, where's my sketch? I got a line that comes like this, okay, and it does this. I'm just going to trace the outline of it with the red. It comes back like this. So you see, it's very easy to trace this now, and it goes like this. And, you know, I can just kind of work some shapes and just draw that. See, it's pretty subtle. So if I were to mess up right now and draw something wrong, you'd never see it, mainly because the red is so faint. It's not really a lot of red in there. So this is kind of, will save me if I mess up. Okay, so kind of, that looks like it's fairly, a fair representation, not a great representation, but a fair representation of it. It's going here like that, comes around like that. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. And I can verify that by holding it over it, you know, just check it. And I do want this to be fairly accurate. This is a shape that's fairly exposed. In other words, if it was a shape in the shadows, I could probably, you know, do whatever I wanted to with it, but it's not. It's actually very exposed. So I'm kind of, let's see if I can make sure it's going to be a winner here. All right, so I'm double checking. I did miss that. Let's bring that up there like that. And that does get down in there. I'm just verifying some of these shapes in there, like that. And there's an edge that comes here like this, like this. All right, so you see I'm just trying to find my way through here, navigate these waters. Okay, that looks okay. Now this looks kind of weird. We'll see that little sketch in there. Let's kind of zoom in so you can see it better. All right. And that little sketch in there, I use the red to sketch because red doesn't darken very much, and I can usually get away with a lot there. So now I'm going to switch to a red violet. Let's try red violet first. Violet might be more appropriate. Red violet's a good go-to color for shadow than red. So I put a few drops of red violet in there. Let's verify the color. There it is, okay? And this is going to be used for shading, okay? So I can start down here at the bottom, pretty heavy, like going there like that. You can see it's going in there. I may have to go in darker with some blue or some other color, but that's okay. I'm prepared to do that. Just push up into here like this. And it's good to keep that reference close by because you definitely want to see what you're doing, okay? Kind of comes through here like that, really fast.
Drew,
Yes.
is that I missed it. Was that violet or red violet?
Red violet. Red
All right,
violet.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Okay. All right, so just I'm just going to keep on going here, right in the bottom like this. That just push it like that, and there's a little bit of color. It kind of comes underneath this like this, and I said it bends up this way, so that's what I'm here to do is bend it up this way. There's black around it, but this red shape goes this way, and then it comes out. It kind of makes it like a little bit of a shape like that. Okay, and the red is in the shadows here. It's soft, pretty relatively soft. You can see what I'm doing, going to the shadow and kind of filling that in a little bit. Kind of work it through there, make that round at the bottom. Okay. I'm treating this as if it were a black or a dark color, so I'm using it to darken. You see, I'm just really hosing it down in certain areas to demonstrate that darkness. Okay. Keep it going. Okay. Pause and evaluate. Okay. Now the top, it comes across top. Now I'm glad I sketched it because I'd really be lost if I didn't first sketch this in here with the red. Okay. I'd have no idea what I was doing. So now I still don't have any idea what I'm doing, but I have probably better luck this way, having some success. Okay, so that's pretty dark up there. And red violet seems to be a pretty good choice for this. All right, what's it going to do? It's going to come down in here like this. And it's got some weirdness in here, doesn't it? It has this kind of shape like that. It actually goes down and up again like this. So making it happen there. Better if I had this closer. That would be a little more accurate, wouldn't it? Round it off. And again, I said there's some other like little tendrils of it out here. I don't want to, that's against black though, so I don't have to worry about using the blue. I can use the blue to sketch though. I kind of use the blue to get the to figure out, what's going on in here. There we go. I can sketch it out with that blue, even though it's going to be black around at the end. I can still kind of get it working like that. Okay. All right, so that's kind of working for me. I'm going to push on up into here. I want to push into the black. I'm going to cover it with black, so I'm not really worried about where I'm going with this, but I'm ultimately going to cover it up with black. Okay, so I've got this other side here, and this shows me how dark everything's going to be. Let's just cover some things up. We get that nice and dark along the edge, and this purple comes down the side like this. Yeah, okay, and it's really dark down here. Well, it's pretty dark. Let's cover some of these up. Use my finger to cover things up, make it nice and dark. And it's not as dark down here, but it's got some purple in it, but it's not quite so dark. Let's go back and look at it. It's tricky because I've got a cut right across there, and that cut actually is interfering with my ability to make judgments. So there's a complete one here. Okay, so I've got some dividing lines going through here. And what does that do? That comes through here like this. Okay, this one comes down here like this. This one comes up here like that. And then I'm going to switch over to black. Okay, I think I probably should put some red over this later on. I think that would help. Okay, let's a little bit of shading in there. This is pretty dark. It's pretty high contrast, especially at the bottom here. Super dark. He really threw it on there. He really darkened it up at the bottom there. So that has a tremendous amount of contrast here. All right, so let's get that up there like that. Okay, so let's see what else is going on here. Let's darken that. You see me darkening things mainly because, well, we need to. We need to darken things. It's going up to the edge here. All this gets dark. Okay, so run out. I'm going to go ahead and switch to black. Now, the black is not to the edge. The black is kind of inside it a little bit. So I shouldn't have this mask here, but I think I can get away with it. I'll test for black. Let's see if I can start getting the black in there. Still got the red violet going. Here we go. There's some black. Okay, so the black is coming in here like this, and it's going to basically come down to the edge here. So fairly hard edge. If you look, it's fairly hard edge, which means you probably want to use a mask, okay, of some kind. Do I have a mask that corresponds to that? Let's just use that part right there. That looks pretty good. So let's just use that little bit. The corner there. That's too high. Let's lower it. And that, okay. That gives me a little bit of a beginning. It comes up here, kind of fades into that. I'll leave that alone up there. And just kind of bring it through here like this. And right through here, it's kind of softly blends into that. So this is tricky because you got to be careful. So I don't want a hard edge out here, so I need to get rid of this, right? Except Is there a hard edge underneath that? No, it's not. Okay, so let's take that off. Okay, we're gonna take that off. We don't need that anymore for now. Okay, and now I'm just gonna take this paint and let's see what I can do about that. So in here, I missed that. Let's kind of bring some paint. Let's splatter right. You see that? So let's splatter. Bring that black right up against this. Bring the black around the edge here. That kind of freehanding in there like that. All this is freehanded. Okay. A little bit of kind of a scuffy area right, a little bit of soft blur. And you definitely blurred the black. Okay, the black is blurred. So this is about 1 inch away. I'm not really so close. I'm not too far away too. I'm just got enough for a blur. Bring some in there like that. A little bit of red shifter in some places, not here, but in, maybe above it. If I need more red, I will scratch make another scratch in there to make that happen. Just putting more black in here like this. And coming in here like that. Now, it's kind of weird shape, and it doesn't quite go to the edge, so I'm going to just stay kind of out here. Like that. Make that happen. It's not totally black inside. That's the thing I'm trying to communicate now. It's got a kind of a brown, like a sepia in there, a little bit sepia color in there. So I'm thinking about that. Let's get the black close to that. Okay. And that's, when I say sepia color in there, I'm going to put some black in there, but it's really going to be sepia on top of that. I need to go more absolutely black in here. Super black. Super black, super black. Okay, like that. Triangle here. So you're just looking at the shapes in the reference material. That's all. Put more black in there. So fade that up into that. Make sure I go dark enough. And some of these areas are a little bit ambiguous, meaning that I need to kind of let some of this black drift over onto the purple color, red violet color that is. Okay, it's not too hard. I mean, I think you guys can manage this pretty easy. There's some texture in there, so I'm just gonna make a few marks in there to create that kind of texture going on in there. Okay, so add a little more in here. Okay, so pausing and evaluating. Now, while I've got the black in here, I need to go back to the face because there's a couple things in the face that were really bothering me. Like I didn't have enough dark under the nostrils. So let's go back. I'm gonna let that sit for a moment. I will come back to that, but I really need to, while I've got the black in the gun, let's go ahead and take care of some business up here. Now my mask is, I moved my mask a little bit. I kind of offset it. You can see how it's a little bit offset right there. So now I'm going to bring it back into focus. Let's lift that up a little bit. I did that because I wanted the shoulder. You can see a little bit of color drifting on the shoulder. That's not a big deal to us. But I want to get those nostrils under there because I'm just not dark enough in there. I really need to punch that up. And black really is probably my best bet for that. Let's get it lined up. That. And I just want to hit those nostrils really hard. Let's line things. It's a little bit tricky to line this up sometimes, especially the more subtle things become. You know, when you first spray, you got these hard lines. You start making those lines soft and everything, things get a little bit more difficult. So here goes the black on there. I just want to get that really nice, strong black going. Like that. And we're up, I think there's more darkness in here. Let's just add a little more darkness in some of these places. It's got a little bit too light. And then darkness over that. Okay, so I'm trying to get the nose to behave a little more. You see now it's starting to look a little more dynamic. Okay, this side though is obviously not working for me. So let's get in there and spray that. I'm just freehanding in there like that. Okay, there we go. Okay, I feel better about that. Now, while I had the red in there, I could have put a little bit of red in there, but it's really more of an orange, almost like a burnt umber in there. Okay, so black, where can black help me? Okay, black, I think, no, it can't help me there. I really don't see much area for black. Maybe I can put a little black kind of in this side here, just kind of help it get started. Darken this a little bit in here. So a little black, and now it's not really a black color, but I think that can help. Now, it would help me probably if I would get to make sure that I have these parts on here. Okay, meaning that this part in here, there's a place that it's needing to be attached to, and I don't think I've got it in here. Somewhere I have it, but I don't see it anymore. Where is it? Where is it? It's the forearm scabbard. That part that goes right in here. That's the part that's hiding from me. It's a little bit elusive. So let me see if I can find it here. I think I've got it. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, what a mess we have. Okay. I do have it. I think I've got something here, but let's see if that's it. No, that's not it. Okay, so I'll just do without it. That's all. I can just keep on going without it. Double check. Oh, yeah, I found it. Okay, here it is. no, that's the wrong side. It isn't isolated, okay? I was hoping that's isolated, but that's not. So I don't want to try to use that as it is. That would be fatal, okay? So here's what I was talking about right here. I might be able to get it to work, but really what I'm trying to do is get that muscle shape in there, a little bit of blackening, but I think it's probably going to be too abrupt. So really, while I've got this on here, though, I do see some opportunity to help maybe some of these other areas that were in need, okay? So let's line it back up to the dark goes away, right? So look at this here and here where I got the black in there. I see a lot of stuff going on in here that I really haven't accounted for yet. So for instance, this area in here, this is part of it. This is the edge here. So I'm just going to go ahead and darken some of this down here like that. Here's this. All this is going to get dark. Okay, just dark. Yeah, okay, kind of come up in here like that with it. This is the sword part of it. It's really, you see how it's kind of bent up a little bit. So I think it's probably the highlights that I need to re-tab. But I just need to darken it, kind of fill that in a little bit. I see some black under here. Let's put black under that. And I think that should get me at least started here. This is a shadow. It's going to be really, really dark. Shadow right here. It's going to be really dark. It's this. I don't know what that is. Right in front of it. There's another shadow. It's going to be the forearm right here. It's really, really dark in there. And it's easy to get lost in. You probably don't know where you are sometimes. That's normal. You know, just kind of step back and kind of reevaluate the situation. Okay. Let's get over here so you can see a little better. Let's push over here. I'm actually in a place where you can see it. I've got an opportunity to do a little work in here too while I'm at it. Let's go ahead and try a little bit of work in these the axe. So I'm just going to start darkening it down a little bit. I ran out of paint. Another drop in here or two. All right, so let's just add a little bit like this. There we go. And kind of work through there. This is pretty black right there. I'm going to go ahead and commit to it. It's pretty black. Okay, and in here, you can't really, there's a hole in there. I need to watch out for that around here. So I'm just kind of outlining this. I'm not really trying to paint it. I'm just trying to get some color in there so it's a little bit more recognizable. There we go. All right, so let me just pull that off and let's see what we have. This thing doesn't want to come up. This, I'll tell you, this big mass, they can be quite a challenge, right? Okay, so let's see. I've got that in there. What else do I need to do? Well, I think the only thing I'd really touch up, I'm sorry, I'll screen some of that. I just add a little bit of black in there to that. Really think I just want to get enough black in here to represent the image. So going in here like this and just putting more black in it along in here. Just kind of fill that in a little bit. Make it nice and dark and deep and dark where it needs to be. Okay, let's push over a little bit into here too. It's going to be a brown. I'm going to put sepia over this later, but not right now. I'm just going to put that in there. Okay. Now, notice I'm too saturated over there. I'm going to put some red over that later. It's not a big deal. I'm not worried about that. I'm just looking for other places where I've got the black in here. I might put a little black on top of this. Just kind of start tinting that down a little bit. There's a shadow there. Let's kind of get a little color in that shadow there to get it started. Okay. Just trying to put some things in it to start to populate it with color to cover up the white. The white is difficult, so we want to get rid of that white as soon as we can. Some of this stuff needs to just go darker. Some of these highlights are just too light. So all this stuff is just need to go a little bit darker in there. Okay. There's some highlights in there. So for the assignment tonight, what I want you to do, I want you to find these highlights and dig them out. Okay, what I mean by that? I mean there's highlights in there in this section in here, and you can see them. You can do a couple of ways you can do this. You can use the flip technique where you're actually just flipping it back and forth, dipping a dowel into some ammonia. Okay, I'll demonstrate that. Let's get some ammonia on there. Okay, here we go. Ammonia on the dowel. And then with the flip technique, and that's the wrong size for it, you line everything up like this. Just line it up all in one kind of shape there. Okay, and you find your highlights. You basically, and if you're not sure where the highlights are, they are built in to some of the stencils here. There are some stencils that have the holes in. For instance, you know, this one right here has the scabbard in it with the holes in it. Okay, and if I can position this correctly, I could probably get it right. There we go. So I should be able to get in there, and maybe with the dowel and just kind of scratch these out a little bit like that. At least mark them, and then come back and clear. So I can mark this with the dowel. Let's put a lot more ammonia on this. It's obviously not enough on there. I could mark these out with the dowel just to kind of know where they are. Kind of come down here like this, like that, and that would help me at least. Because there's also a few holes in here that would help with the dowel going. And once I get that on there, once I kind of know where these are, it's kind of like a pattern for me. So I can come in here and kind of scratch that out and reshape that to get it to reflect what's in the painting, okay? So you see I'm working that out. I'm kind of making a highlight right there. If you take off too much, I can just put more paint on, so it should not be much of an issue, right? This should help you kind of get started with that. The other thing is in here, there's a lot of stuff going on in here. Okay, let's kind of look at this. And you can use, I think the flip technique is probably your best bet as far as finding things, locating things with the flip method, because that kind of puts things in the right place. So by laying this up here like this, flipping it a couple times, it really will help you find your way. Let's kind of line it up. It's not really lined up very well, is it? I think that's better. Okay, so positioning it, trying to line things up here, right? So there I see these little lines and things like that. I can get in there and put a highlight right there. Okay, and I see a highlight right on top of that. There's a strong highlight right there. Okay, and there's a dot right here. I mean, just the kind of things you want to do. This will be later tonight. I mean, you don't want to do that now, but that'll be like an assignment for you guys this later this evening to go in and kind of bring some light highlights and lines through there. I can see them now. I can kind of, and the stencil help kind of establish them, but you know, there may be there's probably some need for some extra lines. Like, look at all these dots in here. So I can make a dash. I'll probably go over this with sepia, but I can make little dots in here with this by flipping it back and forth and see exactly where they live. Okay, that's a tool. And I developed this flip technique, gosh, years ago, 20 years ago, as a way to help students find their way to line up their reference with. So we had a photocopy at the time, so I laid it over trying to help with proportions, because you know it's difficult for youngsters to work with proportions. So it seemed to do the job. And I got this from, I was an animator, so I got this from being an animator years ago, and I just decided to bring it over to the world of airbrushing because it's very beneficial. So what you do is you line your paper right up exactly even with your painting, right on top of it, because this is one-to-one. And once it's lined up perfectly, you stare at this spot and you lift it up and you put a dot right up under it, okay? So it's a pretty quick move. You can also do it with the eraser. So if I want the eraser here, let's send you some more dots in here. Take the eraser and go in here and pull out some highlights like that. And that's for bigger shapes like that. So it's a really great tool for getting what you want out of the painting, okay? You can, if you got some dark spots in here you need to lighten up, this is great for that because you can just erase it right off. Okay, you see how easy that is? And that's a highlight right in there. That's a circle. There's the scabbard right there. Make it look like that. You can carve off really big shapes. You can kind of carve off some big old shapes like that and kind of work it through that. And this will really help you a lot as far as getting your details in there. This is good for details because you can be so super precise. It's unbelievable. Okay, so you can see already we just kind of developed that little area pretty quickly. I mean, I could stand to work on it some more, but I just wanted to see how that works. Okay, the other thing I want you to do is bring this up a little bit. Probably have some black in there for that. So I'm going to take the black and I'm just going to bring this darkness up a little more, kind of bring it up, and now I'm going to scratch out with the dowel or the eraser just to kind of help it look a little more like it's supposed to. Okay, so look at the reference, darken some things down that need to darken down. I see some places that you could benefit from darkening. You know, some of these areas in here need to become more ambiguous or hidden, kind of, so to speak. Push this out onto here like that. Okay, and this in here like that. So you see I'm just trying to develop some shapes in here. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. Let's just pull these body parts up into there like that. So darken, 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 darken. Like that. So, you know, it's pretty easy. Just make sure you go dark enough. I'm not dark enough, but I plan on putting other layers of stuff on there later, okay? All right, so that's a pretty good stopping point right there for me. Any questions so far? You guys good to go? All right, so let's get this a shot. I know I don't want to keep you too late, but I want to make sure that we go as far as we can today. I'm going to give you enough homework. But this will be our last demo. I've got a lot of video footage today, so it's going to take a long time to process. So as soon as I finish this, I probably should close it and close the program and let it process because it takes a long, long time. So I'm going to estimate it takes 2 hours as soon as I exit Zoom to process. Hopefully less, but it seems I looked at the file and it looks pretty big. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is I've got some red in here. I'm just going to go in here and put red in here to try to get rid of that. I don't want it to be such a strong color in there. Let's see if I can get a little more red on top of that. I didn't really bother covering that up because I don't think it needs it. I'm just kind of put some red into this. Maybe I might even need a little brown later. Maybe, who knows? Quien sabe, right? I'm just going to put a little more in here. I'm just using it to darken some areas down too. Some areas might need a little bit more darkness maybe in here. This will help that a lot. Okay. And I think I'll stop right there and look at some other places. Now, I'm going to switch over to, I want to mess around with the beard and stuff. Because why? Because, well, why not, right? It's a good opportunity for us to take a look at it. So let's get over to the beard area. Sorry about, I got a little bit of glare on there. Let me see if I can help that by coming over like that maybe and getting in this frame there. All right, I want to look at that beard. So I'm thinking, I was going to put orange in, but orange is too pure, okay? So I'm thinking a burnt umber might be a better candidate for. So I'm going to rinse this lightly. I don't have to rinse it much, really. I really don't have to rinse it all, but I want to make sure I do have burnt umber in there. So 1 or 2 drops of water in there and a couple of drops of burnt umber in there. And I'm going to see if I can chase that beard down, at least get it coming a little bit closer than what we have. So let's verify the color, especially so critical as the face. We don't want black or anything coming out of it. So here's the color. It's a nice color. It's got a little bit of red in it still, okay? But you know, let's spray along the edge and let's compare it to the reference. That's always a good idea. So there it is right there. Let's kind of see what we've got. And here's kind of where I'm going with it. You kind of see, let me stay on this camera there. You kind of see where I'm at with it. That's the kind of color family. So it's in the right family. Okay, it looks like it would work pretty good. Let's go darker with it. It's going to be a little bit intense for what we need. So I can't go full blast with it. You see it's kind of a nasty color if it's by, but I happen to have had some burnt, some sepia on there already. So I'm hoping the sepia will dull it down, maybe help us with that. I'm also going to go ahead and get rid of this mask. I don't need the mask on it at all unless I'm planning on spilling some paint on everything, which you don't plan on that, but it could happen. How many accidents have I had today or mistakes? I've had at least 6, right? So I'm not going to try for more, but hey, you never know. There's always a chance now. Okay, so I'm going to get in here. Let's look at the face. Keep the face really close to it so you can see exactly what's going on. Keep the face closer to me like that on this side. You can't see, but you can follow along on your own reference. All right, so I'm going to it's pretty strong up under the nose. So I'm going to put it up under the nose like this. I'm pushing it up under the nose. It looks kind of reddish on here, but that's okay. I'm also put some on the beard there. Now, if it's too saturated, I can help that. I can dull it down. So if it gets too saturated, it's okay. Notice I avoided this area next to the nose. Why is that? In the reference, it's a greenish color. So I avoid those colors that are green. I'm going to avoid that and anything else I see that's not orange, right? So I'm definitely going to pay attention to that. I'd also see a spot of it right here, but that looks like more orange on the helmet than it does this burnt sienna, okay? The burnt sienna tends to be quite saturated, so I definitely want to venture forth cautiously. So I'm going to go in here like this, right to the side of the nose, like that. And I'm just going to let it kind of drift over. I do see a kind of a line in there, like there we go. There's kind of a scar he's got in there. I'm going to put that in there. Let's see if I can trace this scar too. Oops. A little bit too heavy. Let me zoom in a little bit. You can kind of see my accident because there's my mistake. I zigzagged on it, didn't I? That's kind of a funny looking scar. I don't want that. That's no bueno. So let me see if I can help that a little bit. Maybe I could take a dowel and kind of massage that a little bit because it doesn't like kind of goes away right here. So I'm going to see, maybe let's get rid of the top of it there. That's not helping too much. All right, let's try, what do I have on here? I was thinking about using a blade, but my blade is nowhere to be seen. So that doesn't really seem like it's going to be an option today. The blade, you know, kind of rolls away on its own. So do I have that option? Negative on the blade. So no blade for moi, unless that's on the floor. All right, so I'll leave that for now and maybe figure a way to darken it up later because I certainly don't have any tools to fix it. I'm looking for the blade. It has eluded me, unless I'm desperate and I can use this blade. Okay, that's not really a great blade, but I can go in here like this. And sometimes I can go in there and a little surgery, just kind of pull it off like that. There is a highlight on top, but I think that if I use this like this, it might cause trouble. But I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway. Right, let's just give him, his nose has been pretty beat up. Fortunately, I don't have a lot of paint on here, so I might be able to at least get the highlight on there. Okay, like
Hey, Drew, did you say you were using burnt umber or burnt
sorry, I
sienna?
meant to say burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is the color. If I said something else, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
It is definitely burnt sienna, okay? Burnt umber is a little redder, a little bit darker. Okay, so let me try this again. This time, let's see if I can get that over the top there like that. And I'm just trying to make a line. Obviously, my airbrush doesn't want to cooperate. Let's test it over here like this. There we go. So I'm going to try to bring it across like this time. Here we go. A little better, not great. It's still a little bit dark, but let's go ahead and darken the sides of it a little bit more. Let's bring some down here like this. And don't use this to darken so much as you want to use a tint. If you want to darken it, we'll bring in some sepia. Okay, sepia is a better color, or even burnt umber would be better for darkening. Let's put some orange in here. A little bit of orange. I'm saying this is orange. It's really burnt sienna, but it's an orange relatively. It's really just a dark orange. Okay. Now I'm going to try to narrow. I'm going a little bit across the nose there, like that. A little across the nose. Let's come up the side of the nose, right here. A little bit of color right the side of the nose there. There we go. Kind of shape that a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to soften that too. I'm going to bring it soften up, bring it in toward the center of the nose on both sides. hard to see it going on. By the time you see it going on, it's usually too late. All right, let's put a little bit on the nostril there, a little bit on the nostril on that side, and let's put a little bit of color in here. So I'm just kind of adding little bits of color here. I'm filling that in. I know I'm not dark enough. That's okay. I'm not worried about that. I'm going to go darker with maybe burnt umber or something like that on. I'm just really looking to work this in here. So let's go ahead and add some of this orange here to that, the beer. And it would really help that I've got some sepia on there. That sepia is going to really make it, keep it from going too intense, but not, it's still probably going to be a little bit intense. I would say the sepia keeps it from going more intense than it's going, but I've got a feeling that we're still a little bit too intense with the color. Just kind of fill that in. Anything orange or orange appearing, I'm going to lay that on there, okay? Pause and evaluate, guys. Stop and look at it and say, what the hell's going on here? Maybe a little color in there and a little bit on that one too. This one has some. I did see a smidge of it here, but I don't know if that's really, I think an orange might be better. Let's put some in there anyway. Just fine. Also see a little bit up here. And I gotta be careful, I'm getting in the background, but I see some right in there, the top of the temple. See that? On both sides, a little bit of orange in there, just a smidge of that. And I see a little bit right here too. So I'm starting to pick up some orange in some places, just a little bit in here. So you gotta be careful, put your finger there, protect that, right? Okay, don't let it get, I'm crazy working out with a mask, but I'm too lazy to go find it. I really should go look for that mask and put it on there. Okay, I'm gonna try to be careful here. Just bring it up like that, a little color. There's some orange around these. If you look at the painting, these have some orange, like a halo of orange around it. So I feel pretty justified. If I accidentally get some on there, I'll justify it by saying, well, he's got it on his, so why not us too? So that helps a lot to add that in there. I have some glare in there, so watch out. Part of what you're seeing is glare. Okay, so watch out for that. That's deceptive. So just, okay, so it's a little bit strong in here. So let's see if I can continue to add a little more to it here. Now the saturation is going up. So I don't want to really use it to darken. I really just want to use it to get the orange in there. That's all. I don't want to darken with this. I'm just trying to find where the orange lives and put that in there. Okay. I'm also looking around here for orange. If I see some orange on here, I want to put it in there. I certainly see some orange over here on this side, not on this end of it, like that. A little bit of orange there, and a little bit of orange on this little part of his deltoid there. Okay, I see some green on that one. Orange, slight orange in here, guys. Just slight orange, very little bit, right along the perimeter there. Just kind of working it through there like that. Let's get down. You can see it better. Okay, just a little bit. I'm spraying actually in the background and letting the orange drift over into the shoulder there. Not too saturated. Okay, barely. I'm just gonna mist over it just barely like that. Okay, just nothing to it. Nothing on there hardly. Okay, very lightly. And I think I see a little bit of orange on the shoulder there like that. Maybe just kind of start putting a little orange in some of these places. I see orange and just not much. I'm just kind of nudging it with orange. Just kind of a little bit right in here. I'm sorry. A little bit of orange right. Let's go over here. Okay. I'm seeing a little bit of orange right in here. So let's just put a little bit right in there too. Let's get this tape is dangerous. Get it out of there. Okay. And just kind of not much. You see, it's very small amounts. See orange around that tooth there. See kind of some yellow in there too. So I see orange in here in the shoulder and just some orange coming right in here. A little bit of that. A little bit of orange. Very lightly, guys. It's not a pure orange, okay? So that needs to be more of a contaminated orange. A little bit like that. Okay, I feel like I'm starting to get some red out of this thing. Maybe it's running out, okay? All right, so I've got that going for me, but it's really not looking so great yet. Why not? Well, because I'm still too light here. If you look at compared to the reference here, you can see there, I need to go darker in some place. I need to soften up this edge. It's still looking cut out looking. So what's my best course of action? My best course of action would be to go in with the sepia, but I happen to have some leftover orange in my, or burnt sienna in my airbrush. So why don't I go ahead and put it right up in here, because you see some orange right in there. So I'm just going to put it right kind of at that perimeter there, right along there. And that helps a lot to add that. Does it do it on the other side? No, not so much on the other side. Okay, so I won't deal with that. But let me look at that other arm right there. Okay, let's take a look at that arm over there. And it looks like I could probably put a little bit under that arm, does it? But I've got this issue going on, don't I? I've got a bare exposed area, and really that's kind of dangerous. So what do I need to do in there? I need to find that left side and cover it up. And do I have that? It just so happens I have something here. Let's see if I can use that. There it goes. Okay. So I want to put some orange under the arm here. Just kind of a little bit of orange up under there. I know I'm getting off screen, so let me pull it down here a little bit more. Okay. All right. Let's get you guys back so you can see it. Okay. So I'm just gently putting. I'm not going all the way. Okay. Don't go all the way with it. Just push it a little bit forward. Not all the way. A little bit of orange right there. Just very lightly added. Okay. And a little bit under there too. Just right in there. That's pretty strong under there. Okay. And I see a little bit on top here, but I don't really have the means, I think, to make that happen. Maybe I'll put my finger over that. I want to keep this pristine and untouched, okay? Very important you do that. Let's pull the orange up a little more higher on the arm. Let it go, let it fade out a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so that's starting to get there. I would like to put some on the top, but do I have a stencil that accommodates that? Well, as a matter of fact, I do. And where is it? It happens to be close by. Look at that, okay? That kind of like saves me, right? So, because I didn't want to go to sleep tonight without having that handled. So let's get that rotated. A little bit on the bend. I'm modeling, meaning I'm putting it on the very edge, not really. Let's put some in there. Let's kind of fill that in a little bit more, some orange. There's some greens in there too, believe it or not. Okay, so I'm just going to tint it barely. It's not an orange, it's actually more yellow on there. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit on there. Yeah. And now I'm over here. Why don't I put a little orange along this perimeter here? Okay, I think it will help that. Here we go. Okay, so I'm pausing, evaluate. But now, look, there's my opportunity to go into the wing of the bird and take care of that. Remember, I was all concerned that I couldn't get that because I didn't have a mask. Well, I happen to have one now. So why don't I just go ahead and lay it on there? So that's pretty robust amount of paint on there. So I'm going to throw it on there like that. Now I see more yellow kind of coming up into it like that. So I don't want to get too crazy with it, but I want to definitely saturate a little more than what I've got. So let's push some more here. And do I have any up in the? Yeah, I think there's some orange up into here. I say orange. This is really burnt sienna. It's a dark orange, you know, which is nice. Okay, so we got that in there. I'm kind of leaving the middle of it alone. All right. So stopping there, and now I'm gonna let's see. I see a kind of a deficient area right over on this side, right on the, right, let me put it right here, right under there. It looks kind of empty. So let's get that, let's see if I can push that a little harder. Right. Push a little harder, there we go. That looks a little better. I think it needs a little more saturation. It probably should go blacker up into there, but maybe too. All right, so switching colors. Now I'm out of that color. I'm gonna switch to sepia. Why sepia? Well, because sepias, I need to darken some things and dull them down. This color's a little strong in here in the beard area. And I really don't want that strength in there. I want to weaken it a little bit. So let's get rid of this part. Let's just kind of move it off to the side. Okay. And let's pull our reference out and kind of compare. You see, I just need to go dark. I need to soften up some edges. Now, burnt sienna would darken it, but the problem with burnt sienna is I really can't get those edges dark. It'd be more like a reddish color. So this color is actually, if I use this sepia, it's going to serve me better. So just a couple of drops of sepia. Now, the mistake you're going to make on this face, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now so you can get it over with. It's all over but the crying after this, is that you're gonna go too heavy here. Okay, you're gonna get in that face and you're just gonna make it too heavy. And even though I'm telling you not to, that's just the nature of something unknown, something new. So I'm gonna say that your best bet for success, and I'm gonna tell you what it is, so listen closely, is to add it and build it slowly, little by little, poco a poco. Why is that? Because if you try to hit this target, you are going to overshoot that target with some color. And what that's going to do to your painting is going to wreck it. And then you're going to be sad. Some of you are sad already about a couple of mistakes you made, but they're small. They can all be fixed. It's harder to fix this area. So I'm going to go slow. I'm going to look at my red. There's my dull color. See, it's kind of muddy looking. And the first thing I'm going to do is take care of this softness down here. Just kind of go right over that part. Blur it. I'm just going to blurring it like that. Just go right up there. Blur it a good bit. And let's darken a couple of things too. It's too light. I'm going to blur the edges. Get down there and blur it. And then I'm going to come up a little bit. Let's kind of come up onto it. Let's come down from the top. Like that. Okay, blur it. Kind of make it a little more, I think this will help move it toward green, but make it a little more dark and less intense. I'm leaving room for that green right there, aren't I? Okay, this is a little bit too light. Let's darken it too. And soften that edge. Okay, the edges are too hard and they're too cut out looking. So you have to go around these edges of this beard and soften it. Okay, otherwise it's going to look like a stencil. And yeah, we did use a stencil, but we don't want it to look like a stencil, right? We want it to look more natural. This part right here is too bright in there, so let's just darken that down like that. It's kind of in the shadows, isn't it? So let's put it in the shadows. Yeah, okay. Still there, it's just not so bright. It's going to be green, it's going to be darker, it's going to be green, so I'm going to leave that. Okay, it's still lighter than the reference, so let's darken it some more. Okay, look at it, pause and evaluate. Okay, it's getting closer. This is still lighter than the reference, so let's darken this. Okay, let's come on out into here with it. Soften that edge a little bit. Okay, now this needs to go darker all around in here. It's way too light. Darken that. I'll see a couple of lines going through there. I don't know if I can get away with that, but he's got some pretty nasty like stars and stuff on his face. Here we go. And let's darken this too. This is pretty dark in here. I see some eyes. I'm not gonna worry about those eyes, but I do see them in there. You can see them too, I'm sure. And let's darken up under here. This is kind of delicate. Soften it, soften it, soften it. Okay. And this is the hard part. The hard part of the painting right now is where I'm at right now. Mainly because of the tendency for us to go too dark. So I'm being careful. I know this lap line is going to be dark. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it up a little bit. It needs to be dark, so let's give it the darkness it deserves. Okay. And again, I'm going to tell you again, stay light. You'll never be sad if you're too light with it, but you're always going to be sad if you're too dark. The mistake you're going to make is you're going to go too dark. That means you're going to put too much paint on here in the wrong place. The way to avoid that is aim light. So make a pass of it very lightly, and then make a pass slightly darker, make another pass slightly darker than that. Like slowly add to it. Because if you don't do that, well, I'm sorry, it's going to wreck your painting. So if you add a little bit of paint, your mistakes are going to be small because you're adding such a little bit of paint. And you have less chance of overshooting because you'll see it getting dark. So it's starting to get dark, I better stop. If you have any doubts about how dark you should go, and you should stop spraying. So if you even ask the question, should I go darker? An alarm should go off in your head, and an apparition of me should appear before you with a sign in my hand. And that sign should be a stop sign saying, stop spraying now, buddy, because you're getting ready to go too dark. So if you happen to see yourself or ask that question, you want to make sure you do that. Now I'm starting to get a little bit, still too light in there. That way it's going to go green. Let me darken that a little bit, okay? Okay, and this is going to need to be a little darker right there. So I'm at the limit right there. I don't want to push any further on this. That is right at the limit, right at it, okay? So now I'm looking for other places that needs to darken, okay? This is too light right here next to the mustache is too light there. Let's just dull that down, darken it a little bit. Okay, this area right here needs to go darker. Let's just put some darkness on that. Okay, it kind of fades inward, doesn't it? So soft. There we go. Looking a little better. Okay, it's still pretty orange looking, to me. It's still pretty orange, but I'm not really worried about that. I do see that this is too orange in here, like too light. So let's get a little bit more shadow on the nose there. Just a little more shadow going on there. I think that'll help. There we go, like that. Okay. I'm just putting a little bit of paint in there at a time. So it's feeling a little better to me. I feel like, okay, we're starting to get somewhere. Let's try pushing this a little back a little further. These are too light. Okay. Now, while I've got this in here, it's a good time to darken some of these other areas that were too orange. So maybe over in here, let's get it on there, okay. Right in here, that spot right there, let's just put a little bit of color underneath it, soften that up a little bit. See what I did? And places where the orange is a little bit too strong, like in here, I'm going to soften this shoulder up a little bit. I have to stay pretty close to it. I don't want any problems with it, but I'm going to soften that up, kind of round it off like that. Just kind of bring it up there, and maybe darken that a little bit up there. Okay, and I definitely like to darken that, but I lost my stuff. Well, let's see if I can find it again. Here it is. This is under that is pretty darn dark, so I need to go ahead and be willing to commit paint to it, right? So let's get that lined up. And this is dark. This is pretty heavy, so let's be generous with the paint. It's dark. I mean, I see almost really dark under there. It's almost black right there, and it just comes up, fade it up. Okay, there we go. And let's see what else. I think I need some green on here. He's actually got green in the flesh here. Here's some green in there. I need to soften up this edge in here. That's a blurry edge. Okay, there we go. Just soften up that too. All right. So you see what I'm doing? I'm just softening up some things and adding a little bit of more realism to it. Up here. I kind of couldn't go too much dark with that, but I have now the power in my hand, which is called burnt sienna. Okay, or sorry, sepia. Sepia is in my hand now, and I can go in, and this is a great color to darken. Okay, and I need to go way darker. Look at the comparison there. Look how much. There's where I am. So I'm going to go in there and just pound this with some more darkness in where it needs to go. I was timid before, and it's good to be timid about it. It's good to be cautious, because if you're cautious, you're going to make fewer mistakes. Let's get in there and just darken this edge, give it what it deserves, push it all the way up there, darken those up there, just pound that. I mean, dark, kill that, get it hard. I got a letter one time from a lady who said, you shouldn't use those words, subdue, pound it with the color, hit it hard. He said, those are violent words. I'm like, well, what do you want me to use? Attenuate? She goes, no, attenuate's a bad word too. I'm like, gee, okay, so maybe lessen, lower, reduce, see if reduce was acceptable. I was like, okay. But you can tell I didn't change my language, right? I'm still using these words because why? They're appropriate. Because that's the way I look at my painting. I look at this as something, as an adversary. I'm in a battle against this painting because it's trying to make me fail. It's trying to do everything it can to make me fail. Okay, it's throwing all kinds of curves at me. It's making, look how many mistakes I made. I made a lot of them, didn't I? Let's darken it a little more too. All right, and I don't want to do more of that. Now I need more green in there, yellow and stuff. I see that. So let's take that off and see. It's better. It's better than it was. You can kind of compare, but you know, we can still use a little more, right? You see the differences in there? Not, but I'm gonna, a lot of it's glare. See, there's what it's looking like. I don't want to do that's more, but it's getting there. I still like this could be blacker up here, you know, like in here. So, but I'm gonna leave that. I'll leave that for now. So now what you do is you get on a hunt. You start looking for differences in here. Like, you know, I'm looking in there on this seat. Well, there's a difference I see in the reference versus its edge right here is too fuzzy. It's not sharp enough, you know. So you start seeing that and you say, well, let's make it sharper. Bring a piece of paper there, throw that on there like that. Voila, I've got a sharper edge. Okay. Okay, so I'm looking around for more opportunity. That's still too light. Let's darken that part right there. Okay, looking around more for more. Just kind of keep on going. Okay, and you know, you'll find that you keep looking around, you keep seeing stuff, and I really need the green there, but I won't worry about that. I'm gonna put a little bit of color in here in the chest here. I'm using this kind of as a grayish green color. It's not quite green, but it's grayer. It's not not so bright. Now, in place I need to gray it down, like in these flesh tone areas here. It's certainly going to be a valuable tool. So let's get over here and look at it. Okay, so I'm looking at this in here where I started shading in here, and I'm just going to bring this sepia in here and start helping it along there. I need a little bit of help from my friend. All right, so let's try that. Right above the nipple there, let's push that up in here like that. Now I'm about 2 or 3 inches away. And what I'm trying to do is bring that dark color. I want to barely see that chest there, okay? I want it to be there, but I don't want it to be so pronounced. The contrast is too high. I'm adding. It's hard to see. You probably can't see it even going on. It's so little going on here. And I'm going to get in here and I'll push over to this edge. I'm going to get up under there like this and start connecting that arm to the boundary because it actually connects over onto it. He actually used the same color in there that he had for the background and for the red cape in there. He's actually using a very similar color. All right, so let's get in there and kind of put a little bit around that red. Right in there too. So it's soft. So go around the red. Around the red like that. Okay, and darken that. And you see me just kind of adding darkness to it slowly. I'm going real slow, and I'm looking at my reference. I'm not looking at my painting. I'm looking at my reference. So every few seconds, I'm glancing over at my reference. Okay, I'm not looking at my painting all the time. I'm looking at the reference. I don't know what's going on down there, so I'm going to abandon that. Okay, so darken. I'm just trying to darken. So let's let it run up the coast there. Run it on up a little bit. And we definitely need to put some more in here. More in here between these. I'm probably going to scratch these out because I've gotten so dark with it, right? So pause and evaluate. Definitely going darker in here. Even it out. And you know, you'll take your time and look at that reference. If you don't look at that reference, it's like you're inviting disaster. You're inviting disaster to come visit you. And if you don't want disaster to come visit you, definitely want to slow down and not do or not make mistakes. You know, keep your mistakes small. Okay, I can't say you're not going to do mistakes because I made them, but I'm not putting much paint on here. That's kind of what the whole gist of what I'm trying to say is I'm going very small moves, putting very little paint on here because I don't want my painting to suck. And it will suck if I'm not careful, okay? I'm going to model this shoulder a little bit, just a little bit with this sepia. I'm just going to round the edge like this and model it. Okay, just a little bit of color, on the shoulder, like that. A little bit of sepia on the shoulder, come up the side. Might need some yellow on the shoulder now I'm looking at it, okay? It's definitely not going to be pure white, so I'm going to put a little color on the shoulder. Just a little color, and this is so light, it is unbelievable, guys. It's not white, okay? I don't see white on the shoulder. Okay, look at it, here's the referencing. There's no white on that shoulder. There's a highlight on it, but even that highlight is not pure white. It's kind of I don't know, it's not pure white. It's kind of a muddy off-white or something. It's nice with a little green in it, actually. So what I'm trying to do is kind of work my way up and sort of just kind of gently start covering the shoulder with a little bit of color, just gently kind of adding to it slowly, maybe a little bit in there too. Okay, I see a little kind of makes the beard, I see a little spot right there, a little shadow right there, like a dimple. And over here, I see kind of a little bit of a part in his shoulder. I'm going to put a little bit on his shoulder, yeah, like that. I'm letting it run off onto the background over to this because it'll actually help that cape. So I'm letting some of it just drip. I'm not using a stencil. I'm letting it drift. I want it to be more homogeneous, okay? So I'm letting it drift over there. Okay, just gently, like to soften that up a little bit. And if you're not sure about something, don't do anything. Just leave it, okay? Like if you're not sure if you should add more paint, don't add more paint. Just stop. Okay, only put paint where your shirt can go. Put some right there in the neck. Okay, and then lastly, and I'll stop after this because I know you guys are tired of listening to me. I'm not trying to finish this. I'm just trying to push it toward, toward something better. I'm going to go ahead and add some on the shoulder here like this. Just tint that shoulder a bit because it's not white. Remember, not white. Let's just add some into here like that. See what I've done? I've added it to it. Now my shoulder's a little bit too sterile. So I'll think about tomorrow maybe coming in and doing some things to it. I don't want to put much on there right now though. I want to kind of just have overspray on it right now. Okay. And see, I can take advantage of the sepia and get in there and darken some of these areas in here down because they're just way too light. And just kind of get in there and start helping these deficient areas that just need all the help they can get. Okay. Freehanding it, freehanding. And it's still too light. You know, when you look at it, it's still way lighter than it needs to be. Okay. All right. So guys and girls, I think that should get us kind of to a stopping point. And I think I'm going to stop the video. And I'm going to